Not working properly. What's going on here? It's 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 not. There we go. Well, not so sure what's really happened there and why I can't get this. Hey guys, sorry, hang on a second here. This is all messed up. I don't know why. Showing my amateur hour here. Hang on, we'll get this working. No, I don't want that. I want media source. There we go.
Die Namib-woestyn lewe. Die oudste woestyn ter wêreld, die Namib, is dor, vaal, warm en dood. Totdat die ervare gidse van Bathurst Birding op die Living Desert Tour 'n wonderwêreld vol lewe vir jou oopknoop. Gaan op 'n Living Desert Tour en beleef 'n woestynparadys van lewe. Of gaan op 'n gewilde nightwalk en beleef 'n wonderwêreld van naglewe in die woestyn. Dit is 'n belewenis in Swakopmund wat jy nie moet misloop nie. Hierdie deel van die kuslyn is ook een van die mees gesogte plekke ter wêreld om voëllewe te bestudeer, met een van die grootste kormorantkolonies en vele ander gesogte hoogtepunte. Met groot wild, woestyndiertjies, insekte, voëls en geskiedenis knoop Bathurst Birding 'n wêreld oop wat jy vinnig sal liefkry. Al drie hierdie unieke toere vertrek direk vanaf Atlantic Villa. Besoek hulle webtuiste en bespreek vandag nog jou plek by Atlantic Villa. atlanticvilla.com.
Well, team, welcome back. This is Chris with Indaba Africa. Hey, let's see who's there. Jacques, HBM Air, Kyle, Anthony. Welcome, Anthony. Matthew Finlayson, and Graham. Hey, well, I'm well. Thanks, guys. I hope this is a little better time for folks to tune in for my live stream. So it's 6 p.m. in South Africa and in Botswana. Just a ghost. There he is. Love that. That's good stuff. Yeah. Hey, so yeah, sorry about that. I haven't quite figured out how to stop that video source coming in. That's just, there was an advert for Atlantic Villa, which is something that Giselle promotes. Those of you who watch my stream and my channel know that I'm promoting South African businesses and companies, artists, in an effort to help the economy there, particularly minority-owned businesses, but I'm not restricted to minority-owned businesses. I'm happy to support majority businesses if they have an interest, but I don't have a lot of contacts in majority-owned companies in Botswana or in South Africa. But nonetheless, right now, I'm promoting Giselle, a Namibian singer who performs folk music, country music, and also pop music in Afrikaans. She sings country music in English as well. Quite an amazing performer. She grew up in Grootfontein in Namibia and also in the Northern Cape for a bit. She currently lives in Pretoria. And her manager is Johan Eisel, who's South Africa's premier magician and illusionist, the guy who made the four-tracker monument famously disappear. Yeah, so that's Giselle. That's the video there. I'm waiting for a production video from them to advertise her new album, Films Mensa, which is coming out. Hoping to see that. Kyle, I saw the article, but I didn't have a chance to read the Burundi article that you sent me. I will check on that. I was looking at the middle of the night, so it's a bit of a challenge. The eyes don't adjust very well at that hour. Yeah, so Giselle is just one of the things I'm trying to promote here to make, hey, Kempton Park, right by OR Tambo you are, Anthony. Well, welcome on the channel. Glad to have you here. Glad you could tune in. I hope that you find it interesting and something of use to you during this COVID-19 lockdown. Folks, some folks have a lot of time in their hand, and so many YouTubers, especially in South Africa, have been putting up a lot of time on air with live streams, and I'm doing the same. My stream covers South Africa, but it's not a South Africa specific channel. Indaba Africa is about Africa, or Chris Wyatt Africa is about Africa and the U.S. and geostrategic, geopolitical issues. Yeah, as I was saying, so different things I'm trying to promote. So this here is from Johan Orton. I showed his photographs the last couple of days. Good evening, Drian. Heman, welcome. Well, there's my Saturday guest right there, Heman Roos, a tobacco farmer in South Africa, a man who chose to work in one of the most difficult things you possibly could, tobacco farming. So we'll talk to Heman on Saturday on my live stream. So there's a photograph from Johan Orton. He's a sports photographer who covers rugby and cricket, among other things, based in South Africa. Johan and I have known each other for a couple of years through LinkedIn, and then we linked up at the Rugby World Cup in Japan. in Toyota City. A couple occasions we linked, and Johan takes some amazing photographs. This is a recent photograph from him out capturing humanitarian assistance or charitable donations for those in need in the midst of the Wuhan coronavirus COVID-19 lockdown insanity under the ANC's National Coronavirus Command Council body that's running South Africa. I started to say ruining South Africa. Perhaps that's true. Graham, my daughter lives in Johannesburg. Can't wait to visit her and my beautiful grandchildren. Going to go as soon as you can. Well, that'd be awesome, Graham. I'm sure that you're looking forward to that. I know a number of South Africans, friends and colleagues of mine, who are actually separated from their family as a consequence of the lockdown. Also, those who might be going through difficult family circumstances right now, and not just in South Africa, but also Botswana and Zimbabwe, places with still having significant lockdowns. People going through a divorce, custody of children, or people who are divorced, a couple can't see their children because they're located in different places. You can't travel between provinces. Really heartbreaking, difficult. But Johan Orton's photography is amazing. Like I said, he's normally dedicated to sports, but with the lockdown, he's been out taking photographs of what's happening, and he takes amazing photographs. I hope that you like that. Look him up, Johan Orton. He's a South African and does an amazing job with his photography. If you're looking for images of the Rugby World Cup 2019, he does have those, and I think he sells some of those if anyone wants to buy them. Truly amazing photos. You've probably seen his photographs if you read the papers or read websites, because a lot of his photos for rugby appear in popular media, as he's been hired by different news outlets to take photographs. So that's Johan. And then here, one more thing I did want to show. For those of you who are paying close attention, if you look above me in the image right there, you'll see a caricature of me at the Rugby World Cup in Japan in 2019 with my Springboks jersey on and my Japanese bandana on my head, waving my Springboks flag proudly at Toyota City. I'm not so sure how I managed it, but I'm the very large man there, as I'm taller than Toyota City Stadium. But then that is the point of a character, isn't it? And that character comes to you from Shink Art, which is located in Bloemfontein. And Shink has a photo studio in which they do photos for weddings and other professional photographs in their photo studio, family portraits and such. And they also do caricatures and amazing characters. And there I am yet again with some more of their images in the background. I'm in good company with Shink, as I understand it. I've seen images they've done for Siya Kolisi, which was pretty cool. And also Joe Black, for those who follow Joe Black. Yeah. Bring you up that terug. Yeah, that's Joe Black. Joe Black, before he shaved his beard off in the midst of the COVID-19 crisis. For those paying attention, Joe Black shaved his beard off. While the rest of us are on strike with our razors during Wuhan coronavirus lockdowns, Joe Black actually shaved his beard off, and he looks quite different. I think it was a bit shocking for a number of his fans. I'm a huge fan of Joe Black, so it was a bit of a surprise for me. So while I'm going the other way, looking like Father Christmas, Joe Black is starting to look like much younger than he appeared with that pretty scruffy looking black beard he had until recently. But Shink Art does these characters quite amazing. You can find them at shink.co.za. By the way, folks, this is free advertising. I hope it doesn't annoy you. If you're bothered by it, please let me know. But I'm trying to help South African businesses that I'm familiar with and know. Try to keep their businesses going and let other folks know about them. Some businesses could do so much better if only people knew about them. And so that's part of what I'm trying to do here. So I hope that that doesn't offend folks or bother you, or you tune out because I'm doing advertising. Not getting paid for it. Maybe one day I'll charge people for it, but certainly not in the midst of this. This is just an effort to try to help folks in South Africa get by in the midst of things. Well, listen, I haven't talked about the statistics for COVID-19 in a while, so let me just run through some of these numbers so we can talk about it. It's been like a week or so, maybe longer, since I ran through a list of numbers, but I just want to do it for comparison's sake. Also, because we're kind of weary of COVID-19, right? And people are tired of hearing about it, and who actually goes and checks the Worldometer every hour to see how many more cases there are? By the way, there are now over 5 million confirmed cases of Wuhan coronavirus around the planet, and there you go, 330,000 plus deaths attributed to the virus, still wildly trailing malaria, which kills 620,000 people every year, or suicides, 800,000, or HIV AIDS, which is the approximate cause of 900,000 fatalities around the globe each and every year, or even tuberculosis with 1.5 million fatalities each and every year. Wuhan coronavirus down below 350,000 still after 6 months. Now, it's likely to see considerably more deaths attributed to it, but nonetheless, we didn't stop the world for tuberculosis, for malaria, or for HIV/AIDS. So let's talk about some of these numbers, folks. Here, so South Africa now has over 18,000 confirmed cases of the COVID-19 virus, with 339 fatalities. Tragically, including news announced today that a neonatal child, a 2-day-old child, died from COVID-19. I didn't dig into that story. It was just kind of sad to read about that. But did the child contract COVID-19 in vitro, in the womb? Excuse me. Was it? How do you die in 2 days from it? That's astounding. There's an incubation period longer than 2 days, so it must have been something that can be transmitted while the child is still in the mother. That's a little disturbing if this is the case. A 2-day-old child. South Africa, 18,003 cases, well out in front of the rest of Africa, and a statistic you don't want to be touting. Egypt, which was running neck and neck with South Africa for the past several weeks as cases increased, now trails with 14,229 confirmed cases and 680 fatalities, which is the largest number on the continent, I believe, to date. Morocco with 7,133, 194 fatalities. Algeria with 7,542 confirmed cases with 568 fatalities. And those, as you see, are 3 North African countries that have large numbers. Tunisia is much further down with just about 1,500 cases, but Morocco, Algeria, and Egypt carrying the bulk of the cases in North Africa, and for that matter, much of Africa. Then Nigeria comes with 6,677 cases, 200 fatalities. Ghana with 6,269 cases, 31 fatalities. So let's shift a little bit to, hey, who's that? Rousseau. Well, welcome. Tercia, good to see you. Oh, your mom was 87. Well, happy birthday to your mom. Oh, and she's an old age home. Gosh, I hope they're taking good procedures there. Tea party with some friends. It would have been great to see you. Yeah, it would have been, Tercia. This is tough, especially for the elderly. Social isolation is not something that's healthy for anyone, but especially people who are not as able to get around. The one thing they normally do have in normal times is the ability to interact with others. It's a bit frustrating. So happy belated birthday to your mother, Tercia. Congratulations to your mom. Please pass along my greetings. She doesn't know who I am, but nonetheless, tell her somebody in America is thinking of her, okay? Appreciate that. Happy to hear she had an 87th birthday. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, so let's shift to Southern Africa and compare things. So I mentioned South Africa, over 18,000 confirmed cases. The next highest number is remarkably lower than that in the region. That's Zambia, with just 832 cases and 7 fatalities. Then comes Madagascar at 371 with 2 fatalities. Of course, remember, famously, Madagascar is a country where President Rajoelina, I think his name is touting a cure. They claim they have a herbal cure for COVID-19. And 20 African countries apparently have agreed to work with them and buy this, yet we have no scientific data to prove its efficacy. There are trials apparently starting, but we have no evidence of it. Yet the media dismisses hydroxychloroquine, which is a 5-decade-old proven prescription drug that does help with lupus, and it also is used primarily for fighting malaria or preventing malaria. And I've taken it for decades in Africa and never gotten malaria thus far, thank goodness, in part from taking that medication. Yet nonetheless, because Donald Trump had the audacity to suggest that a French study which showed efficacy in giving it to people in the early stages of COVID-19 back in February, because Trump mentioned it, suddenly it's a toxic, dangerous drug that can only be prescribed in hospitals, and it's witch science, witch doctors, utter nonsense. Yeah, but Madagascar's cure is a cure, apparently, according to 20 African countries who are willing to buy into it. I'm not trying to diss Madagascar. There's great importance in taking a look at traditional cures and looking at things that could do this, that come from nature. I mean, if you look at the Cape region, you'll find all sorts of fynbos plants that are out there that have fantastic potential for medicinal products. I'm not talking about COVID-19. I'm just saying in general for medical cures and medical treatments for ailments. So we shouldn't dismiss things that come from nature. Absolutely not. But to automatically just jump and go, woo, this is the cure because some president in some country said it was. But wait a second. I sound like I'm talking about Donald Trump. Yeah, except that Donald Trump was talking about scientific data from scientific studies, case studies with data to back it up on a proven drug. There's a difference. Funny how Trump touting it is treated like some nut job, lunatic, crazy, desperate, and he's just talking about science. But they can't square the fact that he talks about science because Orange Man Bad doesn't believe in science, right? Okay, anyway, but Madagascar may be onto something, but we have no evidence of it. So hopefully, with the support of these other countries, they can find out if there's actually any veracity to their claims that they have a cure, not treatment. They say they have a cure. So we shall see. Anyway, Madagascar 371, Mauritius 332, and with 10 fatalities. Eswatini, the e-commerce capital of Southern Africa. Well, I guess they've been knocked off now since they can't be since South Africa has e-commerce once again. But Eswatini with 217 cases with 2 fatalities. Malawi 71 with 3 fatalities. Angola 52 with 3. Zimbabwe 48 cases, 4 fatalities. Botswana at 29 now. They picked up 4 new infections a couple of days ago with 1 fatality, and that was, of course, a person who died before they even knew they had the virus. Keep that in mind. So there have been no fatalities since the virus was first identified in Botswana a few weeks ago. Namibia still at 16 confirmed cases. Good for Namibia, with 0 fatalities. Of course, we don't really know the accurate figure for any of these countries, including the U.S., because we haven't tested everyone, and that's not going to happen. Lesotho with 1 case and 0 fatalities thus far. This was someone who came back into the country illegally when they opened their borders, which is funny because Lesotho is landlocked and their borders are surrounded by South Africa, which has closed its borders. So how do you enter Lesotho? You can't do it legally, even if the border's open. Pretty funny stuff there. And let's see what else. There are research that proves cases with complications with the heart not to be taken for COVID. Think he's a bit scared and desperate. Who's scared? In Trump, Tercia, or Madagascar? Who's scared? Yeah, well, they're you can't just take in this country. You can't just take hydroxychloroquine. You have to have a physician's prescription. That's always been the case. And if you don't have one of there are a few underlying conditions that it's not safe to take the drug because it can exacerbate it. But the fact that it affects less than 1% or a fraction of 1% of the people, or maybe a few percent of the people who can't take the drug, doesn't mean that if a scientific medical study shows that it has efficacy, that we should simply ignore it because Donald Trump talked about it. Yeah, that's just crazy talk. But that's the world we live in. We don't deal in facts. We deal in hyperbole and supposition and race baiting and all kinds of name calling in this world. So again, for those who don't know, I'm not a major fan of Donald Trump, although I support a lot of his policies. But when hydroxychloroquine came out, I read about it from the French releasing their report. It was preliminary and it was early, and the numbers were small, but it was promising for those first infected. I'm not touting any cure or any treatment or palliative care. I'm just suggesting that it's ironic how the media treats different things. We've got countries in Africa running around touting Madagascar's cure without ever having tasted it, tried it, seen the results of it, or done a test. Yet the media dismisses something that comes from now a number of different studies have been taking place. And many countries around the world are issuing hydroxychloroquine, and hundreds of thousands of physicians are doing it to their patients the moment they test positive for COVID-19. Not advocating for it, just saying. But I will tell you this, I have hydroxychloroquine in my house from my most recent visit to tropical Africa. And should I become sick, I have no problem with taking it myself. I do not encourage anyone else to do that. I have a prescription and I have no underlying conditions which will affect me. And if I were going back to a tropical area today, which normally I would probably be doing through my consulting business, but because of COVID-19, it can't go anywhere, I would be taking that medication anyway. So if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm willing to take that chance for myself. Yep. Let's see. So, Tercia is talking about Trump. Yeah, I don't think Trump's scared. Trump doesn't seem scared of much of anything. He's crass. He's a bore. He likes to be a bully, but I don't really think he's scared. Or maybe it's just a big front. But if it's a big front, it's pretty successful. He's been doing it for over 50 years, getting away with it. Anthony says, have you heard about the story that nicotine can actually kill the virus? Yeah, Anthony, I've heard all sorts of things, but I need to see some scientific data. One of the things they found, surprisingly, in a few different places like China, but then I don't believe much of what comes out of China these days, but not just China, a few other locations. I think France was another place where they studied this, is that smokers, those who took nicotine in, were having lower rates or not lower rates, but we're suffering less and recovering quicker from the virus. I don't know. I would encourage people to smoke. It's a desperate trade-off. Let's see. Kyle says Big Daddy Liberty was pretty teed off about the journalist that escaped for asylum in Lesotho. Yeah, I didn't hear what he's teed off about, but I watched his stream a little while ago, and yeah, he was teed off about something in his car, and now he's going to go around the country and travel over, trying to take the word to Black South Africans to stop being hoodwinked by the narrative. That's interesting. We shall see. Tercia says we have to be patient until they develop a shot. Well, I'm with you, Tercia, but when you say patient, how do you mean by patient? Do we stay in lockdown and watch everyone starve? I don't think that's what you mean, but I'm just asking. I'm sure that's not what you mean. Because we don't have a vaccine for HIV or West Nile virus or Lassa fever or hantavirus or Marburg, Ebola. Shall I continue? None of those things have virus or vaccines, so there's no shot for that. This isn't measles, mumps, or rubella. It isn't yellow fever, where we develop vaccines successfully. So we may or may not have a vaccine anytime now. We do have flu vaccines, but the RNA changes so rapidly that each year we have to look for the most widely dispersed strain early on and develop something against it. And sometimes the flu vaccine has efficacy, sometimes it has less, sometimes it has virtually no efficacy. I mean, I've had the flu vaccine as a serving officer in the military every year for the past 30 years or so, however long they've been doing this thing. And I've gotten the flu on more than one occasion, even though I've gotten the vaccine, because I probably caught a different strand of it. It only protects you against a specific one that it's targeted against. So we can't hold out hope for a vaccine from my perspective. It'd be great if we get one. We'll see. Anton, hey, how are you doing today? Well, I'm okay. I thought I'd try a noontime here for me, 6 p.m. in South Africa. If this were a normal day, for the 70% of the employable in South Africa who would be working. Oh, wait, no, it's COVID-19. So now 90% of South Africans aren't working. We don't know the figure, but it's a lot. Certainly over 70% of South Africans aren't working right now, and people are home. But if this were a normal time, people would be back from work, and maybe they want to turn on the TV or their streaming device in the background, or leave their mobile on and listen to this while they're making dinner or relaxing or just looking around. So I thought this might be a good time to try it. So like I said, I've been trying my streams at different times. It's the middle of the day for me, so in the midst of Wuhan coronavirus, it's not a big deal. I would just be out exercising or doing some yard work, so I don't mind doing it this time. Azioba, hey Azioba, do I pronounce that correctly? Because I think Ronaldo gets it correctly. Azioba. How is the rest of Africa doing at the moment, particularly Central and West Africa, who have experience with Ebola? Those are very good questions, Azioba. So I mentioned only one country in West, or a couple countries in West Africa, Nigeria, which has approaching 7,000 confirmed cases now, but that's out of a population of 200 million folks. So keep that in perspective. 200 million. And if you compare Nigeria, say, to the United States, 330 million people, Nigeria 200 million people, they have 6,600 cases. We have 1.3 million cases. Big difference there. So if you look at it that way, Nigeria, just in the sheer numbers, must be doing far better than the U.S. is doing at this moment. Liberia, Senegal is doing quite well. Ghana, there's an article today in The Guardian from an African journalist who complains about the negative narrative in Africa. And that was one of the things I want to talk about here for news events, and maybe I'll get to it in a little bit. But she puts up Ghana as a case that's doing quite well. But Ghana has 24 million people, something like that. And Ghana has 6,269 cases. So it has nearly as many cases as Nigeria, and it has about an eighth of the population of Nigeria. I don't consider that to be a major success story. It's interesting, I did a video, if you had a chance to see it, that premiered this morning. It was middle of the night for me, but I stayed up for it. So I premiered a video on Taiwan, which is not Africa, folks. I do cover other geopolitical things, even though most of Azioba, okay, I got it correct. Good to go. I don't like to get people's names. Hey, Blues Pixie, welcome. I do other coverage, but lately I've been focusing so much on Southern Africa because it's my first love in Africa, and South Africa because so many of my subscribers of late have come from South Africa. So I want to make sure I'm delivering content that's of interest for everybody. But anyway, last night I felt compelled because I was just kind of triggered and angry about the World Health Organization, which pretends to care about world health. It doesn't. If it did, then it would abandon its political nonsense in the midst of the Wuhan coronavirus. How do you exclude countries around the world from participating in the World Health Assembly in a 2-day virtual meeting where they weren't even physically showing up so that they can share what they've learned and how they have developed best practices? And specifically, I'm talking about Taiwan. Taiwan has just over 443 cases, I think it is, and just 7 fatalities 6 months into this, and they're just a stone's throw from China, the folks who brought us Wuhan coronavirus. Yeah. How is it that they're doing so well? And why is it that they're excluded from the World Health Assembly? If the World Health Organization cares about world health, then they should be having those folks up. Wouldn't you think, folks? Just something I'm saying here. So anyway, I'm just doing a little housekeeping here to make sure I don't lose my connection because my stream was running in the background on mute. Anyway, I don't want to get a jam there. So anyway, yeah, a little frustrating there. West Africa, the Ebola was the question. There's contact tracing systems have been put in place in West Africa, particularly in Nigeria, in Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Liberia. The system in Liberia is the efficacy is pretty good, community-based reporting, but their medical systems are abysmal. I lived in Liberia, absolutely abysmal. But nonetheless, their experience with Ebola in the Mono River region has been helpful in having a quick response to this because it was a slow burn with Ebola. It took about 9 months, 10 months before people started really paying attention to the Mono River region. By then, it was a disaster. So yeah, that experience has helped them. But also a little known fact is that the U.S. Africa Command, when it was first formed under a naval officer named Eric Treat, who worked in Stuttgart, put together a program or executed a program called the Pandemic Response Program. And we used money from the Department of Defense to host conferences around Africa and around the world, like in Rome and Bangkok, but also in Africa, for civilian medical professionals from ministries of health and public health officers, as well as military, to develop pandemic response programs in countries across Africa. Effective contact tracing, all the things you're hearing, the language terminology. This was something in 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010 that U.S. Africa Command was doing for Africa and Africans. And one of the things I've given Nigeria a lot of credit for early on in the Ebola crisis is that they responded very quickly. They have a very professional and competent medical system for a country that has a lot of problems. It might surprise people, but they limited the spread of Ebola by isolating, quarantining people, and doing contact tracing very effectively in Nigeria. And only a handful of people came down with Ebola. I think it's 20 some or something like that. And it was very effective. Now, we can't take credit for that. That's the Nigerians who executed that. But that concept, that idea was something driven by an effort that was started by U.S. Africa Command. So there, yes, I'm not exactly an unbiased observer. I was involved in that, and I know the impact of it. But nonetheless, it's something that, Chinese get credit because Jack Ma, a billionaire, hands out masks and personal protective equipment in countries in Africa. Yay! Thank you, Jack Ma. Appreciate that. In the meantime, the United States, through its Department of Defense, did something over a decade ago, well in advance of this, that is having a very positive effect, and nobody knows about it. That's all right. We don't do it for the glory. That's what people play sports for and become Hollywood celebrities or date Kim Kardashian for if they want glory and fame. Tercia said, no, the lockdown, oops, almost got off the screen there. The lockdown is so over, it is stopped, or we'll all die of hunger. Yeah, hunger, suicide, social, mental wellness, health, is just all kinds of problems. The isolation is not good. Blues Pixie is something about nicotine occupying the same receptors. Yeah, I've heard of Blues Pixie. That's very possible. It's very plausible, but folks got to get us the data. Testing in Gauteng is way behind Western Cape, creating a false perception that we have fewer cases. Tercia, absolutely right. That is true. And the whole thing, from my perspective, is very annoying because there's all kinds of false perspectives, including, for instance, the fact that people are losing their minds over this when 80% of people still, we're finding out, are asymptomatic. And when they do general population studies and find people with antibodies to it, they find out that so many more people are affected. I've always said that I suspect that we have at least 10 times as many confirmed cases in this country as what's reported, if not more. It's like influenza. We don't test 35 million people for influenza each year, but this year the Centers for Disease Control projected that 35 million Americans would have influenza and 22,000 would die from it. That's based off of modeling. It turns out to be pretty accurate. They have a long history with doing influenza, but they don't have one with COVID-19, and its lethality is still in question, although it's very low compared to what they first told us. Anyway, yeah, excuse me. So the WHO not inviting Taiwan may prove their approach. Yes, Tercia, it does prove their bent for China. But more shamefully, just like the situation where the ANC is arresting people who are giving charitable donations and food to others, that situation, just like that, I mean, think about this, ladies and gentlemen. The World Health Organization is ostensibly there to help folks overcome medical issues, global health issues. Yet they are excluding, I'm making myself a little bigger there, hope you guys don't mind that, usually I keep it small. Yet they're excluding Taiwan from it, a country. Now, the disease doesn't know boundaries and state borders and countries. It just goes where it goes. The virus goes wherever it can latch onto, and the RNA can find its way through your nostrils or other opening in your mouth or your eyes, or however it gets in. And it does that. And it doesn't pay any attention to customs and immigration or geopolitical constraints or the one China policy. It doesn't care. So why would you exclude a country from this? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It's just absolutely insane. It beggars imagination. Unless, of course, you put it in the context of kowtowing to Beijing. And that's what the World Health Organization is doing by keeping now, you have to be a member of the World Health Organization and a member of the United Nations in order to go to the World Health Assembly as a state. But you can be invited as an outside party, particularly in a virtual conference. It's shameful. Shameful. They'd rather see people die and ignore it. Also, they roll up the statistics from Taiwan into China, which distorts things too. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Um, People in China are now on an uprising against the CCP, people on the street toy-toying. I haven't seen any footage of that, but I wouldn't be surprised, HBM Air. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm shocked that it hasn't happened sooner. It's been a long time since Tiananmen. Azioba says, I saw the Taiwan video. It's sad state of affairs at WHO and the UN. Does this draw parallels with the Cold War era when the Soviets influenced the policy of the US wanting to pull out? Perhaps, but there's really some nefarious stuff going on here. I've not really been a big China beater, but I'm moving in that direction because I'm just so disgusted by what's going on here. It really is frustrating. How does testing help? Well, EduTube, sorry. How does testing help? Well, testing can help because you get a better idea of actually how many people are actually getting infected by the virus, which so on Ronaldo's channel, he hasn't said it lately, but he frustrates me because he keeps talking about the death rate is 10% or the death rate is this percent. But Ronaldo is looking at the number of people who've been tested and the number of people who've died. And that's how he's drawing his conclusion. That's not accurate data, not even remotely accurate. I've made that point before, and I'm not trying to beat up Ronaldo, but the point is that if you're projecting a death rate and you're scaring the world, which has very successfully happened, the propaganda has been very successful. And I didn't call it propaganda 3 months ago, 4 months ago, because we didn't know. But now there's all sorts of data, and the perpetuation of misleading information by governments is shameful. So they're telling us that the fatality rate was 3.2, 3.4%, which is quite high for a virus. Not like the early days of Ebola, 90%, or even the Mono River region at 30 to 40% fatalities. Nothing like that, which is astronomically high. But 3 to 4% is quite high for a virus to kill. I mean, a virus can't survive if it kills all its host. It doesn't make any sense. That's why Ebola had to mutate or it wouldn't be around anymore. You can't kill 90% of your host and survive. There's no host left to attack. You can't live off of them. And besides, if you kill them, you can't live for a long time. It doesn't work very well. And the goal of the virus and its RNA is instructions to survive, to replicate, and produce again. Anyway, so the point about testing is that officials were telling us that rate based on the number of tests they had early on, not based on the number of people actually infected by the virus. And repeatedly, this one thing they have told us that's been true is that 80% of the people who acquire the virus, who are exposed to it and inflicted with it, 80% are asymptomatic. They never develop any symptoms of being ill, or they develop mild symptoms of being ill, mild flu, mild cough, that sort of stuff, chest congestion. They don't get hospitalized, and then they're not captured in the data. So you scare people into shutting the world down for a dangerous virus, a contagious virus, not questioning that, but you scare the world with an artificially high fatality rate to distort the pictures. Now, I'm not claiming states did that intentionally. That wasn't their intent in the beginning. I don't think it was. But by sticking to the story and not being honest and not doing actual research, now some places have done it. In South Florida, they did tests with over 8,000 people. They tested 8,000 people to do a study, and they found 6% of the adult population had antibodies to COVID-19. So there's 6% of the population in South Florida who had already been exposed to the virus, yet never got to a hospital, never sought treatment, and never were hospitalized. So the point is that if you don't test people, and I'm not saying that everyone should be tested. What I'm saying is that the more people are tested, the better, more reliable data you have. You find out you have lots of people. And when I say test, I'm not saying test for, do you have it now? You do that if someone's sick, but have you had it? And then you know. It's like, taking the TB time test. If you have the titer that you've been exposed to TB because you have the markers there. So people will know that you have been exposed to it. It's rather important from that standpoint. I hope I answered your question. Just testing. China blocking Taiwan from joining World Health must adopt China CCP before they can join. China got the upper hand. Yep, you are right, HBM. At Rousseau has asked the question, why Africa? Well, I mean, don't you guys, anybody here watch Ronaldo Ho's channel? Don't you know? It's for the petroleum. that's why my interest in Africa. Hang on. Sorry. Make myself laugh. Anyway. It's just so funny. People live in the 21st century, not my audience, folks. This isn't direct to you, but people live in the 21st century, but they have their education from the 19th century when it did matter to capture the copper mines and the gold mines and the iron mines and the tin mines and the oil sources. Yeah, it did matter. But in the 21st century, rarely is that necessary. These are fungible commodities, and normally people want to trade them in a globalized marketplace. And fortunately for us, those of us in America, oil is traded in dollars. So even if the oil isn't in America, we have a tremendous advantage over the rest of the planet. Is that fair? Nope, but that's how it is, folks. And I'm okay with that. I am an American. But yeah, so why the interest in Africa? Honestly, to answer your question here, Russo. So, as a young kid in the 1970s, I used to read what were then news magazines, actual legitimate news magazines like U.S. News and World Report, Time, Newsweek, before they became socialist leftist rags, which was they've been most of them for a long time. Newsweek has gone bankrupt. It's been brought back by leftists. It sucks just as bad as it did before. It's very opinionated and not news reporting. U.S. News and World Report disappeared. I think it came back online. I haven't seen it in years, and Time is still around out there. But anyway, they were still, in large measure, reasonable publications when I was a kid. And they would cover the liberation fight in Mozambique and Angola, and also in Southwest Africa, and then Rhodesia. And I followed these events; they were interesting to me, and they had amazing maps, well as the 1973 Yom Kippur War. They have maps, detail inside there, and I love maps and cartography. And so I was really engrossed in it in Africa, not so much in Israel, and I found it interesting. And then in 1980, while I was in high school, I read a book by James Michener called The Covenant, which is historical fiction, and it's about South Africa. For those of you who read The Covenant, you'll know it's an amazing book. Fantastic book, The Covenant. You probably get it through Exclusive online if they're selling e-commerce. Go to Exclusive. I'd say go to CNA, but I don't know if CNA is in operation because EdCon is in not bank, in business rescue. So they're CNA might be closing again. Consolidated News Agents might be going the way of the dinosaur once more. So it wouldn't be the first time it's happened to them. So Exclusive Books is probably your option in South Africa. Here in the US, you can order online from Barnes & Noble, Amazon, take your pick. Lots of different choices here. Anyway, so I read Michener's book, The Covenant, fascinated by it. And then when I was enlisted in the Army after I'd been at university for a year in the mid 80s, I followed Africa because it was in the news frequently. And then we had the famine in Ethiopia. And I read a lot about that. I learned a lot about the environment. And I just got more and more curious. But before that, I had been introduced to rugby at university. And I was like, this is a cool game. But there was no professional team. There was no national team in America, and it was only a club sport played at clubs around the country and universities. And I grew up in that, well, part of my childhood in Appalachia. We were just happy to have electricity when we had it, and roads. That was kind of good for us. So rugby wasn't something we were introduced. I played baseball and tennis in high school, and that was a bit of a challenge. That's a story for another day. Not because it wasn't good, but because of where I lived and how hard it was to get the games. But yeah, so after I was introduced to rugby at university, I wanted to follow it as a historian or an aspiring historian. I looked at history, who had the best teams around the world, and I saw that South Africa had amazing rugby history. And I had interest in South Africa because of the Covenant. And I said, I'm going to follow the Springboks. So I've been a Springboks fan since 1984, which of course came with the immediate question, what, are you a racist? What? No, I'm not a racist. I like rugby. Yeah, but they're racist. Rugby's racist? Yes. Okay, whatever. Fine. Take your political stuff elsewhere. So I became a Springboks fan then. I know the sport wasn't integrated, and that's unfortunate, but it eventually did happen, and other people had opportunities to play. And then in 1985, after I became proficient in German, I noticed that Afrikaans was very close to Dutch because of its origins there. And if you could speak German and English, you can learn Dutch. And since I wanted to understand why the National Party was pursuing still apartheid that late in the 20th century, I wanted to understand their mindset better. One thing I learned when I learned German is that you learn another language, you learn about people's mindsets, how they think, and what they're all about. It doesn't mean you're going to learn that, but you can learn that. It's much easier to understand it. And so I want to understand the mindset of the political leaders in South Africa, and I thought that if I learned Afrikaans, I might understand better and understand the Afrikaners as a people. And yeah, so I started self-teaching myself Afrikaans. And of course, the next question was, what, are you a racist? Why? Because you're learning Afrikaans. Well, let's see. The majority of people who speak it as a first language aren't even white. Not that the brown or black people can't be racist, but just trying to make a point to folks. Yeah, there are more colors who speak Afrikaans as a first language than there are white South Africans. So put that in your pipe and smoke it, those of you who can't do critical analysis and critical thinking and just default to your race baiting narrative. Yeah, I don't have much time for folks like that. Anyway, so yeah, then when I got in the Army and went back to university, and in my 2 years back at university, I focused my history classes on Africa, my political science class on Africa, and that was my major focus. So I knew starting in the mid 1980s that I wanted to come back in the Army as an officer, and I learned about something called the Foreign Area Officer Program, or FAO, and they have it regionally set up. So after you become a major, you spend a good part of your career, and then later changed once I became a major, you spend the rest of your career doing it. But back then it was part of your career as either an attaché or defense advisor or security cooperation officer or intelligence analyst or staff officer somewhere in the U.S. or abroad in your region, helping develop foreign policy, executing U.S. programs, training exercises, training, weapons sales, training sales, things like that. So I said, I want to do this for Africa. And I made that decision as a private in 1985. Well, actually, yeah, it was, no, was it 84? No, I think it was early 85. No, it was 84, 85. Anyway, I made a decision back then that I wanted to be a regular Army military intelligence and then later designated as a foreign area officer for sub-Saharan Africa, make full colonel, and serve as our defense attaché in South Africa. Well, all of that came true except the defense attaché in South Africa. And that had a lot to do with timing because there's only a handful of colonels and you go to a place for a set period of time. And if the job's not open when it's time for you to rotate, then the job's not open. And I was never on cycle. When I made full colonel, I wasn't on cycle for South Africa. And so even if they wanted to consider me for it, I couldn't have done it because I was already in a position that had to be filled. So I never got to be the defense attaché in South Africa, but I did live in Botswana right next door and was always in South Africa, frequently there. And plus, I've been there many, many times prior and since. But yeah, so regular Army, and that's a distinction rather than a reservist serving an active duty. I was a regular Army officer, and there's a limited number of them. That's changed since I came in 30 plus years ago. But regular Army, military intelligence, which is what I did, foreign area officer, sub-Saharan Africa, yep, make full colonel, did that. And then, by the way, that's very hard to do. That's not a simple thing. It's, I mean, I know that in some African militaries, you got 800 generals in some militaries and a force 8,000, but no, it's very difficult to become a colonel in the U.S. military, U.S. Army, even given its size, over 500,000. It's still difficult to become a colonel. But the thing is that, like in my career field, for instance, there are 18 colonels in the entire U.S. Army who do Africa. That's it, 18. And about half those positions are in either Stuttgart or in Africa, and the rest are back here in the States. And we provide advice and recommendations or develop programs and policies. And so, anyway, so that's how my interest in Africa grew, and it kind of stuck with me. I hope that answers your question, at Rousseau. Tracy, I have a personal experience that proves how Tang is dropping the ball as far as contracting. Oh gosh, I can only imagine. And no, COVID-19 is not racist. It's strands of RNA. That's right. Have I ever watched Project Blue Book? I have not, Anthony. What is Project Blue Book? I think someone mentioned that before. Um, okay, hang on. Whoops. Wow, this thing gets ahead of me here. Sorry. The software, it's not so great on a laptop because you have less control over the mouse for some reason. All right, so Ursula. Hey, Ursula, good to see you there. Thanks for coming in today. Health Department said today 50,000 people died in May, April. Can't remember due not to COVID-19 and over 300 deaths. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's a point I made. The state of Pennsylvania now is hiding the deaths. Yes, I said that, hiding here in Pennsylvania. They had a page in which they listed every county with the number of confirmed cases and then the number of deaths. Now, just a few days ago, I noticed that I no longer can find the deaths there. Originally, it was a 3-column report with confirmed cases, fatalities, and then those tested. They added later on. Then they took those tested off and it was just confirmed cases and deaths. Now it's confirmed cases and tested. I don't care how many people have been tested. I do, but I don't care from the standpoint that, for instance, my county with 450,000 people has about 800 cases of COVID-19 after 4 months. And we have just, well, it was 14 fatalities. I think now it's 19. But I had to go to a map on an obscure page on the Pennsylvania website to find that data. They're covering it up by moving it off that page. And I don't know what their excuse is, and they didn't even mention why they edited the page. But yeah, more people are likely to have died in traffic accidents around here than from COVID-19 in these 4 months. Think about that. That's insane. South Africa, more people have been murdered than have died from COVID-19 by a wide margin, no doubt. Yeah, the world's losing its mind. And of course, they'll say, well, it's only that way because we locked down. Well, that's a counterfactual. And we can look at Taiwan's case where they have restricted people in the same fashions. They have put measures in, but they've been very effective. The efficacy is fantastic. Fantastic. And if you watch my video on Taiwan this morning, when you watch it after this, you'll see what I was talking about, comparing it to New Zealand, another island nation, a developed island nation, and Iceland, another developed island nation. Iceland, 364,000 people, New Zealand, 4.9 million people. Both have demonstrably larger numbers of confirmed cases and fatalities than Taiwan with 24 million people. Go figure. Yeah, so the reaction has not been really good. Oh, I hear that's the famous hospital there. Um, oh, series of systematic studies under. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I think that's why I heard the term Blue Book, Project Blue Book was mentioned. I did the stream with Joe Emilio, so yeah, not familiar with that. I hadn't seen it. Ursula, I already mentioned that. HBM, I think they must slowly let everyone get infected, and hopefully the body will get antibodies. Well, that's the concept of herd immunity. Enough people get it, but they don't even know if you have the antibodies, you'll be exposed to it again. I mean, if we were the Soviet Union, they would be taking people who had recovered from COVID-19 and re-exposing them to it just to test and see if they can get it again or if they actually develop the antibodies that prevents it from coming back. We're not doing that, to my knowledge, but in the Soviet state, that probably would have been something that would have been done so they had better data. Um, let's see, Tercia, the number of COVID-19 patients at Rutschuur, that's the famous hospital where Bernard did the first heart transplant. I believe, in Cape Town is doubling every 5 days, according to a doctor. The hospital will not be able to cope unless something is done. Well, that was the whole point behind flattening the curve, wasn't it? It was to give our hospitals and our medical professionals and our governments time to put resources in place to prevent the run on the hospitals, which keep people from other afflictions from getting in the hospitals, and we would be just shut down. Well, yeah, so I guess we haven't flattened the curve in South Africa. And look at the numbers now, we're at 18,000. Yes, HBM Air, I'm still looking for oil, according to Ronaldo anyway. I told him it's platinum, and I found it. It's in the Northwest. You know, you go from Rustenburg to Pretoria to about Brits, you'll find all the platinum you need. Anyway, yeah, must protect the sick and elderly. Yes, Ursula, I agree with you. The people at risk and those with underlying conditions like HIV, tuberculosis, lupus, cancer, asthma, an underlying condition which compromises your immune system already, puts you at far greater risk. In fact, the overwhelming majority of people who've died from this virus have been people who had an underlying condition, and that has contributed to it. So there you go. I need a haircut. Yes, I do. This is my COVID-19. It's not bed hair. It's just look at that. But hey, guys. Okay, remember, I served 36 and a half years on active duty in the Army, and my hair was always really short and close, you know. So, um, yeah, so some of this is just a little bit of letting my hair down, sort of thing. So, yeah, I do need a haircut, but the barbers are closed. You can't go there. Social distancing. They've been shut down on pain of imprisonment and arrest. So that's not happening. But I do need a haircut, and I do need to shave my beard. But right now, I'm just keeping it because it's a protest, I guess. There's a documentary of some African country that tested a bunch of things in this country. Yeah, that was in Tanzania. The Tanzanian government was angry because test kits that were donated by Jack Ma, apparently, if I got the story correct, these test kits coming from China, they used them to test, and they were convinced that they were accurate. So they started testing them on things like pawpaw fruits and mangoes and other things, and they got positive test results. So they kind of dismissed the test, and we were angry about the test that they got. Hey, folks, got a number of folks tuning in here. Thanks a lot for joining. If you just come in this stream, this is Chris with Indaba Africa. This is a channel devoted to Africa and the U.S. and geopolitical issues, strategic issues, and we cover everything you want to talk about, from healthcare to mining to exploration to politics, security, any of those things. I'm a retired U.S. Army colonel, retired in October 2019, 36 years service. And I spent 23 of those years overseas, 3 tours in Germany, 1 in Italy, also stationed in Tunisia, Liberia, Botswana, Malawi, Niger, Mauritania, Uganda, and Ethiopia. Those are places I was stationed. I lived in those places. I also have been to over 40 African countries for work purposes and a few others for holiday. Yeah, I've worked in all sorts of fields: peacekeeping, counterterrorism, professional military education, HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis, malaria, Ebola research, many different things. I'm not a healthcare professional. I was an intelligence officer by affectation and a regional specialist for Africa, but I dealt with all those programs or ran many of those programs in a leadership role. So there you go. So this is Indaba Africa. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Chris Wyatt, and I'm here in central Pennsylvania in Dillsburg. My last assignment in the Army was as the director of the U.S. Army War College, the director of African Studies there, and I retired in October, and this is where I'm at for now. Since I can't go anywhere, I can't travel with the restrictions in place. If I could get on a plane, I'd probably be the only one on there. It'd be wonderful. You could stretch out and take all the seats. But anyway, so I do this channel since February. It was something I had long planned for a number of years. But of course, serving as an active officer, I couldn't express views or comment on a lot of things. One of the things you can't do as a serving officer is prescribe policy. I can't be in uniform saying the government should be doing this, the army should be doing this. That's not your place. That's for civilian leadership to make that decision. Now, once you receive a mission, you make those decisions inside the military. But I couldn't do something like this where I prescribe policy or I point out the shortcomings of others. Others, I'm talking about governments, not individuals, folks. Although we talk about individuals sometimes too. Yeah, so that's what this channel is all about. I hope that you find it interesting. If you're not a member, listen, please feel free to subscribe. By the way, it's absolutely free, certainly for the moment. Push down here, so push that subscription button right there. Be sure to toggle that bell icon so you get notifications. I have a regularly scheduled, for now, live stream every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here in the US, 5 p.m. in Botswana and South Africa. And that stream is usually with a guest. And so most recently, I had the former director of DynCorp, a defense contractor who worked for me in Liberia when we rebuilt the Armed Forces of Liberia, Jeff Rodriguez. That was my first interview on a Saturday with a guest. After that, I followed that up with Evans Larrabee. Evans Larrabee is a small-scale commercial farmer based in Ghana. And we talked about the struggles and difficulty with land tenure and land rights in Ghana. People think it's just in South Africa and Southern Africa. It's not. It's the world over in many countries. So Evans and I talked about that, plus the challenges of COVID-19, financing, extension services, what it's like to be a commercial farmer in Ghana. I thought it was a fascinating discussion. You can find it on my past live streams. Followed that up with a discussion with Ovigwe Egu, who's a Nigerian security analyst. And we talked about security in Nigeria, not just what you'd expect, Boko Haram and the Niger Delta oil bunkering and things like that and piracy. No, we also talked about the herders and pastoralist conflict in northern Nigeria. We talked about also issues like not repatriation, remittances, and how important that is to the economy of Nigeria from people who are abroad to send money back home, and when it isn't there, and what problems it causes. We also talked about medical diplomacy and things like that. So that was on Nigeria. And then the one I did after that, I was going to have a sheep herder, or urban sheep herder from the Netherlands come on the program, but it didn't work out. We might do that on a future stream. In lieu of that, Joe Emilio, an American comedian based in South Africa, in part because he has South African heritage, came on my program and we talked for about an hour and a half. I thought it was an interesting and entertaining time. I will have on this Saturday Herman Roos, who I think is still in the chat. Herman, if you're there, just give us a little heads up or thumbs up. Herman Roos is a tobacco farmer based in South Africa, and he's going to talk to us Saturday about the challenges of tobacco farming. Hopefully the rewards of it, if he finds it rewarding. He's not just beating his head against his fence post all the time. We're going to talk about that Saturday at 11 o'clock here in the U.S. and on the East Coast, and 5 o'clock in South Africa. So please join us on Saturday with Herman Roos. Some of you may have seen him on Renegade Report. He was on there last week. So hopefully we'll talk about something a little bit different. We'll see how it goes. That's this Saturday. Now, for those who are familiar with him, I have a special feature tomorrow, the 22nd of May, Friday night at 8 p.m. South Africa time, 2 p.m. here. I will have Willem Petzer on my program. For those of you familiar with Willem, he's a young man who has done a lot to try to raise awareness of farm murders and the attacks on Afrikaans culture and the Afrikaans language in South Africa, among other things. And so I will actually go on Willem's channel, if you subscribe to that, at 6 p.m. South Africa time, and he'll talk to me and sort of an interview, learn about me. And then I will go, or he will come on my program at 8 p.m., and I'll do the same for him. Anyway, so Willem Petzer tomorrow, that's a special feature, live stream here on Chris Wide Africa, or Indaba Africa. And that's the two that are coming up. So tomorrow and Saturday, 2 live streams that are scheduled. And both of those are listed on my website. So you can check those out, folks. I'm falling behind in questions, so let me catch up here. Martin says, hey, Martin, these days people don't want to be tested in South Africa, and the ANC might throw you in a confinement camp if you test. Yeah, think about the stigma tied to this stuff. Here in the U.S., they have people like Dr. Fauci talking about, well, before we let people travel around the country and attend events, they're going to have a test. Or they're going to have to be vaccinated. If they've been vaccinated, we don't have a vaccine, of course, but they've been vaccinated, then they'll be allowed to travel. So you're going to say, if I don't have a vaccine or I don't produce evidence that I've had a vaccination, that I lose my civil liberties. On the basis of what exactly, Dr. Fauci? And I know the man's 80. He's a very accomplished physician, has done some tremendous things in his life, but he needs to stop zolling. He's rolling those papers. He got the saliva on it in his office. And he's having an out-of-body experience, because that is nonsense. That's utter cock. That is stigmatization that's going to occur from that. So we don't need that nonsense. We fought this stuff in HIV. We need to fight again. My haircut again. Okay. Just a ghost can talk English, but not. Oh yeah, the lockdown mop. That's what it is. Yeah, yeah. It's a lockdown mop. That's what I've got going here. Hey guys, listen. I'm 55. This is all my hair. Look how thick this stuff is. Not boasting, just saying thank you, mom and dad, whoever gave me the DNA, and thank you, Chernobyl, that the radiation that I received from that, and the 27th of April, 1986, when I was in the Alps, and it was the third hardest hit region in the world after the Chernobyl vicinity, Scandinavia, then the Alps, because the altitude, I was irradiated thanks to Chernobyl. Fortunately, it didn't affect the hair, at least not yet. Anyway, who knows what I look like inside? There you go. Strong-headed woman. They need to split the dead from the yeah. Okay. Yep. Okay. What's with the hippie chicks? Oh, you guys are talking about hippies all of a sudden. All right, let me skip. Blues Pixie, I've got to find strong-headed. Oh, you guys are on the hipsy. Anytime my girlfriend and I are enjoying watching your channel as we're busy in the kitchen getting ready for dinner. She's also a new fan. Hey, well, Anton, well, thanks for your girlfriend joining. I hope she's subscribed and isn't just a fan. Please have her subscribe to the channel. I'm not obsessed with subscribers. I'm actually, if you think about it objectively, it's kind of impressive. The number of people have migrated to the channel and subscribed in just a few months. Because this isn't, I'm not making silly videos about, my cats and my dogs or, jumping off a skateboard, which seem to get a million people subscribed to those things. No, these are videos about serious issues that people are talking about and that affect people and really matter. And so, you don't always get everybody that wants to hear that sort of thing. So I'm happy with the subscriber base. I'm glad it's growing. I encourage more people to come, share it with your friends, your foes, your enemies. Please do that. I'm happy to have more people come to the channel. But the real reason is that I really believe in discourse. And if there's an issue or a topic, you should talk about it. Not shout at each other. We can do that. That can always happen. But really, that's what the channel's about. So I'm glad that your girlfriend is a fan. As long as she's a subscriber, let's make sure of that. Calgary, but monkey fit into Anton is Ekunui. Okay, you're talking to Anton, not to me. Okay, and let me see. Get back down here. You guys are all switching off for Cosme now. Sticky chicken. Oh, that's what you're having. Okay. Hey, Bismarck Bear. Welcome. There's my ranger buddy. I see him. Sonia. Hey, Sonia. Hey, good to see you there. Ursula saying hi. Jessica van der Rickbag. Jessica van der Rickbag. What's your thoughts on Agenda 21? Chris, have you heard the new song where Ronaldo's playing? Are you talking about Too Legit, Anthony? Too Legit in Afrikaans? That rocks. That's amazing. I have to be honest though. I had a hard time. The colored ladies Afrikaans. I listen intently with the music. So Ronaldo, after our stream on Monday, which was supposed to be the Sunday when we talked about EWC, when I appeared on his program, I was talking about it. I said, I love it, but I'm having a hard time picking all the words out. I get some of it, white, police. So he translated all the words from the ladies, and so now I get it. And I understand a lot better. I've forgotten some of them, but at least I get the gist of what's going on. I thought I understood, but I really understand a bit better. Yeah. Oh no, it's Ronaldo anyway, Anthony. It's REN, so not that's that soccer player. No, but Ronaldo. Yeah. And then Jessica, Agenda 21. Which Agenda 21? There's a couple different Agenda 21s. There's the U.S. There's folks in the U.S. having Agenda 21. Please help me out. Be more specific, and I'll try to answer it. Okay, so let's see. I think I've caught up with the chat questions now. That took me a while to do. Thank you all so much for that input. Thanks for tuning in and for being here. Again, I hope that you find this interesting. By the way, for those new to the channel or those just popping in or aren't subscribed, if you're unaware, aside from my lockdown mop, which is I guess a mild strike or a protest against COVID-19 lockdown, aside from that, when you tune into my show, what you will see is a few things. So let me explain some of the elements of what's going on here. So it's just, what's this? When I do a stream, always on a prepared video, but now almost always with a live video stream, I wear a rugby jersey. I have lots of rugby jerseys. I'm a Springboks fan first and foremost. But I wear rugby jerseys. I buy them for every team I visit, and so I have lots of them. This is the Irish national team, the Irish Rugby Football Union from the 2019 World Cup in Japan. It's the road jersey. It's kind of cool, kind of hard to see the pattern there. It's these little green spots there. It's pretty cool. I really liked it. I got this one. And behind me on the master board there, you will see a rugby scarf, and this is from Yokohama at the 2019 World Cup, and the game I went to between Ireland and Scotland, which Ireland won. Yeah. And then Japan famously won that pool. They won all 4 games, beating Ireland and Scotland. The Brave Blossoms put on an amazing performance at the Rugby World Cup in front of a home audience. It was amazing. It was the only team I didn't get to see was Japan. I saw the other 19 teams in the 17 games that I went to. I was supposed to go to 18 games, but a typhoon wiped out one. So rugby jersey, rugby scarf on the back. On the other side, this is kente cloth from one of my students at the Army War College before I retired. It's a gift. I have a large collection of kente cloth, which I bought for my trips to Ghana. And so that's what you see behind me. On the wallpaper for the scene that you see for the broadcast here, that is Oliphant's Neck in Northwest, just to the west of Rustenburg. And this is the road, the motorway coming up. If you're looking out the driver's side on the right-hand side of the road, to the left would be the exit to go to the Royal Bafokeng Stadium. And to the right is that beautiful mountainside ridge line in the Mahalisburg. It's gorgeous, fantastic place. If you've never been there, you ever get up that way, you'll know what I'm talking about when you see it. Those who are from the region know exactly what I'm talking about. It's quite a beautiful sight. And you come up a rise as you drive parallel to this. So that's out your right-hand side. You come up a rise to go up the hill, and then you descend down a long hill. On the right-hand side is the Waterfalls Shopping Mall. On the left-hand side is the road that goes into Rustenburg itself. If you turn right and don't go into the Waterfalls Mall, just keep going straight, you drive into the Mahalisburg, which is an amazing place, folks. The Mahalisburg is amazing. If you've never been to Mahalisburg, you got to go. The Cradle of Humankind is there, the place where they found hominids from a long time ago, including the most recent find of the Homo naledi. Naledi, of course, being a Swana word for, or Setswana and Swana word for star of Africa. So Homo naledi, and you'll find lots of other early hominids there in a fantastic museum. That's where the Sterkfontein caves are. It's amazing. Anyway, you can also go quad bike riding, you can go ballooning, you can go horseback riding. There's tons of things to do in the Mahalisburg. It is one of the oldest geologic places on the planet. I think it's the second oldest geologic place behind a place in Australia, which is even older. So phenomenal. And there have been humans or human-like people living in that region for a long time. Check it out, folks. Go there. If you're near Joburg, it's not that far to drive over to check out the Cradle of Humankind. Brilliant place to go to. Brilliant place. Have you done the Appalachian Trail before, Chris? Yes, I have, Kyle. In fact, the Appalachian Trail is only about 8 kilometers from my house, 5 miles. Yeah, about 5 miles, about halfway to Carlisle. I can look out of this town, this little dorp here, or dorp, as you guys have said Afrikaans, so those who speak Afrikaans, but this dorp. And I have a ridge line from the Appalachians that comes up, and it trails off and ends just before Dilsburg. So we have a mountain in the background that runs sort of west-southwest from here. And then if I drive to the west towards Carlisle, you pass the Appalachian Trail, which runs over that ridgeline at one point. And the trail actually goes across all of the roads that I drive to and from Carlisle. And there's places to park there and get out and walk. So I've walked on the trail there, but that's kind of boring compared to, say, North Carolina. I've been on the Appalachian Trail in North Carolina, past where the Cherokees live in North Carolina, driven up into the mountains, parked my car and walked along the Appalachian Trail. Stunning, beautiful. Appalachian Trail is amazing. I've never walked the whole length of it, and I don't know if I'll ever do that. It's kind of like the Comrades. It sounds like a cool thing to do, but then you realize it's an ultra marathon, and that sucks unless you're an ultra marathoner, so you never do the Comrades. Anyway, but yeah, the Appalachian Trail absolutely have done it. Sonia says she ordered online for the first time 2 pizzas for supper tonight. Awesome. Who'd you get it from, Sonia? Did you get it from Romans? Is Romans open? Or is this Pizza Express or something like that? I know it can take up 6 months to hike the trail. Yeah, it can take a long time. Great show, guys. Well, thanks. It's great chat in here. By the way, thank you all for the chat. Oh, Debonaires. Okay. Oh, you're already ahead there. Debonaires. Yeah, I used to like Debonaires, and then I had Romans. I was like, nope, never having Debonaires again. I love Romans. A lot of rugby jerseys. I sure do. I have a lot of rugby jerseys. Excuse me. Debonair suck big time. Yeah, I agree. ICE. Hey, ICE, did you hear about the news on business tech? State-owned enterprise getting financial support is announced by public enterprises. SAA getting funding. What? I did not see that. Is that fake news, ICE? SAA getting funding? That's. I got to look into that. Debonair's okay. Yeah, Debonair's does have good subs. I'll give you that, Kyle. That's good. Let's see. My son played for the Bulls under 18. Oh, awesome! Really cool. So did the under 18s play at Loftus, or did they play on some other pitch? I never know. I'm just curious about the attitude. That'd be cool. Awesome. Yeah. Well, it is the Bulls. So no, I'm just kidding. Actually, with Jake White running the Bulls now, I'm kind of excited for the Bulls, even though I'm a Stormers fan. We will see what happens. Lions. Oh, come on, the Lions. Let's see. Tercia says, have you been to Tsitkama and the Garden Coast? In KZN, are we talking about? If you're talking about KZN, I've only been part of that drive up from Durban. Hadn't got far enough up. I haven't really seen the beautiful places. I've only seen them in photographs. I'd love to check it out. Kung Fu Kenny, good evening, good morning, depending on your time zone. Absolutely right, Kung Fu Kenny. Good evening for folks in South Africa. It's now after 7 p.m. Thanks for tuning in. Glad that you're with me. Folks here in the States, mid-afternoon here for us. Sort of sunshine here, at least in this part of central Pennsylvania. So much for that hurricane that hasn't appeared. It hasn't manifested. Promising rain for days, and it hasn't rained. It's sprinkled. We haven't got any real rain, almost like being in South Africa, parts of South Africa. I had to go out and water the lawn so it wouldn't die on me. Let's see. Lots of fast food joints charge a 48 Rand delivery charge. Ow, that sucks. That sucks. They're taking advantage of things. A breakdown for SAS, Common, SA Express, and Danelle. Well, I'll have to check that out. I didn't see that. I looked for news earlier on South Africa before I went on the stream. I didn't really have a lot of news in South Africa. Western Cape. Kyle says, I don't know what to say. Oh, okay. Hit that like button. Yeah, please, folks, smash the like button, please. Even if you don't like it, gosh bless it. If you I've got a frog in my throat here. I'm starting to sound like Roman. If you just find the discussion interesting or it raises questions, or even if you disagree, smash the like button. Appreciate it. Okay. All right. So now let me read the news, folks. I got to take a drink of the Starbucks because I've got frog here. Okay. So listen, ICE is, was it ICE? Who sent me that? Who said that? Come on. Where'd it go? It was ICE. ICE said that article in Business Tech. I'm getting triggered now. So I'm going to need my Hemsbach therapy animal to calm me down because I'm getting triggered that someone might give SAA more money. So this is my Hemsbach therapy animal. This is a made in Africa product, ladies and gentlemen. Made in Africa. There you go. Anyway, so that's when I get triggered. Yeah, I'm triggered if in fact they're going to give money to SAA. That's insane. All right, let me run through the news here really quickly. All right, so 39 million people are jobless in the United States today as a consequence of the Wuhan coronavirus. In the last 9 weeks, 39 million. Now, the number of people thrown out of work this week declined, and it has been on decline for the last few weeks. 39 million people. There aren't that many people in Canada, ladies and gentlemen. There aren't that many people in Australia and New Zealand. That's over half the population of South Africa. It's 2/3 the population of South Africa. 39 million jobs gone in the world's most dynamic, largest, and most prosperous economy as a consequence of government action. Government action. That's right, I said government action, not the virus. What's doing more harm? Government hysteria or the virus? The virus, no doubt, is dangerous and deadly for some. Also, NASA and SpaceX have teamed up, and on May 27th, for those who want to tune in, there will be a launch. For the first time since 2011, NASA will be sending astronauts into space from the United States. We don't need the Russians this time. We're actually sending people into space with a SpaceX rocket. So, okay. Now, in German, we say ich drücke die Daumen. Those aren't really thumbs, so they taught you press the thumb, so you cross your fingers. So let's cross our fingers and hope things go well with SpaceX and NASA's launch on May 27th from Florida, Cape Canaveral. Should be fascinating for those of you interested in space travel and space exploration. And no, it has nothing to do with the U.S. Space Force. Those curious about U.S. Space Force, go to the Joe Show, Joe Emilio's channel. Joe is an American comedian based in South Africa with South African heritage. That's why he's there, not just an illegal immigrant to your country. So Joe and I talked about U.S. Space Force yesterday on his stream, so check that out. But this is about NASA, and a bunch of chats coming in now. Let's see what else is going on. Someone should send you some Stumpies. No Stumpies, Anton. Starbucks, man. Starbucks. Stumpies is from Parmalat. That's an Italian brand. Why would I support that? No, I'm just kidding. L Brands, which is the owner of Victoria's Secret, and for those you know that in South Africa and in Africa and around the world in Europe, and Bath and Body Works, which is an American business that sells soaps and things like that, and perfumes and things, many things like that. L Brands, which was the Limited, where it came from. Leslie Wexner was the founder of the Limited, based in Columbus, Ohio. L Brands will close 250 Victoria's Secret stores and 50 Bath and Body Works stores. Gone. Coronavirus is hurting. A journalist who works for The Guardian called Afua Hirsch wrote an article complaining about the negative attention cast on Africa, on everything in general. It's something that happens. Some other African journalists and public affairs people tend to complain about this all the time, the negative impression of Africa that's prevalent in the media. And she complains about the negative or pessimistic narrative on Africa and gives two cases in Africa about success stories fighting COVID-19. Senegal, I would agree with her comments, and I'm going to make a video about this later. I agree with that. But she also says Ghana is successful. I would disagree with that when you compare it to other places, like, for instance, Taiwan, a similar sized country with a fraction of Ghana's cases. Anyway, and then she also gives some very generous descriptions as to why they're having success. For instance, she talks about a test that Senegal is developing as if it exists and that's the reason they've had success. No, it's just hope. It's smoke and mirrors. Anyway, I'll talk about that in another video. Now, on to the news that I'm very excited about, ladies and gentlemen. Pieter-Steph du Toit has committed to stay in South Africa. Now, I kind of feel bad for the guy because he's probably, going to make no money. Rugby players don't make much money in South Africa compared to, say, Europe or Japan. But he has agreed to stay after initially deciding he was going to go abroad, it appeared, by not responding within the window, so he became a free agent. But he has committed to the Stormers. Yes. So Pieter-Steph du Toit will be staying in South Africa to play his rugby in the year 2037 when the lockdown is lifted, when the ANC finally wakes up and lets people go back to doing things. Sarcasm. Right, so Pieter-Steph du Toit is staying. Yes, the World Rugby Player of the Year for 2019 on the William Webb Ellis Trophy Championship Springboks from South Africa. Pieter-Steph du Toit, a soft-spoken giant, an amazing player. What a lot. Pieter-Steph du Toit will be staying with the Stormers in Western Province. Yes. In addition, this is interesting. Jake White, I guess he decided he wasn't going to re-sign him, but the Stormers have signed away Warwick Holland from the Bulls. So Warwick Holland will no longer be with the Bulls. He will be playing, the fullback from the Bulls will be playing with the Stormers if they ever get back to playing. And in more rugby news, this is a few days ago, earlier last week, Kurtley Beale, the Wallaby star, has signed with Racing 92, the French club. So he's taking big bucks and leaving Australia for greener pastures in France. Can't blame him. Many others have been there before him, including Brian Habana, and made lots of money in Europe. So good for them. And then World Rugby has decided that you can no longer get a try. I was looking for a rugby ball. I usually have one here, but I don't. But you can no longer get a try by touching the goalpost. The barriers that are put up around the post so that people don't get injured become larger. In some cases, some teams move them around so that you can't touch them. So they've decided that you can no longer cross the try line and be awarded a try for having touched the post, the protective part of the post. Now you actually have to cross and touch the ground, not the post. So if you touch the post, it won't be a try unless the ball is also touching the ground. So this is done in the interest of safety by World Rugby. We'll see if it makes a difference. And in news that really, truly excites me, because I am not a fan, Agustin Pichot, the Argentinian player who had 71 caps for the Pumas, Agustin Pichot, whom I've written many things in opposition to on LinkedIn about his positions about how he wanted to change the game of rugby in World Rugby. He's resigned from World Rugby because he didn't win against Bill Beaumont in the election to be the CEO of World Rugby. So he resigned. He wanted that post and he didn't get it despite having backing from Sanzar and America's Rugby. He also resigned his post from Argentinian Rugby and from America's Rugby. And I say to the man, good luck in your future endeavors, but good riddance, and thank you for leaving America's Rugby and also especially for leaving World Rugby, because your plan to create an exclusive league in which you claim will make the game grow, it only guarantees that the Six Nations and the traditional rugby nations in the Southern Hemisphere get into it without even having to qualify. And then others, just a handful of other teams around the country could qualify and could be relegated each and every year, was an old boys club in a different pair of boots. That's all it was. So Agustin Pichot, so long. Good luck to you, my friend. I'm sure you'll do well somewhere. You're a very talented rugby player, and you have some interesting ideas, but I am adamantly opposed to what you want to do. By the same token, Sir Bill Beaumont, whom I've met in Japan, you need to change World Rugby too. It's got some serious problems, not the least of which is its funding business model. It doesn't work. Too many rugby unions are on the verge of collapse, and World Rugby is not doing enough to resolve that. Also, you need to do something, World Rugby, to ensure that the traditional rugby nations play the minnows. It's disgraceful that the only time that Namibia plays a top rugby club, rugby team, rugby nation is in the World Cup. That's unacceptable. Why isn't Georgia invited to join the Six Nations? They're a very talented national side, and they've performed very well in Rugby World Cups. And they have many talented players who play for teams in Europe, and they could be playing for the Georgian national side. Anyway, just leave it at that. So Augustin Pichot is out. And for those who care, I don't, but I'll share this just the same. For those who care, I don't give a flying flip. Lori Loughlin, the former star of Full House, famously paid a whole lot of money to get her daughter into a school and was caught in that scandal. She's taken a plea deal and pled guilty to charges. She'll apparently get like 2 months in prison. Of course, it's COVID-19. She's in California, so she'll serve all of, wait for it, 5 minutes in the jail. That's right. Yes, Lori Loughlin has 2 months of jail time. I think it was $150,000 or $250,000 fine, so many hours of community service, and 2 years of basically being on parole. Yeah, I don't care. I don't care. I do care that rich celebrities like Lori Loughlin and elites, whether they're in the Republican Democratic Party, the Tories, the SPD, the CDU, the ANC, the EFF, these elites who decide for us how the world's going to be and how the rules do not apply to them. I'm a little sick of that. Nothing wrong with being elite, as long as you're an elite, it does not let that go to your head and you contribute back to humanity and make a difference, create jobs, make people's lives better, and don't be in it simply for your own enrichment. Nothing wrong with being enriched. Everybody should have an opportunity to make money. Feel free, folks, go out there and make money legitimately, legally. Don't abuse others. There you go. So I don't care about Lori Loughlin, but I thought I'd bring it up because I thought people might be interested. Lori Loughlin gets about as much attention from me as Kim Kardashian. Actually, Kim gets a little more attention, but not much. So what have I missed here? Let me go back and check some of the streams, but that's just a highlight of some of the news taking place today. HBM Air says he loves SpaceX and Tesla, great company, and the boss is South African. Yep, Elon Musk is a South African, but thank you, South Africa, for your abysmal business climate and your lack of opportunity for people with drive, ambition, and great ideas. We profit from it, and he's come to America. So thank you, South Africa and the ANC. Yeah. Anyway, there you go. Oh, I missed something back here. Kung Fu Kenny says, we're currently going through one of the worst droughts in Nelson Mandela Bay, but it's mainly the government that does not maintain the plumbing and dams. Well, Kung Fu Kenny, in the midst of the Cape Town water crisis a couple of years ago, I was a prolific writer, publishing news events that were being online and refuting or disputing and providing data and giving analysis on what was really going on. The problem with Western Cape is not there isn't water, and it wasn't climate change, which is attributed to. Yeah, maybe climate change contributes to it in some respects with lower reduced rainfall, but enough water was falling in the region if water was managed properly. And also, people don't keep things in perspective. There were about 500,000 or 600,000 people in Cape Town a century ago, and now there's 4.5 million people there, 10 times as many people living in Cape Town as a century ago. And now the consumption of water is much higher too because of modern living, the way we do things, wash machines, those who have them, that sort of thing. The problem in the Western Cape is the management of water, and it is a problem that was created by the National Party, the DA, and the ANC, all of which have held responsibility for governance of that city and that region over the past 2 or 3 decades, which is when the problem is amassed. The poor maintenance of plumbing, the pipes that leak, the water lost that way, the absence of a gray water reusage program. Like, for instance, you recycle wastewater so you can water lawns instead of using fresh, clean water that's been treated. And also the tragedy of the commons in places like the Cape Flats where there's a community tap and people just leave it running and walk away, all the water wasted. And you just add all these things up. There is enough water, even in the midst of the recent drought in Cape Town. I'm not as well informed on the situation in the Eastern Cape, although I know it's a serious problem. I suspect it's similar. So thanks for that input, and I'll maybe take a look at that. But the Cape Town, I repeatedly refuted the arguments about it. And it was just insane how it was all climate change, all climate change. No, it's human activity and it's misuse, abuse, and a lack of infrastructure maintenance and a lack of vision on the part of city authorities, provincial authorities, and national authorities for 4 decades, not just today. It's everybody's fault, including the DA. They're at fault too. Right. Too bad good people don't. Okay. I says it's ironic because, as Roman so often says, the NC tells us what they want to do 1st of May, Pravin, the DPE, told us they want a new journey for South Africa restructure, yet people don't listen. Yeah, no, it's no secret. They're telling you what they're going to do. Kung Fu Kenny says, oh, you already read that, sorry. Will we ever go back to the moon? I know there's an issue with the space. Tommy Kutsia, welcome there. Good to see you here. Yes, we will go back to the moon. NASA has a program to go back to the moon. George Bush reinstituted that, and then Barack Obama suspended it, and now it's back on the table. But we may not be the next ones on the moon. We being Americans, that is. The Chinese are likely to beat us to the moon. The Chinese have planned for building a lunar base on the dark side of the moon and taking advantage of the vast quantities of water that are actually on the lunar surface and under it, which came as a bit of a surprise to scientists and astronomers who thought there was no water on the moon, but there is a lot of water on the moon, as it turns out. And it can be used to create energy and also for human habitation. So we shall see. But the Chinese are likely to build a lunar base on the moon before we get there. Odds are, the way things are going, we might get to Mars before we get back to the moon. But we will get back to the moon, and we will build a base eventually. Maybe Space Force Forward will be there. We'll see. But we will get back to the moon. Just a matter of time, folks. We hope the economy can recover fast. Everyone here is a Ronaldo fan. Yeah, I think pretty much everyone here is a Ronaldo fan. I don't think anybody's got any beef with Ronaldo. I'm a fan. Although he's not the first South African YouTuber that I became aware of or listened to, which is interesting. Have I seen that South Africa is part of the biggest helium producers now, 2%? I found this out recently in Carte Blanche, currently some of the highest percentage. Yeah, helium is kind of rare. It's hard to come by, as I understand it. I'm not surprised South Africa is. I mean, because of the geologic strata and the structure of South Africa, it doesn't surprise me that you find all sorts of interesting things there. Be dead by then. The curry industry, I think, is going to boom in SA. Yeah, probably. Or Roman fan. Yeah, Russo. Yeah, I think. Yeah, but there's interesting. There's a number of people who are Roman fans that don't like Ronaldo. They think he's too profane or he's full of himself. And I think there's less people that are Ronaldo fans that dislike Roman, although there's a few. There seem to be more, based on when I listen to the chat, more Ronaldo, I don't want to say haters, but more people who don't like Ronaldo on Roman's channel than people on Ronaldo's channel who dislike Roman. Anyway, I'm not sure. But I think everybody has the universal opinion of loving life. We'll see. What's the great news, Skulk? What did I say that was great news? What did I miss? Please elaborate. I'm sorry. Did I say something or somebody else say something that's great news? Kyle says it's really sad that there's so much fake news out there. There is. Last night, a whole bunch of stuff came across saying that the governor of Minnesota banned singing in churches. And people started running with that. Well, okay, wait. First off, how can you even legally do that? Second, how could you possibly enforce it? Third, he's already banned churches from meeting, so why would he ban singing? Because they can't even meet. It just didn't pass the common sense test. But people ran with it. People get excited. Look, we all get hoodwinked by news now and then. I heard it and my blood boiled instantly, but then I took a moment, took a breath, I took a sip of an iced tea or something like that, whatever I was drinking last night, and I went and did a little research and found out it was just utter nonsense. Yeah. I think another good example of that would be, say, the social media stories of the tanks that were in Cape Town. No, this was 2016 video footage of piranhas coming from Switzerland, apparently. I thought they came from South Africa, from Paramount, but maybe they don't make them there. But sold by Switzerland, Moag piranhas sold to Botswana in 2016. Yet somebody posted it and acted as if it was today. Yeah, that's why it's tough. If you're an IT professional and you get how to use and manipulate data, you can check the metadata and you can check stamps on things on your own and say, wait a second, this was produced 4 years ago. This isn't real. So yeah, fake news, fake media. But our governments produce it too, and they never apologize for for the fake media they put out there and the misleading things that they tell us. It's really, really a shame. Tercia, we are entering winter here, and snow over Lesotho and the Western Cape Mountains is predicted. Rugby time. Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you there. It just jumped ahead of me. Okay, there we go. Yeah, rugby time. It is time for rugby. I hope we get it back. For those who haven't heard, New Zealand, the 5 teams in New Zealand that are part of Super Rugby will be starting rugby again in June. They've already started practicing. I saw photographs of I think the Hurricanes out practicing. Empty stadium, of course, because practice is empty anyway. But they will be playing in front of empty stadiums, I believe. But the 5 teams will be playing 10 games, and they'll have their own Super Rugby season going forward. I assume that the games they've already played won't count. I'm not sure. And I don't know if this means the end of Sanzar and the dissolution of Super Rugby. That's not what they're saying, but I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen because the New Zealanders have been playing this funny game, the New Zealand Rugby Union, working within a wealthy American company to do something different with their rugby franchises. They might even leave World Rugby. That's a discussion. Create a whole new rugby league, a rugby organization, not rugby league. Yeah, so we'll see what happens with that. But whatever the case, I'm just dying to see some rugby and not watch repeats. Although I was watching Namibia and Tonga from the 2015 Rugby World Cup, a game that I was present at. I was watching it on stream earlier, so that was kind of cool to see that game. Yeah, that's a game where Jacques Burger got hit pretty hard, went out and did a head injury assessment. Yeah, and Namibia almost won. I think they lost 17-16 in the end. Really a shame. They would have had their first victory ever. I'm a Velvich's fan too, so it was kind of fun to be there. But I was at the end of the pitch, and the good news, a lot of game was played right in front of me at that end of the field, so it's kind of cool. Yeah, time for rugby to come back, folks. Long overdue. And he has legitimate sources, which is key. Who has legitimate sources? Kyle Roman's news coverage is great. Okay. Oh, okay. COVID-19 bacterial outbreak. I mean, what bacteria? COVID-19 is not a bacteria. It's a virus. It's RNA. How on earth do people fall for that? Besides, it takes 10, 15 years vaccines to go through. Yep. Oh, you guys are all talking about that. Sorry. Edu Tube said good night. Thanks for the super chat. Hey, my pleasure. Have a good evening. Well, you're off to bed early. You have a strange work schedule. It's only 7:30 in South Africa, or are you in Japan? Kung Fu Kenny says, do you think Trump will come out stronger during the next election? The person think will gather more votes. Well, after the faux impeachment over a trumped up charge, no pun intended, a trumped up charge which was baseless and distracted this country and harmed our foreign policy and our reputation and domestic policy in this country. After Trump was acquitted by the Senate, um, I was absolutely of the opinion, and even before that, I was the opinion that he was just going to romp. He was going to win 49 out of 50 states, most likely. A little embellishment, but he was certainly going to win a ton of them from the Electoral College, and he would win an outright majority of the vote when the popular vote was counted. However, the media really, really goes out of its way to obscure and confuse and change the narrative all the time. And so the lies that they've been spreading about the federal government's actions, about Trump in particular, this whole hysteria over hydroxychloroquine, which is a made up fictional narrative, and it's killing people because people are not getting the drugs because of this media intervention and even governments. My own Centers for Disease Control is saying that it's a dangerous drug that can only be administered in a hospital under a doctor's care. That's a lie. It's a prescription drug given for preventing malaria. I've taken it for years in Africa. Do I look like I died from it? No. Yes, there are people with underlying conditions that it does affect, and you can't take it. That's why it's a prescription drug. You can't walk into a pharmacy and say, "Hey, give me hydroxychloroquine like I want Tylenol or or paracetamol." It doesn't work that way. You have to have a prescription because a doctor knows your situation, whether you can take the medication safely or not. But yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with Trump now. I think it all depends on if we get out of this nonsense by the middle of July. I think middle of July is an important date. And you know what? It doesn't matter who they run on the other side because 1/3 of the country is going to vote for that idiot. The other third is going to vote for this idiot. And it's the third in the middle that matters. And you have to compete for that. I think that the third in the middle, most of them are seeing the nonsense that's going on and will make their decision later on. But I think Trump's going to win. I'm still confident he'll win. I think he'll win by a wide margin. But it's really just a crapshoot to predict because the polls are just nonsense. The way they skew the polls, they ask mostly registered Democrats rather than a broad spectrum of the population. And they concentrated in metropolitan areas, ignoring the rural vote, ignoring the peri-urban vote. Yeah, so it's most of these polls are not reliable, so I don't really know what to say about them. Bismarck. Oh, you're talking. Sorry. My mom didn't bribe anybody to get me into a tough school. I got my Ranger tab. It's my Ranger buddy there. Yeah. Well, yeah. No school fees either to go to Ranger school. By the way, folks, if you've never been to U.S. Army Ranger School, you probably aren't that interested in it. That's a tough program. I never went to Ranger School. I want to get back to Europe more importantly than I wanted to get to Ranger School, so I never competed for that slot. Infantrymen tend to just go en masse, but I was an intelligence officer and you had to compete. And in my class of, I think, 79 or 80 officers, only 3 got to go to Ranger School for that rotation. So it was tough to get. And I was more interested in going to Germany, which is what I did. And then, yeah, anyways, so it wasn't for me. And then after that, there's never an opportunity again. So it's a tough school, though. Major respect for those who complete the program. Um, Facebook loves fake news. Sure, you can. Yeah, no, Facebook. Yeah, they have fake news all the time, and then they censor real news because it doesn't agree with their position. Yeah, Facebook. Shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you. No one has been to the. HBM Air says that no one has been to the moon. Really? All right. I think it's time for my therapy pet again. Bring my Hemsbach over here. Okay, so he's triggering me here. We've not been to the moon. Well, okay. I hope that was a joke. No, I'm just kidding. I might have to pull out the big guns. There we go. Let's get him up there. There you go. So there's my Springbok. Let's see. So, Pink Floyd fans. Very off topic, but what do you think of South Park? Kyle, I'm not a big fan of South Park. I know the characters. I tried to watch it, and I just never really got into it. I tried a few times. I watched, gosh bless it, what's the other one? The Father Show. I can't remember another adult cartoon. That one I actually liked and watched for a while, but I just kind of lost interest in them. It's like The Simpsons. I never liked The Simpsons. I mean, I've seen enough of it, but I never liked The Simpsons. I like the characters outside the show and the humorous way that people use them, but I can never watch The Symptoms. It was the Symptoms, yeah, The Symptoms, yeah. COVID-19. We're watching The Symptoms tonight. No, The Simpsons never really did anything for me, and South Park didn't either. But I get it. And when people mention the names of characters, I know who they are. Some of it's funny, but it's not really my thing. Um, Interesting insight. Thank you. Well, you're welcome, Kung Fu Kenny. I'm with Big Daddy Liberty and his outrage. Yeah, I saw. It's kind of funny watching his car go off. Interesting. So I'm trying to get some more female subscribers and some female guests. If anybody can recommend, I know that I saw that Big Daddy Liberty, I think, is going to have Antia Jeffrey on. That'd be interesting. But I'd like to get some others on, so it's not just a bunch of grumpy men that are on here. Obviously, my subscribers include women, but I'm talking about when I have interviews, I'd like to get some women, some different views on here. Yeah, poking that bear, all right. Definitely poking that guy. Let's hope Trump wins. Yes, let's hold our fingers. If Trump doesn't win, I don't know what's going to happen. It'll just be a disaster. Let's see what else. You guys are talking to each other. Oh, a Ranger buddy was an engineer officer. And you went to Ranger school. Oh, okay, cool. Well, yeah, engineers, those are just infantry with, higher IQ, right? Combat engineers are infantrymen with a higher IQ. That's what I thought, right? Okay, I'm not picking on the infantry, so I don't want to hear anybody jump on me. The infantry, smart. Actually got to be smart to be an infantryman. That's people don't get that. You can't just put anybody out there. Um, Conscious Carrico, yeah, yeah. Conscious Carrico I've watched a few times. Oh, Ice is or Kyle saying to Ice in hopes that I guess Big Daddy gets monetized. Conscious Carrico and me too. Yeah, no, that's something I might do at some point. I'm not really doing it right now. Roman has a dry cough. Chris has a dry cough. We might lose our entertainment. No, no, Blues Pixie, you're fine. It's not the COVID, and it's nothing else. Just I just the way I slept and laid down last night, and just my chest is a little tight. So anyway, yeah, we'll be fine. Let's see. Tercia says, I have serious cabin fever. I want to go bush. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I am with you on that. There's nothing like the smell of a fire in the bushveld at night. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Monotonous and Florida. Yeah, there you go. What's that song? Anyone know that one? Probably got it wrong. Yes. Anyway, that's Book from Black and Rika Snell and those guys. That song is awesome. Sitting around a campfire singing that song. I love that. It's a brilliant video, and the sound is just amazing. The lyrics are fantastic. Yeah, no, I'm with you. So I did a video a couple days ago. Was it yesterday? A couple days ago. It was a couple days ago, in which I just went down to Yellow Breeches. It's a stream near here that's about 56 miles long. It's about 80 kilometers, and it's a tributary to the Susquehanna River. It's famous, world famous for its fly fishing. Went down just to tell people to decompress and do something different. I almost went out and made a video earlier today of my raspberry bushes, just to talk about my raspberry bushes. Not because I'm bored, not because I'm looking for content, but just because it's something different, just take people's minds off of stuff. So I might still do that. Maybe I'll show people a video of my horrible lawn and the work that I've got to put into it. Although I think that will become boring. It might start to be like that guy on public television who sat there and painted, and people watched his program for years as he painted. Didn't really say much, but people watched it. I know that around 90% of the YouTube audience is male, right? I don't know that it's that high. I actually had about 40% female subscribers for a long time, but then now it's skewed more to male. I didn't know it was that high. Wow. Um, if that's true, that's really high. 90%. You sure you're not talking about porn? The porn market? I said, might be the porn market now. Anyway, yeah, so Tommy Kutsia, after this lockdown, I promise I will not miss one game of rugby or say Super Rugby is boring. Thank you, Tommy. Listen, if you're in South Africa, please, when Curry Cup and Super Rugby come back, go to the games. I know it's a hassle for some people, and you also got to worry about crime and, carjacking and other nonsense in some places, but find a way to get there safely. Go to the game, support the teams. Watching a game in South Africa with like 10 people in the stadium, it's sad. It's pathetic. I mean, this is the same place where just a couple years ago, stadiums were full, absolutely full, even for boring games. There are more fans at varsity rugby competitions than there are at Super Rugby and Curry Cup a lot of the times. Newlands typically can get a decent sized audience, but 25,000 is not a decent sized audience. That's not something to crow about. 50,000, yeah, now you're talking. And that's what South Africa used to have for rugby. So please go out and do it. Harteko, that's the song. Yeah, thank you very much. That is an amazing song. Harteko, I love that song. Brilliant song. Yeah, and I just abuse it all the time with my terrible Afrikaans accent and sing it with my terrible singing voice. But and I won't torture you with that right now. Combat engineers are educated grunts. There you go. Yep, 11 Bravo enlisted. So you were an infantryman. So I did it. Make sure I didn't insult the infantryman, and you were a combat engineer officer. There you go. Brilliant. Tercia Sondela is the place to go. Bush babies and the olives around your roundabout. Well, excellent. Brilliant. Sean, hey, there you are. I didn't know you were here today. I used to guy with the 70s perm. I remember him mixing up his palette. Vihan, welcome. Just tuned in. Think I'm a bit late. It's okay. No problem, Vihan. This was a stray voltage stream again, trying to find a good sweet spot to do this for folks that works for them well. And so I decided to come on at noon my time, 6 p.m. South African and Botswana, just to talk. Cover the news. 39 million Americans out of work. It's 2/3 of South Africa's entire population. 39 million jobs lost. That's larger than Canada. That's larger than Australia. Much larger than New Zealand. 39 million. That's 2/3 of the UK's population. That's how many jobs we've lost in 9 weeks here in the United States. The unemployment rate before the most recent job losses was 15%, 14.7%. It's insane, folks. Absolutely insane. And our governments are still locking people down as businesses collapse around the country. Supply chains being disrupted. I can't buy a laptop because they aren't coming in. There's no parts for them. I can't buy a tablet. The Samsungs are gone. They're not being replaced. You can't get some meats. You can't get some foods, grains, cereals. The shelves are bare and a lot of things because the food supply chain is also disrupted because things aren't being harvested. They aren't being shipped. And this problem will continue. I did another video about this, about the disruption in the food supply chain and other things, and the knock-on effects of this, where I said the damage has been done. Now the carnage comes, and the carnage will come. Now think about cars. When people are allowed to go out and buy cars, there's going to be a rush on cars in the developed world for certain. The lots will be empty, and there'll be no cars coming in their place because manufacturers are not producing cars. So there's going to be a gap. So there'll be no deals, no specials, no good prices. The price of cars are going to go up when people are allowed to buy cars again. That's right. And then we're going to have a gap in which you can't get a car, so you have to settle for whatever you want. And it happens, that plays out across consumer products. There's no freezers here. A fridge, freezer where you store meat, you can't get those. They've been gone for weeks, and they're not being replaced because the parts aren't coming in, or the ones made in China aren't being shipped over because they're not making them. Despite the Chinese claims that they have no virus, they have lots of virus, and they have factories shut down all over China that aren't producing goods. Yeah, it's a real mess, ladies and gentlemen, a real mess. So, Peter Borga, welcome, Peter. South Africa has a looming food crisis. From your experience in Africa, what scenario do you foresee for us? Also, do you expect international intervention? Well, the challenge, Peter, with international intervention is who's going to do it. I mean, this isn't like it's just Africa that's dealing with this. It isn't like it's just one country. It's around the world. As I said, I go to the shelves here in the supermarkets, and I can see parts of the supermarket that aren't restocked. Excuse me, I really got this phlegm going here. And this is 3 months into this. I understand, I've read in the press that out in Idaho, where we grow a lot of our potatoes, that they had potatoes from the last crop that were in storage, and now they harvested the new crop, and there's nowhere to store it. So they dump in the old crop and wasting it. So when that disappears from the supply chain, guess what? Whatever the flash to bang time is, and when that stuff is harvested and packaged and shipped and delivered and disseminated and purchased, whatever that is, days, 10 days, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, whatever it is, there's going to be a gap now because there's no product to replace that. So how can the world intervene? Well, the one way the world can intervene is with debt relief. That's happening. The World Bank and IMF announced debt relief for 19 African countries back in March, and that's going to take care of several $100 million. But $700 million is a drop in the bucket. The UK donated $180 million instantly to the fund to pay back the debt, so African countries wouldn't have to pay it back, those 19. And it did not include Zimbabwe, by the way. And Japan gave $100 million. China promised $100 million, but to my knowledge hasn't delivered yet. So anyway, so that debt relief is taking place. Another way is that multilateral institutions can loan money. The World Bank just loaned $1 billion to Kenya this week, and the IMF gave them $873 million prior to that. Nigeria's got $3.4 billion loan from the World Bank, but Nigeria will lose over $30 billion in oil revenue this year as a consequence of the price of oil collapsing and demand for oil collapsing. $30 billion. And they got a $3 billion loan. So 1/10 of the money to replace that much of their economy in 1 year. It's insane. So there are only certain things the world can do for interventions. Food may become a problem for much of the world, depending how long this nonsense goes on. And when I say nonsense, I'm talking about hysterical government reaction to a virus, not the actual virus itself, which is deadly, it's contagious, and it's a serious public health issue. But it is not a situation that warrants the reactions of governments now, 6 months into this crisis. Really sorry about this. Cough's got me going there. It's not a cough, it's just I'm trying to clear my throat. So, Peter, I hope that answers the question a little bit. Maybe I didn't. But the problem is multifaceted when it comes to the food chain and when it comes to helping people. So, for instance, those who are farmers know what I'm talking about specifically. You don't just walk out in the field and pick sweet corn. You've got to plow the fields, you got to plant it, you've got to hope for rain, or you've got to irrigate it, you've got to treat insecticide, or if you're organic, you don't do it, you've got to do a lot more work. You've got to harvest it, you got to have people to harvest it. Then you've got to clean it, you've got to package it, you've got to ship it, it's got to be distributed. All that takes time. And if people aren't in the fields because they're restricted and can't work to plant maize now, or well, not now, you guys are going to the winter in Southern Africa, but I'm talking about here. If you can't plant maize now, then you won't have maize in August. If you don't harvest raspberries that are going to mature in mid-June to July because you're in lockdown, they're going to rot on the vine, and then there's no raspberries. So this is the real problem when it comes to food supply, and it plays out across all different supply chains around the globe. And this is the part that drives me nuts about governments. The people who pick raspberries, the people who plant maize, the people who slaughter livestock in abattoirs are essential services. And those folks should have been a focus for governments. Some cases they were, some cases they weren't. So anyway, that's kind of bad. ICE says 90% male audience might be lower since that data was from 2015. Yeah, I think that might be the case, ICE. But yeah, it's overwhelming. It's predominantly a male audience, but that changes over time. Kung Fu Kenny says, I hope the USA stops the aid to South Africa. Everything is looted by ANC and their commerce. Well, I think, who was it, Roman or somebody on the stream I was on yet? By the way, for those who don't know, I was on Roman yesterday on the morning shot with Jonathan Vitt and Roman. And we were on for 2 hours. So I enjoyed it. I think they enjoyed it. I know some of you were there. I hope you enjoyed it as well. And I also was on with Joe Emilio earlier in the day. And I did my own stream in the morning. So it was a long day for me yesterday. That's probably why my voice is like this today after all that. I was on air for about 6 hours yesterday total, interspersed throughout the day. Plus, I had a conference call with a former student who had questions about Africa, and I was trying to help him better understand Africa. So it was a busy day. Oh, and I didn't get paid for any of that. It's quite all right. Anyway, yeah, so the ANC looting. Yeah, I think it was Roman made the point that, or maybe it was Jonathan said, the U.S. just, gave South Africa $8.4 million, which I mentioned on my website. And he said, yeah, but, they just spent 400 million Rand for the Cuban doctors. Yeah, it was actually 454 million Rand. And we gave $8 million. So 10 times 8 is 80. That's 160. So about 150 million Rand we gave to South Africa for fighting COVID-19, but then they spent 45 million rand paying for Cuban doctors, which were wholly unnecessary in South Africa. Yeah, the NC's got its head up its fourth point of contact. Those of you who serve in uniform know what I mean when I say your fourth point of contact. Yeah, your rectum. Yeah, ANC does have its head up its rectum. The Minister of Untrade or the Minister of No Trade, Ibrahim Patel, seems to have the competence of a wet paper sack when it comes to macroeconomic issues. He really seems out of his depth, as do many ministers in South Africa's government, who seem unqualified for even the simplest of tasks. I guess I won't be getting my invitation to the ANC annual ball at Luthuli House. Sorry about that. When were you last in South Africa? Anton, I was last in South Africa in 2017, and I will return to South Africa at the first opportunity. Maybe if rugby gets going, maybe to do some consulting work, provided I can get into the country. The ANC doesn't have Durko at the airport waiting for my name on a list to say that I'm an undesirable migrant. We'll see. Each time I've been in South Africa in the last, I'd say the last 13 or 14 years has either been with a diplomatic passport or an official passport. So I was in official capacity even when I was on holiday. And the meaning behind that is if you're a diplomat assigned abroad, when you travel, you have to travel the same passport. And government authorities are supposed to not delay you in returning, even if you're on holiday, because you have official duties in the country where you're accredited. So I was in official capacity even when I was there on holiday. So I'm traveling official or diplomatic passport. Traveling with those doesn't mean that they treat you any better, but now I will be traveling on my tourist passport, and the ANC might know who I am and might not like me. It's ironic because I gave the ANC major props and credit for all the things that did well, and they did a number of things well, but the things have just gotten so bad, particularly under COVID-19, but even before that with the nonsense with EWC, the National Health Insurance Scheme, BEE continuing to deprive South Africans of their livelihoods and cost Black South Africans jobs. Yeah, that's right, Black South Africans jobs. 2/3 of all employees who work for minority-owned businesses in South Africa across the board, on average, are Black South Africans. Not colored, not Asian, not minority whites. They're Blacks. Yeah. For instance, sadly, one of the subscribers that follows my channel told me about their spouse losing their business in contracting or construction, had 18 Black employees and 2 whites, including the owner. And they're now bankrupt after having been in business since 1996 as a consequence of COVID-19 and the government's denial of emergency assistance, the money that was donated from private sources and from the government. They got nothing and they're now bankrupt. 18 Black South Africans have lost their jobs because the ANC plays race games and says that relief is only for majority-owned businesses. This conduct is shameful, it's disgraceful, it's unacceptable, and the world needs to know about it. And it needs to be told by someone that's other than the South African or white South African. It needs to be told by, say someone like Big Daddy Liberty, or perhaps someone like me who's not a South African who arguably can make the point that we're objective about this. And if you look at what I've said about the ANC in the past, you'll see that I was much fairer to them. But it's simply the time for fairness is beyond because people are dying as a consequence. Livelihoods are lost. And South Africans with any talent have left the country, leaving behind a larger and larger percentage of the population that are uneducated or uninformed, and that's a dangerous recipe for civil order. There you go. Did I hold back? Let's see. Okay, you choose it. Okay, hang on. I got away from me again. You choose a great time for live stream. Good job. Oh, okay. So HBM Air likes this time. Okay, cool. Because I do lots of them. But they're not scheduled. Ramon said something about scheduled live streams. So if you like or dislike Ronaldo, you got to give the guy credit. He's really putting a lot of energy into, for whatever reason. I think it's legitimate reasons why he's doing it, but whatever his motivation, he's doing a really good job with this lockdown live stream. So he's on twice a day in his evening one. It's consistent. People know where they continue. It's like turning on the television. You know a certain program is going to be all the time on this day, and he really has a good discussion no matter which direction he goes. Although when he plays Call of Duty, I lose interest. But that's been a while since he did that. But anyway, so it's kind of impressive what he's doing there. But thank you for saying that, HBM Air. I'm just trying to find a good time for it. But yeah, Roman was saying that he doesn't like to have scheduled live streams because he needs to be inspired or something needs to be happening. I kind of agree with that. But I do like to have at least one scheduled live stream that has a topic that people want to tune in for, and that's why I do the Saturday show now. And I do a lot of prepared videos, that way you can watch them anytime. And also, for those who don't know, let me explain this. I think most of the audience here knows this, but you can premiere a video. And when you premiere a video, messages go out to all your subscribers saying that this video will premiere at this time. And if you leave the chat function on, which I do by default, then the video premieres and people can chat. So since people can chat, I've made it an obligation on my part when I premiere a video, like I did this morning, 7:30 in South Africa or Botswana, and at 1:30 in the morning here, I premiered my video on Taiwan and the World Health Organization, World Health Assembly. The reason I did that is so I can be present to answer questions, to illuminate, or to deal with anything like that, and also thank subscribers for tuning in. But that's premiering a video, so that's not really a stream. Some people have the impression it's a stream. Like I heard someone last night on one of the videos I was watching, someone else, and they said, I can't start at the beginning, it's just in the middle. It's because it's a premiere. It's like watching an event, a pre-taped show on a television network that plays at a certain time. Once the premiere is over, then you can go back and watch it anytime you want. Anyway, so yeah, just for people so they understand that a little bit better. Once again, hey, if you've never been on my channel before, this is Chris Wyatt and Chris Wyatt Africa, or Indaba Africa, which is my consultancy that is not really doing anything right now because of Wuhan coronavirus, other than the social media presence. So welcome to my channel. Feel free to subscribe to the channel. You smash that button right down there, just above my Starbucks bottle. There you go. It's right there. Push that subscription button, and you can join our crowd here, our growing audience and growing team. And then also be sure to push the little notification icon with the bell so you get notified of my Stray Voltage live streams, which is what this is, just a topic or news events to cover, bring that up. Stray Voltage. Also, you can follow my regularly scheduled live stream on Saturdays, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time in the U.S., or 5 p.m. in South Africa, 4 o'clock in Abuja and London. And then I have prepared videos on a host of topics: intellectual property and the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, COVID-19, the South African wine industry. Speaking of which, yeah, I forgot to mention that. So tomorrow, May 22nd, folks, hashtag Spectacular South Africa. Hashtag Spectacular South Africa. South Africans are trying to get folks to open a bottle of South African wine, wherever you might be, so you can enjoy it to celebrate South African wine. This is an effort to try to keep attention focused on the wine industry, which has taken a hit with the current lockdown situation going on in South Africa. And they lost a lot of market share. Reportedly, according to the UK article I found, the South African wine industry was losing, or is losing, £1 million British pounds per day in revenue. Ouch. Yeah, that's a lot of money. I did a video on the wine industry too. But anyway, so hit that notification button. You'll find out about my videos. And then also, I ask that you smash the like button, which is on the other side there, or is it the bottom there? Just smash the like button. Even if you didn't enjoy the video, if you found it thought-provoking or challenging, even if you didn't agree with it, push the like button so that it drives viewership. I have noticed that that's a true story. The more likes I get as a percentage of views, the more frequently my video is put up on a channel when someone tunes into YouTube and go, oh, what's this over here? Let me check this out. So that's why it matters. It's important for that reason. Right. Okay, so Blues Pixie could bry on coals a week later. I once got 10 high school friends, 2 chainsaws, 2 trucks of dead trees on a farm and made it fire so big, shot ambers all over. Blues Pixie, that sounds like a math problem. I can't. 10 friends, 2 chainsaws, 2 trucks, traveling in the. No. Yikes. Okay, almost dinner time. Yeah, I'm kind of hungry too for lunch, but I gotta do some soil work here. The males watch YouTube and the women work in the home. Take Sia Khaleesi up on his challenge, then more women can watch. Oh, doing housework? Okay, gotcha. I'm disgusted with the ANC for preventing private people. Yeah, and arresting people for giving food. That's shameful, but that's what the ANC is doing. Tommy Kotsia says, I heard rumors going around that F1 is looking for tracks to host events. Cool. That'd be interesting. Hope the IMF will refuse assistance unless the ANC stops racist policies. It's unlikely that they will, Tercia. If the ANC accepts the money, it'll probably be made available to them. Yep. IMF funding available now without economic. Yeah, the strings aren't there. The standard structural adjustment strings are not part of it. That's why it's so hilarious that the ANC went out and said, we are not taking World Bank and IMF money. We have sovereignty. You are not intruding on our sovereignty. Stop it. And then a week later, please, sir. More soup, sir. Can I have more soup, please? Oh, IMF, can I have some soup? World Bank, can I have some bread, please? Yeah, anyway. Yeah, hat in hand, cap in hand. Yeah, idiots. Anyway, Peter says, oops, whoa. International intervention, if, say, the food crisis evolves into a Somalia-type scenario where warlords. Well, listen, Peter, one can make the argument now that it's very similar to warlords, except it isn't done with the same degree of force. The African National Congress government officials have been arresting private citizens in South Africa who have given charitable food donations to Black, white, and colored South Africans. arrested them for violating the lockdown rules, and or arrested them for giving away food to help other people because the government is saying that only the government can hand out the food parcels. Yeah, that's disgusting. That already is using food as a weapon. It's being done in Zimbabwe. In Zimbabwe, people have been denied food because they're not ZANU PF supporters. We have ample evidence of this from social media, from people claiming it, from photographic evidence of people taking it in Zimbabwe, and also reputable sources saying that that's been happening. And that's a shame. Will there be international intervention? We'd have to look and see how the situation develops. I find it highly implausible and unlikely that there'd be international intervention in South Africa because most of the world sees South Africa. Looks like people are leaving. I'm guessing Ronaldo came on. Most of the world sees South Africa through the eyes of 1994 with the Rainbow Nation. That's really how most of the world sees South Africa. So, Dietrich Buka. Oh, you're just good evening, Dietrich. You're just coming on or just leaving? Chris, you know more about South Africa than I do, says Peter. Well, thank you. But you had your hands up. Well, I know a lot about America too, a lot of places. I'm a historian, a political scientist, a former intelligence officer, and a regional specialist for Africa, so I better know some things. Kung Fu Kenny says he thinks he's getting old and went to fill up the coffee machine but didn't press the button thinking it was about done. Tracia says the reality of our economy is that like Zimbabwe, the ANC is preparing to throw the baby out the bathwater. Yeah, absolutely. Vihan says, do you ever watch your own videos? I do, Vihan. Actually, I do. I go back and watch my live streams to look for mistakes. I also look for unnecessary use of profanity. Not that I'm opposed to profanity, but I don't want just to be gratuitous with it, and I don't want to be inappropriate. Also, by the way, for those of you who don't know, I haven't edited any of my videos. If you see a video on here, whether it's a prepared video or it's a live stream, that's all me. So if there's a mistake there, it's on me. If I've got data wrong or a source incorrect, that's on me. I didn't go back and edit it. Why? Because I'm not really talented enough to edit my videos in YouTube Studio because it doesn't seem to want to cooperate with me when I try to use it. And I have some software, but I just haven't gotten around to it. Also, after a certain point, I realized that, you know what, it's authenticity. I'm not ashamed of anything I've said, and I've not misled, I've not abused anyone, so why would I go back and edit it? I would just be editing it for polish. Maybe if I come up with a pay service or monetize my channel at some point, I'll edit some of these things so they're more professional. But I find it kind of hokey, and I'm not complaining or commenting on other people's videos, but sometimes I find a little bit hokey when someone's talking and you get that kind of like little jump thing because they cut and splice, and sometimes it works well for effect, but sometimes like, well, okay, they took something out. What did they take out? Did they step on something? Did they step in dog poo and they didn't want to be in the video? So all of my videos are unedited for good or for bad. At least for now, that's the plan. Yeah, so that's the deal. I do watch my own videos, Vihan. Was that just a general question to see if, or were you suggesting that I do watch my videos because I'm doing something wrong? But yeah, I do watch my videos, and even the live streams. I'll put them on the background when I'm doing things. Sometimes I watch them late at night just to help fall asleep. No, just kidding. I don't fall asleep watching my own videos. Jessica Fundanik Bag. Jessica, I'm so curious about the name Fun Danik Bag. Where is Danik Bag? It must be somewhere in some mountain in the Netherlands, but I don't know any mountains in the Netherlands. But what is Danik Bag anyway? So if you don't mind, thank you for the attention you bring to the plight of South Africans. Oh, you are most welcome, Jessica. It's my pleasure. I hope that I have some influence. This is one of the reasons why I'm trying to get more subscribers, particularly outside of South Africa. And I have about half my subscribers come from elsewhere, not from South Africa. And the only reason I have half my subscribers from South Africa is because people have followed me over from Ronaldo's channel, where I've appeared a few times now, and also from Ramon's channel, and people have spread word, and other folks have come on. So I'm grateful for them joining. And if I had 1 million subscribers in South Africa, I would not complain. I'd love to have it. I love South Africans, wonderful folks of all stripes, all colors, and all creeds. Yeah, a lot of idiots too, but they're usually the ones running things, not the average guy or gal on the street. So it's my pleasure, Jessica. I hope that this does get attention. I have been raising the alarm about things for over 2 years now, the direction, ever since the ANC voted in favor of moving forward with the expropriation without compensation amendment. For me, all objectivity on the part of the ANC was clearly disingenuous. So since then, I've been really focused heavily on discussing this topic and making people aware of what's going on in South Africa. And I think I'm positioned pretty well. I also know quite a few people in many different places, and people in positions of power in some places. So I'm hoping that this does influence them as well. Kung Fu Kenny says the biggest problem is YouTube is not saying, yeah, I know, I don't get that, and I keep fiddling around with it. So, but it's not just me; it happens to a lot of folks, and I don't know why that happens. Um, um, Peter says, thanks. I second what Jessica said. Well, thank you, Peter. That's very generous of you as well. I'm trying. I'm trying. Ice says, thanks, Chris. Great stream as always. Great voice of reason. Thank you, Jessica. Peter, even considering your geographical position and our rich mineral resources. That was in reference to something we were talking about earlier, so I lost the plot there. Uh, Huawei. Oh, God. Huawei, please. What was my enlisted MOS? I was a 31 Mike, which at the time was a multi-channel communications. MOS is military occupational specialty for those not familiar with the U.S. Army. When you're an enlisted soldier, you have a designation. You're an infantryman, you're an engineer, you're an intelligence specialist, you are a signal specialist. So I was a multi-channel communications equipment operator. Sounds sexy, doesn't it? Sounds really impressive. Yeah, I was just the better dressed chimpanzee when it came down to it. Actually, it was hard and it took some technical skill, but once you mastered it, it was like, okay, do this, do that. Okay. Yeah, 31 mic, multi-channel communications operator. That's what I did. So essentially what I did is I would go to remote hilltops in central Germany, drive up on the mountain, erect a 35-foot antenna with a mast, open up the antenna, connect the coax into radios, fire up the radios. I'd have another antenna going the other direction. I would receive a signal at one frequency. It would come into my machines, and my radios, be converted out of multiplexer, go out the other side, and go elsewhere. It's kind of like being a cell phone network. It's exactly what it was, except that on each end there would be a general or a colonel or somebody who had a physical phone, what we call a landline, a portable field phone, and we hooked up the wire. They'd pick it up just like a telephone, and they push numbers, and they reach someone on the other end. And that was radio relay. It was called. We did radio relay, so it was just like a cell tower. I was a human cell tower. That's what I used to do in the Army when I was enlisted. Yep. Okay. Your videos are very good. No need for editing. Well, thank you, HBM Air. I appreciate this. Very kind of you. You guys are very generous today. What's going on? Is there like really some kind air in the world today? Not that you guys are never unkind, but thank you. It's very, very generous of you. Kung Fu Kenny says, whoops, whoa, Kung Fu Kenny says, Vihan says, I'm not trying to catch you with anything. I would watch it too. Yeah, no, I was just joking, Vihan. I was just curious. But yeah, I do watch my own stuff. Dietrich says, you certainly do not need to edit your videos with such high quality and accuracy. I certainly enjoy each one. Well, thank you. Well, that said, I haven't quite mastered some of the techniques in Streamlabs OBS or OBS. I'm using Streamlabs. I like the acronym SLOBS. That's kind of cool. So I use Streamlabs OBS to stream these things, and there's still some things I haven't quite mastered. When I first did it, I had a real trouble with bringing Skype in. My first guest, I had to do audio and run it over the PC so you could hear it over the PC. It was okay, but not having the video wasn't great, and there was something wrong with the NDI connection. And then also when I'm playing the Atlantic Villa video at the beginning, I haven't figured out how to stop it and start it when I go live. There is a setting for that, but so we had kind of a abortive, crazy start to today's video, but it wasn't so bad. But I think people appreciate that. It's human. So it's kind of cool. But anyway, so again, I'm promoting South African businesses are trying to do that. Let me see. Um, what else we got here? Faulty algorithm. I emailed YouTube about this problem. Oh, okay. Yeah, it probably is. Thank you for your service. Well, thank you, Kung Fu Kenny. Yep. Hey, well, let me go back to putting a few things up here real quick so I can promote these things, folks. So, for those of you who listen to Afrikaans music, and I hope that's a lot of folks in the crowd from South Africa, not all of them, I mean, anybody can listen to Afrikaans. Whether you speak it or not, you can listen to Afrikaans, but hopefully you listen to Afrikaans. On the May 8th, I did the world debut of Giselle's new album, Vir Ons Mense. She has an amazing song on there called Vir Ons Mense. You got to listen to it. Giselle is a Namibian artist from Grootfontein in Namibia. We have a remote location, former major South African Defense base, South African Defense Force base there. And she also lived in Northern Cape for a while. So she has a Namibian accent, which kind of throws people off. But she sings folk music, country music in English and Afrikaans, and she sings Afrikaans pop music. Fantastic. Her manager and Giselle asked if they could premiere their show or their album debut on my channel. We did that on May 8th. You can find it on my live streams. It's an hour and 3 minutes. You'll love it. Check it out. Oh, Kung Fu Kenny rewatched it. She's telling she is, man. And I've rewatched it a couple times myself. But every time I watch it, it doesn't count for the numbers because they don't count your own views, which is fine. Otherwise, somebody would sit there and just leave their computer running all day to run up their views. So yeah, please rewatch it. It's free. It's absolutely free. It's good stuff. Giselle is amazing. Combo guy, more better than a tank or a cab. Well, maybe easier. I always had electricity in the field. I could stay warm. I could heat up water in a coffee pot to take a bucket shower out of my helmet, at least till we switched to the Kevlar helmets, and then I had to use something else. But hey, oh, by the way, let me put this up before I keep talking about ads here. Let me get this out of the way. I wanted to share this with you guys. So You don't have these anymore in South Africa. I think you had them at one point, but you guys know about drive-in movie theaters. We have a drive-in movie theater here in Dillsburg called HARS, and they will be reopening this weekend. And people can drive up in their cars and go to the movies. So, in the midst of Wuhan coronavirus, this is actually an effective thing. Admission is $7 there, as you can see, for adults. But HARS Drive-In, which is a movie theater right here in Dillsburg, Pennsylvania, one of the few remaining in the United States. It's pretty cool. Yeah, blast from the past, Kung Fu Kenny, absolutely. But this place is packed every week when they have this in the summertime, spring and summertime. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think maybe I'll go out and do a news report. I'll take my camera with me and see how big a crowd shows up before it gets dark, and then talk a little bit about HARS and then post a video on here. That might be interesting to folks. But yeah, drive-in movie theaters are definitely a blast from the past, but we have a few left in America. There was one outside of Munich for years in Germany, which I've been to. I don't know if it's still around, but with Wuhan coronavirus, this is one way to maintain social isolation. Stay on the drive-in theater. Go to drive-in movies. So that's pretty cool. But again, for folks, just to remind folks, I'm trying to promote South African businesses, and this is one of the things that I'm doing here. So I just mentioned Giselle. What is that entry? $7. It's not 700, Tommy. Could see it's $7 for the movie per adult. I think it's $2 per child or something like that. But yeah. So this is Johan Orton. He's a South African sports photojournalist, and he covered the Rugby World Cup in Japan. I've known Johan for a couple of years. He's kindly sent me his photographs, so I'm highlighting them, showing them. And you can look him up online, Johan Orton. And you can find out about him. And if you're interested in his photography, he does do photography. He does amazing stuff. So that's Johan. And I've showed you the Giselle thing. And then the last thing I want to show you when it comes to, once again, to promoting South African businesses, for those unfamiliar with it, is this. And then I want to show you a cartoon, which I found hilarious. This is from Shink Art. That caricature you see of me is from the Rugby World Cup. Shink, which is based in Bloemfontein, at shink.co.za. They do a photography studio which does wedding photos and family portraits, but also very talented artists who do caricatures. They've done Sia Khaleesi, they've done Joe Black, and a number of other famous people. But Shink Art, check it out. I'm not getting any money for this, folks, and that's not what this is about. I'm just trying to promote South African businesses in the midst of the Wuhan coronavirus, and these folks have kindly allowed me to highlight what it is they do. So anyway, that little character up at the top of the screen is me. That was done by Shink Art, and I paid for that. It wasn't free, which is fine because they got to make a living. So that's just some of the stuff I'm trying to promote here. Did I show the joblessness chart? Yeah, here we go. I don't think I did this. This is joblessness in the United States right now in the midst of the Wuhan coronavirus. 39 million people unemployed in the United States in the midst of the Wuhan coronavirus COVID-19 lockdowns. Look at that. In March, when we went to a full lockdown at the end of March, shot up to like 6 million people, almost 7 million people. That's amazing. It is now dropping down, but we still have 39 million Americans who are unemployed. Absolutely insane. HBM Air says, I miss drive-in big time. We used to be there at 5 to pull out the braai. Yeah. Watch 2 movies, eat popcorn, go home. Good times. Exactly right. That's what it was. I only went to drive-ins a couple times as a kid, but I really enjoyed it. It was kind of cool. I can't imagine doing it, before COVID-19 as a normal sort of thing. I prefer to sit in the cinema with the surround sound and all that stuff, and being able to go to the bathroom without opening your car door. It's kind of cool. But yeah, in the midst of the Wuhan coronavirus, certainly that makes a lot of sense, and I would go to drive-in now potentially. Cool drawing. I remember them when I was a kid being in the newspaper, so they copied them. We could color them during school. Yeah, so that's the jobless claims in the U.S. I just thought I'd share that with you guys so you could see it. And was there something else I want to show you? Oh, yeah, here it is. Now this, I won't get in trouble for this. I don't think I will because I'm showing where it came from. This is from the Daily Maverick, and this was Zapiro. I think Roman said he didn't find Zapiro funny anymore. He's lost the plot. I haven't seen any funny ones from Zapiro in a long time, but this one was hilarious. And, of course, this is it Rodney Lamola, the Justice Minister? Minister, why are 19,000 convicts being released? Social distancing. We need to make space in our prisons for illegal joggers, surfers, mask offenders, and people ruthlessly selling and buying T-shirts unattached to a winter clothing set. Oh, dear God. Now, Zapiro's back. If he was gone, this is a hilarious cartoon. Hopefully I won't get in trouble for that, but I don't think I am because I'm commenting on and I'm giving full credit to the newspaper itself. It appeared on Daily Maverick. Anyway, so hope you guys enjoy that. Yeah, there's your Minister of Justice, Lamola, there being depicted by Zapiro. Yeah, I think Zapiro's always done a pretty good job, but I haven't seen much of him lately, so I just thought I'd highlight that one. Anyway, so yeah, again, through the highlights, I'll just run through the highlights of the news I mentioned earlier without detailing the stories. But so today, 39 million Americans are out of work in the USA after the latest jobless claims came in. NASA and SpaceX will be launching on the 27th of May, the first time since 2011 that the US based launch takes place, sending astronauts into space. We've had space launches, but for satellites and for cargo up the space station, but not for astronauts. We actually had astronauts going up on the 27th of May, so you might want to tune in for that. Sweden has come under fire by 2,000 experts who are criticizing their methodology of dealing with the Wuhan coronavirus COVID-19. And so the experts, whoever these 2,000 experts are, have come out and criticized Sweden. L Brands, the owner of Victoria's Secret and Bath and Body Works, is closing 250 Victoria's Secret locations, presumably here in the United States. I don't know if it was abroad, it wasn't listed, and 50 Bath and Body Works stores. Those are in the United States. Then a journalist for The Guardian has published a story talking about the negative perception of Africa that is persistent in the media and by commentators around the world. And great news for Western Province, for Stormers fans, Peter Steph Dutoy has decided not to go abroad and make the big money, but rather to stay with the Stormers. So really excited about that. Very, very excited. Also, the Stormers have signed Warwick Holland from the Bulls. They got their fullback. Not sure why Jake White let him go. I've seen him play. He's a talented guy, so hopefully things are going well there. And in news from Australia, the Wallaby star Kurtley Beale signed this past week with Racing 92, the French club, for the big bucks. So good for him. That's awesome. World Rugby has decided to end the process of where you can score a try by touching the pads on the goalpost. If you touch the post, you used to get a try. No longer the case. Going forward, you will have to touch the ground. Also, in news that made me quite happy, Agustin Pichot, the Argentine Puma player with 71 caps to his credit, and the deputy at World Rugby, has resigned his position at World Rugby after losing the competition for CEO with Sir Bill Beaumont. He will be moving on from World Rugby, from the Argentine Rugby Union, and from Rugby's America. I wish him good luck. I disagreed with his approach for changing rugby. I agree rugby should be changed, but not in the fashion that Mr. Pichot wants to. So good luck to him. And for those who follow celebrities, which I don't, just to make you happy, Lori Loughlin, the former star of Full House, a 1990s or 80s sitcom, which was hilarious and funny, has taken the plea deal and pled guilty to the crimes that she committed in trying to bribe her way to get her daughter into university, and would be given a jail sentence. But of course, she's in California, so she's likely to serve a microsecond of that time. In other words, she's not going to go to jail most likely because they're vacating prisons of nonviolent offenders in the midst of the coronavirus. There you go. All right. So let's see. Any questions? So, oh my God, KHM, you left the speaker on the car and drove. Did you rip? Oh my. Yeah, that's a real risk. These days it's a lot easier because they just give you a wireless device and there's no cable. It just goes in the car. I think what they do is they transmit over frequency, or you have an app or something like that, and you get it on your phone or something like that. So anyway, yeah, technology changes. Tercia loves Zapiro. Yeah, Zapiro's had some funny stuff in the past. Kung Fu Kenny says, do you think the mass amount of jobs lost will cause riots? No. Backlash towards, there's already a backlash, Kung Fu Kenny. There's a backlash all over the country from people who are angry at the U.S. government and its actions. Absolutely the case that's going on today. We've had demonstrations in multiple capitals in Virginia, in Pennsylvania, in Michigan, in Minnesota. It's happening all over the country, particularly in countries that have Democratic Party governors or Democratic mayors in major metropolitan areas. We're seeing a backlash of people demonstrating against it. The social media backlash against it's been insane. But of course, the trolls have come out defending every action governments take, whether it's legitimate or not. And so the battle continues. We shall see what happens there. Yep. SA got no more drive-ins. Oh, they're all gone. Oh, sad. Will these rules apply worldwide? Which rules are we talking about? I'm not sure. Right, folks. Okay, listen. This was a midday for me and early evening stream in South Africa for those in South Africa and Botswana who are following the channel. And I'll shout out to my friends in Botswana. I didn't really talk about Botswana today. Sorry about that. But not a lot of news coming out of Botswana. I did do a video recently talking about an op-ed that was there from a law professor at UB, University of Botswana. And I talked about his comments about the constitutionalism of what's going on under the lockdown and my comments to illuminate further what he was saying. we were largely in agreement, but I did take a few issues with that. So that was a recent video on Botswana for those who are interested. I know that someone asked me yesterday on a stream about, do I do videos in Botswana? I most definitely do videos in Botswana. I live there. I'm familiar with Botswana. I've actually had a relationship with it going back to the 1980s with Botswana, long before I lived there. Anyway, so there you have it. Let's see what else we got here. Dietrich says, I wonder if masks work, why we need to use, why do we, yeah, I've seen that question before. If masks work, why do we have to release prisoners? She will get time served at home during the shut-in. Yep, absolutely right. Yeah, that's what it is. Serve her prisoner sentence at home with the rest of us inmates, the 700 million of us that are currently locked down in our homes around the world. Lori Loughlin can serve her time that way and get credit for time served. Yeah. Anyway, for those who tuned in late to this stream or missed it or just curious about the situation, the most recent data I looked up before I came on is that South Africa currently has 18,003 confirmed cases of Wuhan coronavirus with 339 fatalities. And sadly, a 2-day-old infant has died, and that death was attributed to COVID-19, although I don't understand how fully. I'll have to do some more research on that. But nonetheless, the death of a 2-day-old child is quite sad to hear about. So that's the situation in South Africa. Across Southern Africa, the numbers are much lower. South Africa being the one standout with a large number. And despite the sycophantic press running around the world praising the efforts of the ANC government and how it's done an amazing job in response to COVID-19, apparently people starving in the streets and civil unrest and theft and domestic violence, gender-based violence, rape, incest, these are not things that concern the international media. They're only concerned about the fact that, wow, the government shut down and people shut down. Yeah, well, in the rest of Southern Africa, by comparison, South Africa's 18,003 cases. Zambia has 832 cases with 7 fatalities. Madagascar, 371 cases with 2 fatalities. Mauritius, 332 cases, 10 fatalities. Eswatini, the e-commerce capital of Southern Africa, 217 cases with 2 fatalities. Malawi, the warm heart of Africa, 71 cases, 3 fatalities. Angola, 52 cases with 3 fatalities. Zimbabwe, 48 confirmed cases with 4 fatalities. Botswana, 29 cases. They added 4 new cases yesterday or the day before, I think it was, or maybe it was today, but they just added 4 more cases after not having any for a while, and 1 fatality. Of course, the fatality in Botswana was before the country even was aware they had a single case. They tested a lady who had passed away and were able to identify that she had been infected with the virus. Namibia, good news for Namibia, just 16 confirmed cases of COVID-19 as they eased the lockdown restrictions, which is already taking place in Namibia. Kids will be going back to school pretty soon in Namibia. And the country has gotten back to business with the parks being reopened. And, well, I say back to business internally. The borders are still closed. You can't come into the country. Ships can come into port. However, they have to have been either at sea for 12 or 14 days, or they have to be quarantined for that period of time. So anyway, yeah, but Namibia, it is open for business inside Namibia, but you can't get in Namibia. And Lesotho, which finally recorded its first case recently, has 1 case and thus far no fatalities attributed to COVID-19. And that is the situation in Southern Africa. If you add all that up, that's 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, not even 2,000 cases in all of the other countries in Southern Africa. And South Africa has 18,003 cases. Yet South Africa is being held up by the world's media as a test case, a example of how to handle this crisis. I take great exception to that. I think the ANC has been heartless and callous in its conduct for this virus, and it is causing real problems for people around the world. But that's just one man's opinion. There are 9 billion of us on the planet, and probably about 7 billion of us have opinions. Some well-informed, some not. There you have it. Oh, Sean, thanks. Thanks for reminding me of that. Yes, so I have 2 live streams coming up in the next couple of days. Tomorrow, Friday, May 22nd, I will be appearing on Willem Petzer's program for a live stream in which he'll interview me at 6 p.m. South Africa time. And then at 8 p.m., we'll come onto my channel, and I will be hosting Willem on my channel where I will interview him. So it should be interesting. I've never talked to him. I've been in touch with him by electronic means. We're supposed to have a conversation this evening. But should be an interesting time. Willem is an interesting fellow. A lot of people have gone after him and tried to attribute a lot of nasty things to him. We're not really going to talk about that because I'm not really interested in that. I know it's bogus, but we're going to talk about some things he's been trying to do to promote awareness of what's happening in rural South Africa and what's happening with Afrikaans culture. So for those who want to tune in, that should be interesting. And then on Saturday, Herman Roos, who's a tobacco farmer based in South Africa, will be on my program Saturday at 5 p.m. South Africa time, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard here in the U.S. So that's 2 live streams coming up scheduled. They're both listed on my channel, and you should get notifications. If you don't, tune in at 8 o'clock South Africa, 2 p.m. U.S. East Coast tomorrow, or Saturday, 11 o'clock here, Eastern Standard Time, or 5 p.m. South Africa time for the South African one. Next week, I'm looking at potentially bringing in Komi Klu, who's an economist, a Ghanaian American economist who's currently stuck in Ghana because of COVID-19. Which is not a catastrophe. He has a place in Ghana, but he also lives in Philadelphia. We know each other from conferences. We've been together. We've traveled together and spoke at conferences such as in Vancouver at the Canada Africa Network and other things. So Komi may be my guest next week to talk about debt in Africa. That's a topic we want to do. If you guys think debt in Africa is something you want to hear about, just let me know, and we'll be happy to do that. Alicia, hey, better late than never. Glad to be part of the show. Well, thank you for coming on. Live stream with William Petzer. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on, Lisa. No problem. Actually, I'm surprised anybody's with me here. It shows that it's not just all Ronaldo fans that are here because Ronaldo's actually on now. I've run over past the top of the hour. Not that I intended to stop at that time, but Ronaldo's on live now, so I'm competing with Ronaldo, which is not my intent. But yeah, so if you guys think that's a good idea, or if you like it, let me know. But Komi Klu, who's an economist, a Ghanaian American economist, we will be talking about Africa and debt. That's the plan for next Saturday. Kung Fu Kenny says, I love the fact that the armed citizens protected their businesses and reopened. Yeah, well, I love the fact that competent people who are rational and licensed and have firearms have them. We have a reason in this country. There's a reason for the Second Amendment, and it's not what the left tells you. It's about a well-regulated militia, like we're just supposed to be in the militia. Well, we don't have militias here. We have National Guard, Reserve Component Forces, which fall under the governor of the National Guard. But the purpose of that amendment was because of recognition that the state can become oppressive, and which is what the king had become here in the colonies. And Americans had developed a national identity separate from an English United Kingdom identity, in part because we had a mix of peoples. We had lots of Germans here, we had Swedes here, we had Dutch in the United States, we had Scots-Irish, we had Irish, and then we had others. But that was the primary mix of folks back in the early days of our history when we became a republic, and the king went too far. He went too far, and he taxed us to death to pay for his wars against France in Europe, and we had enough. So we had a party, and we threw the tea into the bay. Criminal activity, by the way. The Boston Tea Party was a criminal act, and the people who did it were violating the law, and not exactly something that they teach us in school to remind us that that was criminality, but it was criminal activity. But it did lead to eventually a Declaration of Independence by the Continental Congress in 1776 on the 4th of July, which is our Independence Day. We declared our independence. Now, we weren't independent. We fought for independence from the 4th of July. It actually started in 1775 after the battles of Lexington and Concord. But in 1776, we declared independence. It wasn't until 1783 at the Peace of Paris when the Brits finally said, okay, fine, go away. You're independent. But then they tried to take us over again. Not a short time after that, when they came here and invaded America. Famously, the Brits are the only country to ever successfully invade the United States. Japan made some abortive attempts in the Aleutians, didn't go very well, and also tried to shoot at the West Coast in California from submarines and ships. And of course, they attacked Pearl Harbor, but they didn't try to invade it. But the Brits actually invaded in the War of 1812. They marched on Washington and on Baltimore, and the Maryland militia stopped them at the Battle of North Point. We defeated the Brits, and they turned around and went back. But in Washington, they burned the White House. The president's residence was burned. Famously, Dolly Madison, the spouse of the president, saved a bunch of the artwork, including the famous picture, I believe, by George Wilson Peele of George Washington, the one where it's unfinished at the bottom. I believe that was one of the worst art. She made sure it got loaded up and put onto a wagon and evacuated from the White House before the Brits came and burned it. So if we ever had any country in the world we should be angry with, it should be the United Kingdom, because they invaded us and they burned our chief head of state's residence. But we are good friends with the United Kingdom, and we have a special relationship, despite what Barack Obama claims. There is a special relationship with the United Kingdom, and it goes back a long ways. So there you go, folks. Let's see what else. Vihan says, up for the debt discussion. Thank you, Vihan. Yeah, I already talked to Komi, and I think I'm going to go ahead with it for next Saturday and set him up. You're in the financial services sector. Would be informative. Excellent. Cool. I think you might be surprised. Komi and I don't agree on everything, which is fine. That's one reason to have him come on. You don't want a sycophantic discussion. Well, this is the way it is. Yeah, I agree with you. This is what I agree with you. I agree with you. No, that gets not particularly productive. If there's legitimate reasons to talk about different views, and that's what we're going to do. My view on debt is a little different than some folks. Debt is okay as long as you can service it. But the The problem in Africa is that most governments can't service the debt that they amass. And then they use the excuse of racism and unfair colonialism and all that kinds of nonsense to guilt Western countries into forgiving their debt. We forgive their debt, and then they pile on more debt. But now they're piling on debt from, of course, domestic debt and also from China and others. And the Chinese aren't going to forgive the debt. Just ask Zambia and Djibouti about that. Anyway, that's enough on that, but I'll save that for the discussion with Comey Clue. We'll get that set up. Jessica says, new evidence has come to light that the Brits had 126 death camps for Boer women. What's new about that, Jessica? We know that at least 16,000 women and children died in concentration camps during the Boer War. Um, so, what's new about that? Is the new thing is it was 126 concentration camps? Maybe that's the new piece. I'm not sure. But yeah, no, the British conduct in the Second Boer War was reprehensible. It was atrocious, and it was shameful. And I'm being generous. What they did was absolutely bad, 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 bad. And some of that blood still exists to this day. You know, it's funny when Bok van Blerk released his Delarey song, the ANC and black nationalists lost their freaking minds. Oh, it's the surge of the the right wing. Completely missed the entire point. I'm an American, and my Afrikaans, and the song was sung in English, but my Afrikaans is not that great, but I can still read things. But how is it that I get the point of the song? The point of the song was that this was for the Afrikaans speaking South African population, particularly the white Afrikaans speaking population of South Africa, to encourage them to come together to save their culture, to protect their culture and their language because it's under assault. And it's referencing the Kakis, the Brits from the Boer War, because what happened then. It wasn't talking about the ANC, but they claimed it was the undertones of that. Utter nonsense. This was just an anthem for pride in the Afrikaner community, is what it was all about. Bok van Blerk's song Delarey was amazing, amazing, absolutely amazing song, and it was fantastic. Really, really enjoyed it. Of course, it was funny watching people lose their minds over it. Meanwhile, Julius Malema can say, "Kill the Boer, shoot the Boer," and we aren't going to kill whites yet. And he doesn't go to prison for that, even though there's restrictions on speech like that in South Africa. But Delarey's innocuous song about Afrikaner pride in a country with multiple ethnicities, multiple languages, 11 official languages, comes off as something that is threatening to the ruling party. Well, I say that if you're threatened by a song like that, then perhaps your governance is illegitimate, or you're doing something that you know is wrong, and that's why you're scared. But that's just my view. Excuse me. Bok van Blerk, thanks for this explanation. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, it was thought to be around 30, Jessica. Yeah, no, I thought the number was, but I mean, I don't have the source in front of me. I always thought that they had, well, many more than 30. But okay, but point is that you're making a point that the evidence is there are 126. I can believe it. I can absolutely believe it. If you just think about the geographic spread and the difficulty of controlling concentration camps, and all the different places where Afrikaans-speaking Boer families were located in the Transvaal and the Free State, and even in the northern part of KZN, it makes sense that there would be far more camps where they put them. Yeah, but a lot of people died. It was really tragic stuff. The world turned against the Brits because of that, and they should have. Delarey was an amazing leader. Yes, he was. It's unfortunate the way he died, shot like that in the midst of what may or may not have been an effort to be part of an insurgent thing. I don't know that he was. I think he was trying to be a voice of reason. Delarey was a great leader, and I think that's what Bok van Blerk's effort was, is to point out that we need a great leader. Absolutely, that's what's going on. Have to sort the kids. See you after midnight. Okay. Morning shot. All right. Hey, Alicia, take care. Thanks for tuning in. I'm probably going to cut it short here in just a few seconds, unless people want me to stay. I'll stay a little bit longer. But Sean says, crazy thing, the soldiers were instructed to confiscate food that was supplied by French destined for concentration camps. It was documented by the French press. That's just insane. Well, I have a scam phone call coming in. Let me cancel this out. No, thank you. From California. I know no one in California. I've distanced myself from people in California. I'm just kidding. But I have a app on my phone that lets me know if it's from a telemarketer or something like that. So apparently I had a telemarketing call coming in. Yeah, Kung Fu Kenny says he was one of the best leaders. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Yeah, and people have to understand history. You have to know history. Everything that's eventually led to the apartheid system is tied to events from the past. The National Party rose to power as a consequence of the Union of South Africa, lingering anger over the concentration camps and the conduct of the conflict that carried through generations of people. It wasn't until 1948 the National Party acceded to power, but people don't realize that one of the reasons the National Party came to power is because the political system was set up so that rural votes counted for more than urban votes. Yeah, even though a minority of people voted for the National Party in 1948, it became the party in power through representation and then set the country on the formal, legal path of apartheid. Now, there's a lot of legislation that came before that that could be considered racial or racist legislation, like the Native Lands Act of 1913, but it wasn't until 1948 that the formalized system of apartheid came into the government under the National Party. And of course, they carried it through to the late 1980s before it began to be dismantled by P.W. Botha in his waning days and his poor health, and then actually taken up fully by F.W. de Klerk. Anyway, but you have to know the history in order to understand things. And in South Africa, there's a willful attempt to rewrite history by a ruling party and to distort history by that party and by others. Um, I guess, the winners get to write history. Now, the ANC isn't a winner, they're a winner by default. I guess you can say they won because their propaganda war and their distortions of history, and because they got more votes, which is partly a result of those things. But they didn't win any conflict. That's certainly the case. MK, Mkhonto we Sizwe, was never a threat in South Africa to the government or to its continued time in power. Sloat, hey, welcome. Sloat Steenkamp is with us. Thanks for coming in. Gosh, good to see you there. See what else? Yeah, so I'm getting off track a little bit with that. Not that I was on track for anything. Vihan says, enjoy the rest of your day. Okay, Vihan, you're taking off. Have a good evening there on your end, and I'll try to enjoy the rest of my day. Alicia says, now I'm not leaving. Hubby just walked in from work, distraction. I can listen to you in peace. Okay, Alicia, is your husband a subscriber? I troll for subscribers here. Well, listen, I got to troll for something. I have no super chat. I'm not monetizing my channel, so troll for something. Subscribers is what I'll troll for. But yeah, anyway, so you can listen in peace. That's funny. Let me see if there's anything I want to point out from these news stories from earlier. So there was, China's acting up again in Hong Kong. I made a note of that earlier. That's crazy. I don't think I mentioned that here on the stream though. But China, so China wants to change the law to make it criminal for people to say derogatory things about Chinese national anthem. Not in China, but in Hong Kong. It was just a matter of time, ladies and gentlemen. This is one reason why we saw such massive migration from Hong Kong to Western Canada in the 1980s and up until 97 when China got Hong Kong formally turned over to it. A lot of ethnic Chinese Hong Kong residents knew that the writing was on the wall. Chinese would never honor the semi-independence or autonomy of Hong Kong into perpetuity, that they eventually try to put their thumb, the communist thumb, on the democratic Hong Kong. And so we've reached that stage over the past several years, and we've seen that. And last year, thankfully, Hong Kong residents rose up against an effort to steal their liberty from them. But in Hong Kong, hundreds of thousands of people that live in Hong Kong became dual nationals with Canada and other places. And so this has happened back as early as the 80s and through the 90s. And that's why you see people in Hong Kong, or not in Hong Kong, in Canada, refer to Vancouver as Hongcouver because there's so many ethnic Chinese there. In fact, white Europeans are now not even the majority in Vancouver. They're just a plurality, and they soon will not be a plurality. Actually, they're not even a plurality if you add up all the Chinese that are there. So you have two generations of Chinese. You have the ethnic Chinese who came from Hong Kong in the 80s and 90s or before that, and some after that, but most came in the 80s and 90s to Vancouver. And then you have, in the last 20 years, in the last 10 years particularly, you have ethnic Chinese from all over mainland China who've come into Canada through Vancouver. And if you go to Vancouver, and I've been there several times and I've been there recently, it's interesting because you'll see the clear difference between Hong Kong, democratic, capital, market-oriented ethnic Chinese who live in Vancouver, and then those who grew up in a communist system in mainland China. And there's actually a distinction and a difference and animosity in many respects between those two communities, those two ethnic Chinese communities in Vancouver. It's been my experience. And Anglos are now only about a little over a third of the population in Vancouver. So there you have it. Rocket Man, North China. China like North Korea. Well, I don't know. North Korea is a little bit worse. I mean, at least in China, we don't use anti-aircraft guns to assassinate or to execute the most powerful guy who could challenge the state leader. Yeah, Kim Jong Un murdered his uncle with an anti-aircraft gun. They tied him up after convicting him of trumped-up charges of crimes, and then shot him with an anti-aircraft gun, obliterating his body. There was nothing left from all reports. Yeah, and he also murdered his brother at an airport. These two women do it by poisoning him. Yeah, nasty folks there in North Korea. A family dynasty of terror in North Korea, which has been going on for a very long time. So there you have it. Well, listen, so again, just a reminder tomorrow on my channel, a live stream with Willem Petsa, which will be taking place at 8 p.m. South Africa time. And because that Willem Petsa will be mostly of interest to people in South Africa. I'm not so sure if people out South Africa have that much interest, but you're welcome to tune in, everybody from around the globe, to my channel tomorrow at 8 p.m. Johannesburg time and 2 p.m. 1400 here in the Eastern Standard Time Zone in the U.S. to listen to Willem Petzer. That's tomorrow, Friday, May 22nd. And then on Saturday, my regularly scheduled stream will be this time with Herman Roos. Herman Roos is a tobacco farmer in South Africa. Did you even know there were tobacco farmers in South Africa? Maybe you didn't. Maybe you did. And we're going to be talking about agriculture, tobacco farming in South Africa, how it's changed, and what the challenges are, and pretty much anything else that comes up. So that should be interesting. And as I've discussed here a short while ago, next Saturday I'll probably have Komi Klou, who's a Ghanaian American economist, and we'll be talking about debt in Africa. That'll be my stream next week. And then always tune in anytime you see a notification, if you like, for the Stray Voltage live streams, which are just, the random thoughts that come out of my head. Now, I've put a little more structure in my Stray Voltage. It's not simply me just going and pontificating. I'm bringing news updates and talking about some of the events taking place around the world in these ways. HBM Air, song or movie? Totsines. Tercia's gone. Have a good night, Tercia. Thanks for tuning in. Set a reminder. Alicia says you will tune in. Okay. So I appreciate folks signing up for that. Hey, also, once again, if you haven't watched it, please do yourself a favor. Do yourself a favor. Go watch this. Giselle's Lockdown concert, her debut for her album Fit Uns Mensa, which is located on my channel under my previous live streams. It's an hour and 3 minutes. If you don't like folk music, hang in there. The first few minutes are folk music, then she gets to some country music, then she gets into Afrikaans pop. It's good stuff. You'll really enjoy it. You should check it out. Share it with others. And she sings in English and Afrikaans. Only most of this concert is in Afrikaans because she's debuting her Afrikaans album. So please check it out. Share it with friends, family. Watch it in the background. Let's get some attention on this. She's a very talented musician with some really good singing ability, and I really like to see her do well. Anyway, so please share that with friends. Comfort Kenny, North Korea leader. Yep. Thanks for great chat, Jessica. Okay, good night, Jessica. All right. People are leaving. So at least 5 people have left in the last 5 or 10 minutes, but the number of people viewing has gone back up to what it was a few minutes ago. So what I don't know is if people are just turning in. There's Bosch Zebra. How is it? Just tuned in. I was going to say, I don't know if people are just tuning in or are they just popping back on and off. Yeah, Bosch Zebra, you're tuning in just the time that I was looking at shutting down, but I can go for a bit longer. I'm not in any rush here. Anyway, let's see. Was it Trump video? 4 clips, also interviews. Yeah, not sure what you guys are talking about. Anybody seen Rocket Man? Oh, that's what you're talking about. I missed that quote up there. No, I haven't seen it. So anyway. Right. Anyway, well, that's probably good for today, folks. I hope that this time is more suitable. Not right now, this moment. This looks like it's working for some folks who are in here, but I mean a noontime or 6 p.m. in Southern Africa time frame, and maybe I'll try to shift and do that more frequently. But again, this is a Stray Voltage, an unscheduled, random stream, and that's what this is all about. So we've talked about some news today. I've tried to promote Shink Art, Giselle, the Afrikaans musician, and also Johan Orton's photography on here. Still 13 on. Yeah, I see that. Am I missing seeing you? What's your email address? Alicia, yeah, I don't say it, my email address, or print it on here because then it can be snatched up by bots and stuff. So if you want my email address, go to the channel and up at the top where there's tabs, it says videos and playlists and stuff like that. Go to the About tab, and on the YouTube channel, my YouTube channel, where it says About, you can just open up another tab in your browser in YouTube rather than lose the stream. Go there to About, click on About, and down there you'll see a description of what my channel is about, below a video. And then there it says see email for business purposes. It's not for business purposes. You can just write to me. click on that and it'll come up and it'll verify that you're not a bot. So you have to click on that and then it will expose, it will reveal my email address, which you can write to me. So please do that and you can find it. Yeah, that's, I think a lot of people aren't that familiar with a lot of features of YouTube, and part of it's because they change things around frequently. But anyway, so yeah, check that out. You can get my email address from there. Feel free to send me an email. Lots of people are doing. So one of the nice things about this, folks, is that, and you see this Ronaldo's program if you watch Ronaldo Ronaldo Hose. Whew, tired. If you watch Ronaldo Hose or say Ramon Morning Shot, you'll see that people, when you have a community, you have a lot more sets of eyes out there, right? Can you post the link at Chris Wyatt? Which link are we talking about? I don't think you can post links because I haven't set up any administrators here, Kung Fu Kenny. I haven't gotten around to that. Maybe I'll do that sometime soon. I already had Kyle asking about whether he can be an administrator. He was the first to ask. So I haven't done that yet. Honestly, don't know how to do it. I haven't taken time to take a look at it. Um, no, don't put my. You can put the link to get, but you can't let you put the link on there. So anyway, sorry, I got off because I was trying to answer that question. What was I talking about there? Anyway, it must not have been that important. Anyway, it looks like Alicia found the email, so cool. All right, thanks, Dietrich. You're taking off. Okay, cool. Oh, you wanted to post the link. No, that's anyway, sorry. Yeah, back to the point I was trying to make is that the nice thing about having a community where people tune in and view is that that's more eyes out there, and people see things. They share it with you either over Twitter or via email or WhatsApp or something like that. And next thing you know, you become alerted to stories. So a couple of stories I've talked about in the past few days, I knew about not because I had found them on my own, my research, but because someone in South Africa or someone in Nigeria had said, "Hey, did you see this?" And I looked into it, I did research and confirmed that the information was valid, and then I talked about it, discussed it, or made a video about it. So thank you all so much for that. You're all part of this community. The things that I talk about are not simply all coming from me. Sometimes it's from my subscribers and those in contact with me, either on LinkedIn, on WhatsApp, or on Instagram, on here, that sort of thing. So thank you so much, because then we can all share these things and we can all learn from them, and that's really, I think, helpful. It really makes a big difference. So anyway, I just want to thank everyone once again, really, for tuning into my channel. The channel is only as good as we make it. That's right. It's not just me sitting here talking. It's the interaction with the chat. Also, when I have guests come in and the feedback that you guys provide, and also the fact that you take the time to subscribe to the channel and you devote your personal time to listening to it. All of that makes the channel. I mean, if I could sit in my shorts in front of my television screen or my laptop and talk for hours to myself with 2 subscribers, and that's great, but the 3 of us would have a good time, maybe, and that's it. So it really makes a big difference when having an audience out there. And I'm really grateful for the number of subscribers. I might, if I'm lucky, push past 700 subscribers today. Bear in mind that in February 16th, I had 1 subscriber. And I've had a YouTube channel since 2006, but I wasn't using it because I was a serving military officer. So I only started using it in mid-February. So I had 1 subscriber on February 16th, and now approaching 700, which doesn't sound like a lot when you compare it to a lot of websites, or not a lot of YouTube channels. But that to me is, I think, a good size audience, and it's grown quite a bit in a short time. I would like to think it's because the content I'm providing is of interest, and it appeals to people, even if they don't agree with it. In fact, I love to have subscribers that don't agree with what I say. I watch YouTube channels that I don't agree with. It's like publications, magazines. If there'll be any magazines left after COVID, because we're losing a lot of them. But I typically buy a lot of magazines at Barnes and Noble, or when I'm on the road in airports, magazines that I don't agree with, because I want to read the opposing view, in part because I want to be able to authoritatively refute it and correct it. But I do read things and listen to things that I don't agree with. Otherwise, we just live in an echo chamber. So I appreciate when people disagree. When I did a video a few days back, one of my subscribers said, "No, you're wrong," and said a few things. And I looked at it and to see what the person was saying. And I made the point that, yes, I see what you're saying, but these are the reasons I said this, and this is the argument for it. And we had an adult conversation. We didn't agree on the point, but we both shared our points. We weren't yelling at each other or talking over each other. And that's good stuff. I mean, discourse is what really matters. The fake discourse you see in South Africa's parliament with the Honorable Steenhuisen, the Honorable Malema, the Honorable, utter nonsense. It's a zoo in the chamber. It used to be fun to watch Prime Minister's minutes or whatever it's called, the British Parliament, because it's entertaining. But there, it's much more professional. But South Africa, it's just a clown car show. It's absolutely ridiculous, particularly with the prison suit wearing economic freedom fighters jumping up like a bunch of buffoons and interrupting things and stating the most horrible things there and making ridiculous claims in Parliament. It's a joke. It's not a real Parliament, and its actions are questionable at best. So some nice comments came in here. Let me see what else. Kung Fu says the streams are interesting. Love learning about different countries. Cool. Kyle says, brain having such a knowledgeable host, Chris. Well, thank you so much. Isn't so bad. South Africa, no, South Africa isn't so bad. It's got challenges, and many of them are self-inflicted wounds. 26 years after apartheid, many of us thought that we weren't predicting it would be the land of milk and honey, but we thought that South Africa would be well on the path to being a major industrialized country in Africa, in which people weren't suffering in abject poverty, and one in which racism and racial injections into discourse would become largely a thing of the past. Instead, it's become an everyday thing. Everything. You have political parties telling other parties to hate people based on the color of skin, or blaming them for the ills that are a result of their actions, to distract from their actions. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain while they're back here stealing, murdering, looting, and deceiving people. And that's happening on a daily basis out there. And many of us failed to predict that 26 years ago. Certainly, people predicted things could go bad, but we didn't expect it to go quite that way. So let's see. The ORP, the rally point. The ORP is the objective rally point for those who aren't in uniform. That's a term we use when we're doing patrols or doing missions. You have a rally point to bring the troops back together on the objective after you've captured the objective and consolidated on the objective and made sure that it's safe. Then you have a rally point, the ORP. It's funny to hear those terms. Definitely informative and interesting from Kyle. Thank you. Bosch Zebra says, Chris Wyatt, good, knowledgeable content. Thank you so much. HBMAR agrees with that. 2020 equals COVID and finding this channel. Oh, hey, well, thank you for finding this channel, but hopefully 2020 will mean something more than COVID when it's all over. That's what I'm hoping for all of us. Alicia says, your stream is a lot like Roman Morning Shot. No favoritism, just speaking your mind. Yes, thank you, Alicia. And but Roman's channel is focused on South Africa. So from a execution standpoint, yes, we're probably similar. Mine is not focused entirely on South Africa. It's focused on Africa and the U.S. And even China to some degree. And as you saw, I did a thing on Taiwan today. So yeah, I guess the concept is similar, although his office is sexier than mine with his movie posters on the back. But yeah, it's a similar concept, and we do both speak our mind. Although it seems like Rahman is calling for an insurrection at times. Not that he has, I'm just saying. HBM says, or Kyle says to HBM that I taught him more than what I know about my own country. Lisa says, I agree. That's the only way I'm leaving is with blood on my soul. Oh, yeah. Okay. Kenny. When do we talk about rugby? Hank, what do you want to talk about rugby, man? I talked about rugby. Were you not here earlier? Not in great detail, but I did mention the news. Pieter-Steph du Toit has decided not to go abroad and take the big money. He'll eat for peanuts. He'll get paid peanuts in South Africa, and he's staying with the Stormers. So that's great news for Stormers fans. Warwick Haaland from the Bulls, the fullback from the Bulls, Warwick Haaland, is going to Cape Town to play for the Stormers. They've signed him. I guess Jake White decided to let him go. And Kurtley Beale is now going to play for Racing 92, the French club, taking the big money and leaving Australia behind. Also, I mentioned earlier that this is not new news, but a lot of people aren't aware of it, that Super Rugby in New Zealand will resume in mid-June. The team's already practicing. I saw some photographs of the Hurricanes out practicing in New Zealand. An empty stadium, of course. It's a practice session. But they will play 10 games with those 5 teams playing those 10 games each. And I think that means that Super Rugby is dead for 2021 for all of SANZAAR except for New Zealand. And I have concerns about the New Zealand Rugby Union and what its plans are, because they're in discussions about their union leaving World Rugby and allying with an American, huge profitable company in America to start something new, potentially. That hasn't been stated, but that's a possibility and that's a concern. If the All Blacks leave World Rugby, it'll be a lot easier for the rest of us to win, but it doesn't help rugby in the long run, I don't think. I think the effort there is to try to build up rugby in the U.S. We already have professional sport here with Major League Rugby.
And I think that has had a great start in its first 3 seasons. And unfortunately, COVID-19 wiped out the rest of the season after just 5 games. Each of the teams played 16 games, but we only got 5 games this season. So the season's over. It's unfortunate with a lot of big names from around the world playing here. Bustereau from France was playing for New York, Rugby United New York. Cathal Marsh from Ireland was playing for Rugby United New York. Ben Foden, with 34 caps for England, was also playing for Rugby United New York. Joe Peterson from South Africa, playing for numerous teams, including the Western Province and Stormers, was playing for San Diego. And the list goes on and on, lots of names. And of course, Tendai Mtawarira was playing for the Washington, D.C. team here and played a few games. I didn't get to see him. I was scheduled to go to the next home game. Last year I had season tickets for the exhibition season, but I didn't buy a season ticket this year, so I was going to the next game, and then the season was suspended. So I was going to go see the Beast and stand on the sidelines, a very small Cardinal Stadium at Catholic University in Washington, D.C., chanting, Beast, every time he got the ball. But that's it. I hope he will come back next season. He was hoping to help build something here in the U.S., and we really were grateful for Tendai's commitment to U.S. rugby. Hopefully he'll come back because he is a very popular figure amongst rugby fans here in the U.S., and we have a big rugby community. A lot of people support it. It's just that professionally, the sport was neglected for far too long. Anyway, so yeah, we've talked a little bit about rugby. So what else you want to talk about there, Hank? Let me know. Your channel's Brain Food. Well, cool. All right. South Africa's a great country. Just the people running is bad. Agreed, HBM. I'm with you on that one. Tony Nag. Hey, Tony, welcome. Just came from Sudlander stream. Okay. All right. No, don't be sorry. I've gotten longer than I expect to. Bosch Sabre. Go Stormers. Absolutely. Stormers, man. Absolutely. Stormers taking our Bulls. Well, yeah, Hank, but there's a long history of that. We took Brian Habana, right? So it's not like it's new. Anyway, and I guess Renault on his program, we were talking when I did my last stream with him about the Eastern Cape. I was making fun of the Eastern Cape about it's not exactly a bastion of rugby talent or successful rugby. And he said, well, no, it's because you keep taking all our good players. And of course, he pointed out the Siya Kolisi's from the Eastern Cape. True story, absolutely. Siya Kolisi playing for the Stormers. When he comes back from this industry, Agro says, good night. Well, take care. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you having been here. Beast, absolutely right, Hank. Yeah, love the Beast. It always bothered me in South Africa when they were playing the race games. Well, you can't count Mtawarira because he's not South African. Well, he's from Zimbabwe, but he's become a South African, and he's playing for the national team, so he's South African. Let go. Anyway, yeah. Good night. Good day. Oh, my Wi-Fi is going bonkers. Chat again. Thanks, Kyle, for coming in. Who else we got on here? Why is Obama? He's not in South Africa. Who keeps saying he's in South Africa? I've heard that before. Someone said he's in South Africa. Obama's. How did he get South Africa? He went on a private jet. South African airspace is largely shut down, so I'd be surprised. LMGA. Let's laugh. Tell us about whales and their sheep. Well, Wales doesn't have that many sheep. We're talking about sheep. You can talk about Australia or New Zealand. Those folks have sheep. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. It's maybe that's why Warren Gatland went back to New Zealand because there weren't enough sheep and to keep him happy being in Wales. Oh, that's not fair. Warren Gatland's a great coach. I'm just trying to. He's back in New Zealand. Anyway, a lot of Zim players play for SA, Beast, Shamanga. Yeah, exactly. All great players. Absolutely true. No, but Hank, the story is that when it comes to the quota system, the racist racial quota system that SARA was implementing, which really kind of messed things up. Yeah, when Alistair Coetzee was the coach, he kind of was bowing to that and not picking the best players that should be on the team based on how they fit and their talent, but rather picking some players based on quotas that the SARA was trying to implement. And so one of my missions and one of the reasons I was going to go on social media is that before Rossi took over the team, if the South African Rugby Union SARA continued on its racist path, I was going to be very vocal and very much in the face of World Rugby and other institutions about banning South Africa from international rugby. Yeah, that's what I said. A Springbok fan trying to get the Springboks excluded from international competition. We did it under apartheid. We isolated the Springboks under apartheid because of racial policies. If SARA wants to use racial policies to select players for the team, then they shouldn't be allowed to play in international competition. That's racism. That's favoritism, and it's not right. Players should be picked on their talent and how they fit the team and the best choice for the team. That's how it should be done.
If Sorrow is unhappy because the ANC is telling them they have to meet racial targets, then what you have to do is you have to develop the game for youth. You have to make it to be a normal thing that kids grow up with so they want to be rugby players. That's how it works, ladies and gentlemen. You can't just say, okay, you got to have this many brown, this many blue, this many red, this many green players. You have to actually develop this so it becomes part of a culture and ethos that people want to do it. Very few black kids in South Africa, as a percentage of black kids in South Africa, are interested in playing rugby. They'd much rather play football, soccer. Yeah. And by contrast, not a lot of white kids in South Africa are interested in playing soccer. Although it is a game played by white kids in South Africa, they tend to want to play rugby. So if you want black kids playing rugby on the Springboks, then you should have spent the last 26 years introducing the sport in places where it wasn't in previously disadvantaged communities and promoting the sport and making it possible for kids to get scholarships to go to private schools where they could play in the top rugby schools. And then you get a natural flow of athletes from all races and all backgrounds. But no, that's not been the focus. We just make these artificial racial rules. And I have issues with that. And I was all ready to go on social media when I retired from the military to attack that. But Rossi Erasmus came on the scene. He was able to effectively push that away and select the best players. Absolutely. Let me look at the guys around the team. Makazole and Pipi. Wow, man, awesome. Not only is he in the history books as the first try ever scored by a South African player in a Rugby World Cup final. We finally got a try after just kicking penalties in previous World Cup appearances. But having won 2 World Cup appearances with just kicking penalties, that's impressive. But now we finally got a try thanks to Makazole and Pipi. Fantastic stuff. Lukoniam, fantastic player. Siya Kolisi, I'm a huge fan. He's maybe not the best player at the position, but he turned out to be a heck of a team captain and a great ambassador for the sport of rugby in South Africa. And of course, he plays for the Stormers, so even if he sucked, I'd be a fan. Just kidding. Yeah. Anyway. Okay, Hank. All right. First try awarded. Okay. Yes, there is dispute about whether previous try had been scored. Yes. Okay. Fair. Yeah, okay. First try awarded. That's fair. But rugby is a game, and people have to look at look at things. So good point. Here it comes. I knew it was coming. 1995, Ruben Kruger try not awarded. Yes, true point. True point. But it still is historic, however you look at it. Why does the UK mock whales? They're apparently sheep lovers. I'll cover that in just a second. Oh, Luke Watson. Okay, Hank doesn't like Luke Watson. Um, Quota only works after 20 years from starting at grade 1. Yes, exactly. But you still shouldn't be pushing quotas, even if you started then. It should always be the best talent. That's ridiculous. Listen, the National Basketball Association is 87% black. Should we have quotas for whites? 70% of the United States is white. So should 70% of the players in the NBA be white? No, that's ludicrous. That's ludicrous. There's more white kids by millions who play basketball in high school and even as many in university as black kids, but they're not in the NBA because that's the style that the NBA went with. The players who play in that fashion, who tend to be black, not all, but tend to be black, and now 87% of the NBA is black. All right, there's 82%, something like that, maybe 70. Anyway, it's around, let's say 80%. 80% of the players in the NBA, and that's because a fair portion of players are foreign players, some of them white, but 80% of the NBA is black. But only 13% of the American, 13.5% of the American population is black. So should we turn that thing on its head and force all of those people to not play? That's ludicrous. That's ludicrous. Juan Smith in 2007. Okay, Hank has got a good memory here. At least he says, my son is a mini James Dalton, hooker attitude. Cool, awesome. Tony, at 75, I was on a team that won Southwest Africa under 16 soccer team against the Germans. Windhoek. Emma Hugo. Wow, that's cool. That's obscure. That's interesting. Cool, Nagy. That's awesome. Quotas used in the past from other countries. When it comes to sports, I can talk about it when it comes to other things. We've had quotas here in the U.S. Famously, in the U.S. military, in the U.S. Army, we had a lawsuit about 15 years ago in which a group of retired and serving, but mostly retired Army officers sued the U.S. Army because they were able to get a hold of information from promotion boards as a consequence of the Freedom of Information Act. There was a suspicion amongst some senior officers that the percentage of black officers being promoted to full colonel and lieutenant colonel was artificially high because there was the impression that some had that the Army was trying to reach a percentage of quota that senior officers were black. And they were right. It turns out they were right. There were a number, hundreds of officers who were reinstated or promoted to a higher rank in retirement and paid back pay that they were cheated out of as a consequence of the Army not promoting qualified white officers and selecting qualified black officers over them, in many cases, who weren't as qualified or as experienced as those other officers. This was a huge court case. It was a class action lawsuit. The officers won. And then the next Defense Appropriation Act, they changed the law to make it impossible for people to do similar things so no one could ever sue the Army again. But it is interesting to note that about 8% of the officer corps, I don't know what the current figures are, so you can't hold me to this, but historically in the Army for the past few decades, about 8.5% of the officer corps was black officers through the ranks. But 13.5% of the population was black, but about 35% of the total force enlisted was black. So much higher percentage of enlisted soldiers who are black because it's an opportunity for a lot of folks to come in than the general population. But amongst officers, it was like 8.7%, something like that. But for general officers, amongst our general officers, nearly 20% of our general officers were black. So what are the odds that less than 10% of the officers will equal 20% of the generals? Are we that successful at picking the absolute best black officer candidates? That successful that they get promoted at a rate that is demonstrably higher than their colleagues who are Asian, Hispanic, or white? Seems a little odd. Anyway, that was the reason that lawsuit went through, and they won, and then they changed the law so you can't sue again. Yeah, quotas are a dumb idea. I don't care what people say, righting historical wrongs. You're not righting historical wrongs. You're perpetuating historical wrongs in contemporary times by discriminating against other people, many of whom had nothing to do with it. Oh, no, you profited from this. No, that's utter nonsense. It's kind of like slavery. Americans, I mean, we must pay reparations in America because whites slavery. The majority of white people of European descent in this country, their ancestors didn't come here until after the end of slavery. That's right, after the end of slavery. Most white North Americans in the United States came here, their ancestors, after the end of the Civil War in 1865, starting in the 1870s, the 1880s in particular, up through the First and Second World War. That's when they came here. Now, my ancestors have been here since 1621, or 1621, 1623. Actually, I got to check because this will be 400 years this year, and I got to celebrate that. I want to say it's 1621. But yeah, the Jamestown Colony, Virginia, the first royal governor of the Jamestown Colony, Virginia, was my 17th great uncle, Sir Francis Wyatt. His brother, the Reverend Hope Wyatt, was the progenitor of most of the Wyatts in North America today. There's 90,000 of us in the U.S. and Canada. 75,000 of them are white, and 15,000 are black, mostly mixed race, but some black African, with that surname, all coming from that one ancestor who landed in Virginia in the 1620s. Yep, now there's a few other Wyatt lines that have come here, but that's the main one. So my folks have been here since the beginning. And then I also have ancestors who were among the first to settle New Amsterdam, my Dutch ancestors. And I have religious ancestors, religious Christians who fled persecution and settled in the Massachusetts Bay Colony as well. Yeah, so my ancestors have been here for a long time, since the early part of the 17th century. So if anyone wants to blame anyone, they can blame me, but my ancestors. But most white Americans were not here when slavery existed. They came after their ancestors. It's just a stupid argument. Same with quotas. What do born frees have to do with what happened before? And if my neighbor grows up in a family that has money and wealth and can get things and, like have a laptop or a PC when they're growing up, and I didn't have that, and they have cell phones and they can buy varsity jackets and cars when they turn 16, I don't get that. It's not the state's responsibility to make that even. It's my parents' responsibility to make that even. If they don't, then it's my job to overcome that when I become an adult. And I did overcome that. So, for instance, when I went to high school, I never had a car. Now, people in Africa are like, what are you talking about? Well, this is a normal circumstance in America. You grow up, you're 16, you get a car. Never had a car. Never had a varsity ring, even though I played varsity sports because I couldn't afford to buy one. Didn't have a varsity jacket, couldn't buy it. Things like that. I'm not pleading poverty. I'm not crying for me. I'm just saying that those are things I never had, and it didn't diminish my spirit. It didn't make me feel destitute. It didn't make me angry. It just made me realize that if I want something, I'm going to have to earn it on my own, and I'm going to have to make my way in life. And so I did. Anyway, it just helped motivate me. So this nonsense that you see perpetuated really gets annoying. So Neil, welcome. My goodness, you've come in. I was going to leave an hour and 10 minutes ago. I guess it was a good thing I didn't leave. We get to see you pop on here. Yeah. What are some of the books that you read?
so far that you would suggest? Well, lots of books, Kung Fu Kenny. I'm a huge fan of books, but I would recommend The Covenant, historical fiction on South Africa by James Michener. Go ahead and read that. Even if you're from South Africa, you should read it. It's cool. It's fascinating. Um, Agro, Chris, how true are the claims the U.S. Army does not accept troops with lower than 80 IQ? I don't know. I don't think we have an IQ standard. We do have a test that you must take. It's a generalized knowledge test. It really determines if you're essentially a high school graduate. Um, but we do have a requirement to be a high school graduate, which can be waived in certain circumstances to get in the U.S. Army. I don't know of an IQ requirement, but you have to have certain general GT score, general testing score, over a certain number. And the GT score might be 80, but that's not an IQ figure. It's not tied to that. I had a high GT score, which meant that I qualified for a whole bunch of different specialties, and I pretty much had my pick of what I wanted. I took one that was not popular because I got a big bonus at the time, $12,000 bonus to put in the education fund so I could pay for university. And that $12,000 bonus was about 50% higher than the Veterans Administration money. So I took the $8,000, the $2,700 of my own money that I put in $100 every month, which is a lot of money. I only made $300 a month back then. I put $100 in my education fund, so 1/3 of my money went there. And then the VA put in, the Veterans Administration, $5,400, which gave me $8,100. And then because I took a specialty that was unpopular, they threw 12,000 bonus on top of that. And then I got a check every month tax-free when I was enrolled in university, which helped me finish my undergraduate degree and paid for one of my master's degrees and had a little bit left over to start another master's program in a different subject. So yeah, I don't know about an IQ requirement though, but yeah, but you have to be educated to be in the U.S. military, and you should be educated to be in any military. That was a requirement that was levied by the government of Liberia when we built the Armed Forces of Liberia, that people be educated. So it really mattered. Um, let's see. So Sloat says his forefathers took the wrong boat, went to South Africa instead of west. Not necessarily. You never know, Sloat, what might have transpired if he came this way. Um, since the name is Steenkamp, I'm going to guess they were Dutch. So Tony, yeah, Nagy is a Hungarian name. I knew that. So he says South African born, Hungarian, now Canadian citizen. Oh, you're in Canada, Tony. Okay, see, so not everybody's in South Africa. Cool. Hank is multicultural Tony. Indeed. Now we have to ask Tony what languages he speaks. You speak Canadian, eh? Do you speak French up there, Tony? Because you got to be bilingual in Canada, at least parts of it. But those Quebecois, I like the Quebecois. And when I speak to them, it's much easier than speaking to the French. The French like to swallow all their words, and they speak faster than I do in French. They speak than I speak in English. But in Quebec, it's a lot easier to understand their French, at least from my perspective. It's kind of like in West Africa. West Africans speak French. It's far easier for me to understand them. C'est vraiment lentement. C'est plus facile pour moi pour comprendre que les Français en France parce que les gens là, ils parlent trop vite pour moi. Mais en Afrique de l'Ouest et au Québec, c'est plus facile parce que les gens parlent plus facile, lentement par rapport les Français. Anyway, anybody keep up with that? Sure, somebody did. Tony does speak French. Okay, there. Then Tony kept up with what I just said. Sloat says, was a character a real person that lived in St. Helena as a prisoner? Oh, it's Canadian language. No, it's not, Hank. I was just making fun of Canada. Canada, our friends to the north, are integral to our security, have been part of defending North America with us for decades during the Cold War. They've been tremendous allies, although under Trudeau, once again, they've lost the plot and bizarre things coming out of Canada. Canadians have historically punched well above their weight in international affairs, although ever since the debacle with the parachute regiment in Somalia and then the disbandment over its abuse of Somalis, reported abuse of Somalis, but it was abuse. The Canadians have kind of punched below their weight and been rather disappointing in international affairs. Nonetheless, we love our Canadian friends. They supply us with a lot of talented actors, maple syrup, timber, petroleum, and some wonderful English expressions. And also they're a reliable friend to the north. Yeah, Canada, love it. I love when you talk dirty. Oh, that was the series. Okay. Do you do any hunting? Don't think we have a hunting season this year back in this. Is that it? Yeah. Bosch Zebra. I used to hunt when I was in high school. I hunted. I had 25 rifles and shotguns, 16 gauge, 12 gauge, 410, 30-06, some handguns, Montgomery Ward 22 pump action rifle. Cool beans. I had a lot of stuff, and used to hunt squirrel, quail, deer, turkey.
Yeah, and groundhogs because they were a nuisance. Didn't eat groundhogs. Ate the rest of them. But no, I haven't hunted since I left high school. And eventually all my guns and rifles were sold off because I couldn't take them in the military traveling around the world, and there was no point in keeping them. So eventually, over time, they were sold off, and I wound up with none. So, which is fine. I don't have a need for them, but I vigorously defend people's right to have and own, and possess, and purchase handguns and rifles and shotguns. That is a right that we have in this country, and it is enshrined in our Constitution, despite efforts at the state level to defraud Americans, take it away from us. But no, I'm not a hunter. But I've never bow hunted. That's something I always wanted to try, but I never did it. Let's see. Sloat's surname is actually Madden. No, so you're an Englishman hiding out. Magyar is Hungarian fluent. Okay. English, yes. Lost most of your Afrikaans. Oh, so you were in South Africa. That's yeah, yeah, yeah. You speak German too. Ja, Tony, also ich auch, schon seit über 30 Jahren, schon seit 1984, als ich als Gefreiter in Deutschland angekommen bin, kann ich Deutsch. Ich rede Deutsch, ich schreibe Deutsch, ich verstehe Deutsch und ich habe also Deutsch überall auf der Welt gesprochen mit anderen Deutschen, besonders in Südafrika. Die Deutschen in KwaZulu-Natal, die sind ja überall in Heidelberg, Lüneburg, sind überall Deutsche. Und auch in Cape Town, Kapstadt, habe ich auch also manche Deutsche getroffen. Und es ist schon lange Zeit ich Deutsch gelernt und gelehrt. Ich habe mich selbst gelehrt Deutsch am Anfang. Und später bin ich auf der Universität mit Deutsch. Okay, so I'll stop there. Hopefully I didn't lose a lot of people. So just having a little fun with Tony since he's a polyglot like I am. Yes, got the character. Thank you, Mr. Madden. Got it. Tony says, have you watched any Rebel News media from Canada? I highly recommend. No, I don't know that. I have been paying attention to the secessionist movement in Alberta. That's getting my attention lately. We'll see what's happened. Good Charlotte, mother-in-law, hunted moose, elk, whitetail here. Yeah, cool. Well, thousands of varmints. Yeah, Agro's taking off. Thanks. Take care. Alicia was going to leave. Now she's saying goodbye to that. Okay. Um, um, Learned in Windhoek. Verstehe Kleins. Oh, spelling is, yeah, your spelling is bad, Tony. Sorry, I'm not beating you up. I wasn't going to say that. Yeah. You're in Alberta. Cool. Alberta is awesome. I love it out there. I made a little bit of money off the tar sands projects out there when oil was going for $150 a barrel. I had invested in tar sands projects through Canadian Oil Trust, buying the stock shares on the marketplace a long time ago before it ever blew up. And then when the price of oil reached $149 a barrel, it cost about $75 a barrel, roughly US, to produce a barrel, $75 a barrel of oil in the Alberta tar sands projects for it to be profitable. So at 150, they were making money. With oil trading for $25 a barrel, not much coming out of the tar sands. I long ago sold off those oil trust stocks and put money elsewhere. I made a lot of money off over the years of Canadian stocks. He's International Banking, Bombardier. I used to have Bombardiers, we say in English, but Bombardier, the guys that make skidoos and trains, and used to make a bunch of other things, including aircraft. Now it's part of Airbus, unfortunately. But yeah, a lot of good Canadian companies over the years, like Canada, big fan. Paulie, are you just getting here? Tuning in from the firehouse. A little late, busy start your evening. Awesome stream of Renegade Report last night. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, we went for 2 hours, although I've been going solo here for 3 hours and 20 minutes today. So, or 3 hours, yeah, 3 hours and 13 minutes. So, yeah, thanks for tuning in, Paulie. Thank you. I don't know if anyone else, we didn't really talk about the Renegade Report stream. That was interesting for me. Boy, they went a lot of directions. I had no idea we were going to go there, asking me questions about Somalia and Rwanda and Bosnia and stuff like that. Obviously, I was ready to talk about it, though. But Alicia says, I'm having a conversation with Agro. He wanted to leave. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Alicia. I know I misread that. I'm just trying to keep up. It's interesting when I appear in Ronaldo, or when you have two people on a stream and you got both people up there, and say you make yourself smaller, you can drift over and watch the comments and make sure you're incorporating the stream in there. But it's a little more challenging when you're a solo act, because I'm not looking at this through my browser. I'm looking at it through Streamlabs OBS. So I can't respond to the comments because it'll open up a window and then I can't see the screen. So in order for me to see myself on screen and make sure I see what's being transmitted out, that really cool caricature, and then this promotion for Giselle's concert, I can see the comments in my software, but I can't respond to them. But I don't get the color thing, like the orange. And if you say Chris White, I don't see that over here.
So I have to, sometimes I make mistakes. So anyway, but when there's two of us and I'm just a guest of the program, I can run my browser and I can watch that and I'm like, aha, this, that, and the other. It's a lot easier. So I do make some mistakes when referring to the chats, and I read chats that are between folks. So I apologize for that. I'm just a rookie. uh, yeah, you're in Alberta. That's awesome. Tony says, "Well, Colonel, wish I knew when Vic Gold Corp was at 7 cents." Yeah. Well, I bought a Canadian company that's doing diamond mining in Botswana. I bought the shares on that. They were trading very low. Lucara is the company. They're traded on one of the Canadian exchanges, and I bought a number of shares of that for just not much money. They're doing okay. They're very famous, Lucara, because they're the ones keep rocking up with these huge diamond finds the past few years in Botswana. They got the concession for diamond mines, which De Beers had given up on, and then they went in, and I don't know what they're doing different, how they're digging in that pipe, but they keep turning up these massive diamonds, and they're making a ton of money. Stock hasn't done particularly well for me, but that's fine. I just wanted to be able to say that I invest in Africa, and I want to be part of white monopoly capital, and by being a diamond mine owner. So I'm a diamond mine owner as a shareholder of Lucara, Lucara. If you want to look it up, Lucara Diamond. But it's a Canadian company, and it's doing diamond mining in Botswana and being very successful with its mine in Botswana. So they got a couple mines going on there now. Say something in Afrikaans. Well, give me a sense to say in Afrikaans. Agro, read it up there. I thought you left, man. You came back. Um, my most famous phrase in Afrikaans is "Ek praat nie Afrikaans nie." Yeah. Or I could just sing a song. You know, that would make sure that the viewers drop to zero if I start singing. But I love Afrikaans song. You know, like Hardekol. You know, I love that. I love that. Is Sasol in the news in the USA? It was a while back because they had this big project they were doing, a couple $1 billion project, I think it was. But they have kind of faded from the news here. And I think Sasol is in serious trouble in South Africa. Their shares are worth nothing. A lot of stuff going on. The COVID-19 is not helping. Trudeau just sold full rights to China for Canadian gold mine. Oh, God. Well, there's nothing wrong with that in the normal sense, but of course we know that that's probably a state-owned entity, and it's not actually a private company, and that's the problem I have. Your last message. Okay, I'm having a conversation. He wanted to leave, and as he says goodbye, you start an amazing story, and we all get hooked. Okay, Alicia, sorry about that. I started a story. Well, from my perspective, listen, usually when I end these streams, these straight voltage streams, I get ready to leave, and because I see the audience dwindling, and I don't want to waste people's times. Although even if there's two people, I appreciate two people being here, but we go from 70 to 30 to 40 and 20. And I realize that maybe we're just not making the most productive time. And then as I start to say goodbye and everything, and I remind people to smash the like button and to subscribe to the channel and thank them for tuning in, I look over and it's like, doop, 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 like suddenly viewers keep coming back in. It's like someone's just guy. Okay, Chris is going off. You better hurry over there. We don't want him to go off. Someone wants to stay on. So, yikes. Anyway, yeah. Is Cecil already said that? Still here as well, looking for that book in my area. Kung Fu Kenny, you can go to Take a Lot. Don't they sell books and see if they sell it? And maybe you can find it. If you're talking about the Covenant, check it out. Landbu, hey, welcome. And added an extra state. Okay, not a member. I was surprised. Not a member of what? Paulie says, without giving too much away, what's the agenda topic for William Petzer discussion? Oh, I did talk about that, Paulie, but you came in late, so you don't get to hear it. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. So with Willem Petzer, I've never had him on, and I've never been in his program. So what we're going to do is tomorrow at 6 p.m. South African time, I will go on his channel, and he's going to interview me just to talk about me. So, and if you think you've heard all my stories or you know all about me, I haven't scratched the surface, ladies and gentlemen. I have a billion stories to tell and things. So tune in to William Petzer's tomorrow. And then I'd ask him if he would be willing to come on my channel. I kind of hesitate to ask some people who have lots of subscribers because I don't have a lot right now. But I have some really cool subscribers who really appreciate the content and also who contribute to the conversation. So it's great for the discourse. Anyway, so I reached out to Willem and I said, hey, I'd like you to come on my channel. Would you be interested in that? And this is what I cover. I'm not South African, but I cover South Africa among other things. And he said, yeah, happy to do it.
And then he came back and said, hey, how about you come on my channel and then I'll come to yours. So really, it's just going to be kind of an introduction. And hopefully everyone will learn something more about me and my motivations and where I'm coming from or my experiences. And same with Willem. And if you've seen Willem appear on the Morning Shot or Ronaldo or his own channel or even in the media, I suspect you'll probably learn a few things about him by tuning into my channel as we discuss. It's really just an interview, so we're going to talk about some issues. I will bring up the issue of what's her name, Bianca. This nonsense about attacking this girl who was, writing tweets when she was a minor, and now she's being trolled and threatened with rape and murder and all this stuff. This is shameful conduct. So I'll probably talk about that. And what I definitely will talk about in the conversation is I'm going to raise the topic of people doing philanthropic things, donating food to help out the less fortunate who are being harassed by the government. Willem did the video where he played the SABC interview with the poor Afrikaner who was in a squatter camp near Pretoria, and all right, I stopped myself from using profanity there. I was ready to use it. I'll use German profanity. Der Esel, of a reporter from the SABC. Well, so why is it here in this squatter camp you're almost entirely white? And you don't get food parcels from the government, but you think you should get them. Why should you get food when you're not racially diverse? Now, let me turn that into reality, ladies and gentlemen. So I understand you live here with no plumbing, no electricity. You have a lot of people who beg for food, mostly old age pensioners, and you're hungry. Nobody here has a formal income. You live off of handouts. You're really at the bottom of the barrel in society and forgotten by the government who doesn't provide services to you, and you are hungry. Why aren't you making black people that way too? Seriously? Anyway, but Willem did a video about that, and he's got a cool accent. He really sounds like a Boer farmer to me when he does his accent. So anyway, so we will talk about that. That's my intent. I'm supposed to talk to him on the phone, but I've been running a bit late here. Not late, but running longer. So hopefully, let me see if he's written back. He told me something which I won't share because it might, no, I won't get in trouble. I'm just kidding. Let me see if he responded back. No, he hasn't. Actually, I told him that I'll get back with him. That was at 5 minutes to noon of my time, just before 6 p.m., but he was doing something. So if I don't chat with him tonight, I'll chat with him in the morning before we do our stream. I don't mind going to his program without having talked to him, but I don't like to bring people on my show until I've talked to them and seen them, because you got impersonators and fake stuff. Not this is actually Willem Petzer, so no worries about that. But you get people say, oh yeah, no, I'm so and so, and then if you bring them on, it hasn't happened to me, but I've seen it happen to other people. You bring them on, it's like some troll coming on. So with Willem, I want to make sure and have a conversation and just also. As a courtesy to your guest, you want to talk about, is there any topics you wouldn't want me to discuss that are off limits? I'm not the fake press, the fake media that sit in the White House in the press room and sit there and ask questions. Well, do you think it's appropriate for a president who got 80,000 Americans killed to be reelected? That's not journalism. That's sensationalism, and it's also cock. It's utter nonsense. I don't do that. I may joke around with people. We have a little bit of fun, but I will ask hard questions of my guest. Anyway, but the idea is to inform an audience, and that's what it's all about. And also for folks to enjoy it. You're dedicating your time, whether you're cooking in your kitchen and it's in the background, or you're sitting down watching it, or you're watching on your phone, or you're traveling, whatever you're doing, you're dedicating your time, moments of your life to listen to this. So it ought to be something you get something out of. So anyway. So that's Paulie, that's kind of what we'll talk about, those two topics, and anywhere else it goes. But it won't be a 3 or 4 hour live stream. It'll just be an hour or so, depending how long Willem can hang around. Now, bear in mind that I will have just been on his show and then presumably had an hour break and then come back on. So have him come on my show. So anyway, so that's what's going on with Willem Petzer. And then, of course, Herman Roos, we're going to talk about agriculture on Saturday. Next Saturday, the following Saturday, we will be talking about debt in Africa with Komi Klue, a Ghanaian American economist he has his own consulting business. I've met up and done a few things together at different conferences at times. By the way, so folks, it is what would be normally Memorial Day weekend here in the United States coming up, and this would be the beginning of the summer season. At the end of May, we have usually a 3 or 4 day weekend, a holiday. Memorial Day is our equivalent of Remembrance Day for the Commonwealth. It takes place on November 11th. But our November 11th is Veterans Day, where we honor veterans. And in May, we recognize the sacrifice of service members who gave their lives defending our nation here and abroad. And so Memorial Day is the equivalent of Remembrance Day for other countries. So we have that in May, and it's officially the start of the summer season. And normally that's when traffic picks up. The prices of petrol start going up, gasoline, because consumption goes up, and people go out in their summer holidays. Kids finish school in early June, and then high school graduates, the seniors finish usually in late May, and they all run out and do their own thing. Kids go off and work summer employment jobs and amusement parks, themes parks, clothing stores, things like that. And vacations start. People go to the beach, but it's not happening. We're under the Wuhan coronavirus COVID-19 hysteria and hysterical reaction from government officials around the country. And although the lockdown is being reported as being lifted in many places, it isn't being lifted here. We're still under lockdown, and businesses are still shut down. Jobs are being destroyed. Lives are being destroyed. People are despondent. Suicides are picking up. Social ills and abuses are happening. Domestic violence behind closed doors, even though they're not reported, they are happening. And so, yeah, not a happy summer start to the summer season here. I realize in Southern Africa, you folks are going into winter, of course, it's that time of year, but we're going into summer. So this is the start of the summer season, and normally there's barbecues or braais. I hesitate to call a barbecue a braai because it's not really a braai, but it's the same concept. But usually it's barbecue time, people going to parks, going to beaches for swimming, municipal pools, things like that, getting on the road, traveling to visit family and friends, or going to vacation spots around the country, or even going to the Caribbean, things like that. But we will see what happens this weekend. Petrol prices, gasoline prices here are at ridiculously low prices. Not ridiculous, I like low prices, but compared to what they were just 6 months ago, ridiculously low prices. And we also pay very little in the way of tax compared to the rest of the world. So we're really getting over. So I can go fill up my tank for a song right now. I can fill up my tank for about the same price it cost me to fill it up in the mid 1980s right now. Yeah, and I'm talking about my Toyota 4Runner, which has a big tank with 18 gallons. So that's what, 60, 70 liters, something like that. Can fill it up for a song, which is great for me, but not so great for the oil industry and the energy industry, which is losing jobs left and right. So it's all part of the economy. You have to have the right balance. Chris, not for tonight, but I'd love to know your thoughts on what the current identity of the Boer Afrikaner really is. Yeah, no, I agree. We'll do that. Remind me when we do a stream again, we do one of these Stray Voltage to talk about it from my perspective. What I will say this is for those who don't know, I've published an article some time ago on LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn, you can go find me under William M. Chris Wyatt, and you'll find me on there. And if you look under my articles, you'll find an article I wrote. You just have to scroll down when you get to articles on Afrikaans music, Afrikaans pop music, and I've talked to people who are in the music industry in South Africa, and those who've read it said it was pretty good. They liked it. They liked my approach, and then I was highlighting the Afrikaans music industry. And that's kind of where that started from. That's how I wound up eventually linking up with Giselle's manager and Giselle and hosting her concert. And I'm hoping to do some others, but that's a challenge. Artists have to make money. I think the deal was with Giselle is that I think they were fascinated that an American would be interested in Afrikaans, and especially listen to Afrikaans music. But it's just one of the genres I listen to. I listen to all kinds of things, including rap and other things. But anyway, they were amazed by that, and so they were impressed by that. But also, they wanted to debut the album in the midst of lockdown, and they thought, hey, it's a good idea. So we built a relationship there, and I really love her music. She's an amazing performer, and Johan is an amazing magician in his own right. So I'm going to have Johan Eisel on an interview sometime soon, and I've not asked Giselle to do an interview, but if she doesn't know I'm angling for it, I will be angling for an interview with her. I don't know how comfortable she'll be in speaking in English. My Namibian Afrikaans doesn't exist. My Afrikaans is there, but it's still not good enough to do the interview. So anyway, but I will have Johan on talking about, he's a manager, he's a music manager, and he has a music studio and produces music and promotes music. And he's also a master illusionist and magician. So I think those will be interesting topics too. What I don't want to do is make it all South Africa channel, folks, especially with my interviews. And that's why the first South African interview I had was this past Saturday, and that was a fill-in for someone from the Netherlands, and that was Joe Emilio, who kindly jumped on and did a stream with me. But I have 2 South African videos coming up now. I can do special features anytime. That's not a problem, especially in the middle of Wuhan coronavirus. but I like to mix it up on a Saturday because I want people to learn more about the continent. My stream is not just for South Africans and not just for Americans, but it's for a whole bunch of people. I'm trying to get people focused on Africa, interested in Africa, invested in Africa, both personally and professionally and financially, because the growth in the next 3 decades on this planet will be in Africa. It's already baked into the numbers. The population will increase from 1.3 billion to 2.3 to 2.5 billion by the year 2050. And that means there'll be 1.3 billion consumer class in Africa. And that's a market where the labor will come from and where consumer spending will grow exponentially over the next 30 years. And for people who ignore Africa, like business in the United States, this will prove to be detrimental. If you wait till 2030 or 2035 to get in the game, you will be left behind, and the United States risks becoming a second-rate economic power on the planet, geopolitical player. So I'm concerned about that, and I'm trying to encourage U.S. business to get involved in Africa and also trying to help Africans be prosperous. We can both profit from this. It's not a one side wins and a zero-sum game. A rising tide will lift all boats. That is a true statement, and that's what I'm hoping to do in Africa. That's what I'm trying to accomplish. Fine. Okay, so what I miss here? So Alicia said, awesome to discuss Bianca. It's pathetic. Your teenage past brought up when you're being Yeah, it's ludicrous. It's absolutely ludicrous, and it's just wrong. And also, it's disingenuous because I mean, I saw some of the tweets that are attributed to this girl in Willem Petzer's video that he did on it. And before Willem even said it, I'm thinking, she's 12, 13 years old. She's trying to be gangster. She's trying to be hood-like. And this is what people say. So you can be black and run around and use that crass, foul language to fit in. And they allow white kids to say it when they're kids, but then it's brought back on them later on, but not on the black kids. Nobody should be using those terms. They're offensive terms. It's bad form, but kids will be kids, and it wasn't done in a malicious manner. The one things I saw. Now maybe there were malicious things she did. I don't know. But even if she did malicious things, it's a 12-year-old kid. You ever watch Mean Girls, the movie? 12-year-old kids are not exactly fully developed. Their brain is still growing, and they're learning how to make mistakes and not make mistakes. So calling her a racist, I think, was just shameful without any evidence of it, and for something that happened so long ago. But the internet is forever, ladies and gentlemen. What we say and what we do will be there. After the cockroaches survive the nuclear meltdown, the videos will survive, the online tweets and posts will survive, and your emails will be subject to discovery by future governments. So you have to be careful about what you say. That's one of the reasons why I don't like to use a lot of profanity on my channel. I'd like it that someone could show their kids if they want to learn something about Africa and about the world and about rational thinking, critical thinking, and being informed instead of simply being a serf. And so kids can show most of my or parents can show most of my videos to kids who are trying to learn things. I'm not talking about 6-year-olds. I'm talking about young adults. Anyway, so that's you want to be proud of what you leave behind, the record you leave behind. At least most of us do. Some people like the bombastic stuff. Now that doesn't mean I don't get excited and I don't go on rants. Of course I do that, but I'm just trying to you got to express yourself sometimes, and you also got to be entertaining sometimes. Yeah, should have been a discussion point. Lots of online specials on Memorial Day. Yep, absolutely. Is that a question or a statement? I'm not sure whether it was which, but I suspect there will be a lot of stuff. There's a lot of sales. Usually Memorial Day is one of the big sales. We have electronics and home white goods and things like that. White goods being appliances. And they're called white goods, not because they were made for white people, but because the containers were made out of white, usually. Washers and dryers are white. Now you have them in beige, you have them in black, you have them in different colors. But for the longest time, they were called white goods. Anyway, anytime is bride time, Mr. Madden. I agree. Slow steam go. When gas here is around 75, 80 cents a liter in Alberta. Okay, 75, 80 cents Canadian. That's like 2 cents US, right, Tony? It's funny because the Canadian dollar actually briefly surpassed the value of the dollar for the first time in recent history, a few years back during the Obama years, of course. But the things are back in the right order now, inverted back where the US dollar is stronger than the Canadian dollar. So, yeah, 75, 80 cents a liter. Of course, the Canadians are on the metric system, even though they're in North America. They're confused. So 75, 80 cents a liter. What's that? Nearly 4 liters to the gallon. So that's $3 a gallon. By contrast, Tony, I'm paying about $1.73 a gallon right now. It's about half what you're paying in Canada, if I've done the math right. That's just rough math. I've never been accused of being a particle physicist. Hank, I'm not a bore, but an Afrikaner. Well, absolutely. You don't have to be but some Afrikaners are bores. Yep. And yeah. Okay, I'll leave it at that. The Boer and Afrikaner fought each other in the Anglo-Boer War. The Afrikaners sided with the English because they were basically forced to because they were annexed. Okay. Oh, Identify as a boer. Ek is ook boerseun. Okay. But Afrikaners became boers, so it's a stuff up. Okay. Hank Boer stays farmer for me. I grew up on a farm. My grandpa was a boer. Well, I was a farmer too, but not a boer. I was a farmer. I was a dairy farmer in high school. Also grew crops, garden crops, tomatoes, potatoes, things like that. But that wasn't for sale. That was just for farm consumption. Made butter, milked cows, had Jerseys, Guernseys, and Holstein, and had horses, chickens, ducks, turkeys, rabbits, yeah, all that stuff. Farm of the Transvaal. Okay, cool. You're too interesting. I have to go sleep. Okay, yeah, are you gonna go sleep? Yeah, it's getting late. Farm in the north of the Transvaal, Lightenberg, Potgieter. Oh, no, oh, you guys are having fun here. Makopana. Naboomsproot. Canadian dollar still cheaper. Yep. Are you South African, MJ? Well, thank you. I'm guessing that's a compliment. You think I'm South African. Well, the accent, I'm not South African, but no, I'm not South African. I'm American born, and my ancestors have been here since 1621. Yep. And the last one came in 1849, a German who left after the revolution in 1848 in Europe to avoid being part of Prussia, came to Baltimore. Later worked for the Knabe Piano Company, Knabe being German word for boy, but that was a big piano company for a long time in the U.S. and made pianos. Yeah, but so my first ancestor came here to Jamestown Colony, Virginia in 1621, and we've been here ever since. But no, not South African, but thank you for asking. Okay. And one day our descendants will be able to read our social media writings. I try to make it something. Yeah, not embarrassing. That's good, KHM. That's a good point. And even not just your descendants, your progeny now, your kids. If you've got kids, you don't want to leave something behind that's going to embarrass you or not reflect well. So I mean, most people feel that way. Not everyone does, but some people don't care what they say, but they're very short-sighted. Absolutely. Making more coffee to stay awake, Kung Fu Kenny. Stay awake. What time you guys go to bed, man? Where are you at? I mean, it's South Africa. It's 9:42 at night, and you're going to bed. Okay. It's the Gumsy. Bismarck. Can you play? Oh, Lucy, no, I can't play. The only instruments I ever tried to learn as I was in school, I tried to learn percussion and drums, but I couldn't read sheet music. It confused me, and I was not very good at the drums, so I have no musical talent whatsoever. I can't sing. I actually sang quite well. I was a heck of a singer before puberty. I used to sing in the church choir, and I had a very good voice. I'm not boasting. And then puberty hit, and I couldn't sing anymore. I couldn't hit the deep bass. I couldn't hit the high notes that I used to hit before puberty, and so I couldn't sing. But I love singing, and I try to do it when no one's around, and I don't frighten rodents away. Well, I'd like to frighten rodents away, but I cannot play piano. I can't play any instrument. So I'm always very impressed by people who have those skills and that ability, and I'm really amazed by people who can sing and can play instruments at the same time too. That's just really something else. But no, I don't have any of those skills. Um, Feeling depressed at the moment, think in the long run. I hope you're not depressed, William. No, don't be depressed, man. This too shall pass. Um, yeah, all of this. The ANC's nonsense, Governor Wolf's nonsense in Pennsylvania, nonsense around the world from the state authorities. This too shall pass, and COVID-19 will pass in one way or another. It can't. We can't, as a species, continue in this fashion. We will simply fall apart. Mental health, physical health, food supply, the supply chain for everything will simply collapse, and we can't survive. Not 9 billion of us. Now, if COVID-19 was here and there were less than a billion of us, we could persist. But we can't keep up at this pace. It will change one way or another. So hang in there. Hang in there. Alicia says, say this to us, SA people watching your stream. Now, the problem with that, is I never pronounced that properly. I can say, yeah, it's legend. I got that. But let me try it. Hule is wunderlich. Hule is wunderlich. How close is that, Alicia? Wunderlich, I'm sure. Yeah, because it's very close to German. Wunderlich. Wunderlich is German. So that is out there, everyone. Hule is wunderlich. MJ, saw you for the first time last night, and great respect for you. Well, thank you, MJ. I hope you subscribe to the channel. Speaking of which, if you're not subscribed to the channel, smash that subscription button down there. It's free. It's kostenlos, gratis, as we say in Latin. You can get it for free. You can watch my live streams like this Stray Voltage live stream, my prepared videos, and my regularly scheduled Saturday live stream. But this week, a special feature live stream tomorrow, 6 p.m. in South Africa and Botswana, 5 p.m. in Abuja, London, and 11 no, noon noon in the United States. Willem Petzer will be on I'll be on his program 6 p.m. and then at 8 p.m. So 1400 here, 2000 in South Africa, and 1900 in Abuja in London, I will be on my channel with Willem Petzer. So tune into his channel at 6 p.m. in South Africa and 8 p.m. on my channel. And we'll be doing a special feature on my channel where I'll be interviewing Willem Petzer. So I'm looking forward. Christoph, there he is. You count for 3 viewers. Well, with all the comments you made, Christoph, yeah, if I had Stary Stumpy or whatever the heck, it would be a Stumpy currency on mine, which I'm not doing anytime soon. I don't think I'll ever do that. You'd have a lot of Stumpies added up there. Anyway, so yeah, well, welcome, Christoph. Good to see you here. Okay, so let me get back. Oh, Tony's got an interesting story here I'm going to get to in a second. So, Alicia, I don't know if you're responding yet. Viewers climbing in. Yeah, people coming back in. See, every time I try to leave, Mr. Madden, I know that's my secret. I know that now. So, Slut Steam Comp, I'm going to, if it bothers you, just let me know. Tony says, my dad threw Molotov cocktails at Russian tanks in Budapest in 1956. Awesome. Take the communists out. Russians then looked for him. He escaped on a ship from Italy to South Africa. His brother caught. Ah, man. So your uncle was in the gulag. I'm so sorry to hear that, Tony. That's sad. But I'm happy for your dad to stand up to the Russians and communism. We must stand up to communism. It's a broken ideology. Karl Marx was an idiot. Yeah, I know. He's an intellectual. He's an idiot. I lived in the town where he got married at in Bad Kreuznach, Germany. That's where he was married. I visited the church where Karl Marx married his wife. His ideas were based on fantasies in my book. A lot of people dispute that, but I've read Karl Marx and Das Kapital, and I've fought communism for better part of 4 decades, and I've seen the effects it has on people and where they live. It's true communism will never be implemented in the fashion that Marx intended it, and never in the place where he intended it. He was looking at a world, and he falsely attributed ills to capitalism that were tied to governance, not to capitalism. True capitalism doesn't exploit people in the fashion that Marx claimed it did. It doesn't exploit the proletariat. It does not. Everyone has an equal chance under true capitalism. But the distortions take place by governments distorting capitalist markets and systems gives capitalism a bad name in the minds of leftists like Karl Marx. Anyway, yeah, so I've been to the church where he was married. Trivia there. Yeah, I'm sorry about your uncle there, Tony. That's a shame. But that explains how there's a Hungarian in South Africa. Well, good for him getting out. Yeah, a lot of people don't know. A lot of Hungarians got out in 56. They managed to get across the border into either Austria or other parts of Europe and Germany. Make their way overland to Germany and also other places. They got out. Hungary was hard to get out of because it's isolated. You know, it's right there. There's not really much around it they can get out to. So East Germany was a little bit easier until they put the wall up and border fences. You could escape from Berlin and East Germany, but or Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia. But getting out of Hungary was a challenge in '56. Yeah, I know the Soviets driving their tanks through there, and what they did to the government, murdering people is just, gosh, horrible. Totalitarians. Oh, Lucy, that's very kind. It's okay. You have many other talents, I'm sure. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. Tony says, civilization era, 250 years, rules changing again now as like all others in the past. Beware the Panda era. Okay, Tony. I was close. Okay, that's because I got the hula wrong, right? Hula, that's not the correct pronunciation. I'm sure I got Wunderlich right. Lecker, Christoph. Tomorrow's discussion will be interesting. Yeah, I think it should, Christoph. It should be a lot of fun. You just woke up. Okay, cool. Let's see. Get back to where we were. Level 4 essential players need to go to bed. Gotcha. What are you chatting to Willem Petzer about? Well, I mentioned that Lucy maybe just popped on. It's going to be an interview, but I will be bringing up the issue of Bianca because you did a video on that, and also going to talk about the government's arresting and harassing people who are providing charitable donations and humanitarian assistance to those in need in South Africa, and why the government is trying to make it so that only assistance from the government comes out to people who are in need. So we're going to talk about that, but it'll be mostly an interview for Willem. If you don't know a lot about him, I don't know a lot about him. I know some about him. I know his videos since he's been doing them. And so we're going to have him on, and we're going to talk about those things. So it should be interesting. So please tune in for that tomorrow. Okay, so what effect do you think the Second Amendment USA style would have on South Africa? the right to keep and bear arms. Well, I mean, South Africans had arms, and then the ANC has gone out of their way to try to disarm South Africans by passing legislation that forced you to require it in a certain fashion and then not bothering to put the farms at the places where you're supposed to go and register your weapons, thereby making it impossible for law-abiding South Africans to remain law-abiding South Africans and criminalizing their possession of firearms. Yeah. Well, I think South Africa ought to have a Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. Yep. The problem with these things, folks, is that when they take weapons away from us, the criminals still get them. Criminals still get weapons. They still have guns. They always get guns. They'll always be able to get guns. And if they don't have guns, they'll use knives. Look at London. The number of people stabbed to death because their idiotic mayor in London has banned all kinds of things, and they bans knives. Then they'll just use rope to kill people, or they'll throw people from the top of a bridge. The criminals will always find a way to use weapons, and they'll find weapons, whether it's a gun or it's a knife or it's whatever it is. They will find a way. A gun gives a law-abiding citizen who's trained in the proper use and storage of it and treats it as what it is, a dangerous tool, gives them a chance to defend themselves and their family. And it's also a fantastic sporting tool to do sporting events, and also is necessary for hunting, which is a part of human experience, being hunters, hunter-gatherers. That's where we came from. That's our origins, and that is embedded in our DNA. You know that feeling you get when something's not right and the hair on the back of your neck rises? You don't know why? That is handed down through our DNA. That's genetic. That's imprinted in us. We survived against saber-toothed cats because we had that hesitation. We see something that doesn't look right, or we feel something isn't right. That is our better judgment telling us. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so Second Amendment. I think you should have one in South Africa. I think it's a good idea. Communism is a thought experiment. Communism is, yeah, it's bad. All right. Uncle Joseph survived, but it was never the same man. Met him in Ottawa in 78, a broken man. Yeah, I'm sure, Tony. So the Soviets, despicable human beings, that system is, people have no idea. These idiots like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and these others like Tlaib who run around this country and profess socialism and make all these stories up and claim America's this, that, and the other. It drives me absolutely bonkers. It's insane. So in Romania, the Soviets came in and they occupied Romania, even though it had switched sides. And in the German portion of Romania, which is Transylvania primarily, but also the Banat, which is another region, there were, in 1918, of 11 million people living in Romania, or 10 million plus, over a million ethnic Germans of all sorts and Austrians, German speakers, living in Romania. At the end of the Second World War, the Soviets sent about 150,000 of those people, just grabbed them, not former soldiers. None of them had served in the Romanian forces, and some had served in the Wehrmacht or the SS because they enlisted because they spoke German. And a lot of those were prisoners and were taken to Gulag as prisoners, and many died. But they just took people off the streets who were ethnic Germans and Hungarians and Gypsies, Savoyner, the Romani people, and shipped them en masse to the Gulags and shipped them as slave labor to rebuild their factories in the Soviet Union. They took millions of people from Eastern Europe who had nothing to do with the conflict, who were not anyone who did anything against the Soviet Union, and enslaved them for 10 years or longer. Many of these people never returned. They did the same thing in the Baltics, in Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. They took the intelligentsia, if they didn't murder them in the 30s, they took the intelligentsia when they recaptured the Baltic states, and they did murder them then or ship them off to the Gulag. And we were complicit in this. The United States and its allies in the Second World War, at the end of the war, in Yalta, or was it Yalta or was in Tehran? One of those conferences, I think it was Yalta, but one of the two. We agreed with the Soviets that people would be sent back to their origin. The problem with that is that people came from origins in which they were in countries that were oppressed and subjugated to other powers like the Soviet Union. So what happened is that a number of Estonians who fought for the Allies in the West, who had escaped when the Soviets had invaded their country in 1939, 1940, that time. A lot of them escaped to Western Europe and other places, and many of them fought for the Allies during the war and then went back to Estonia, and they were repatriated because they were Estonian nationals, and they were shot or taken to the gulags right away. Thousands and thousands of people. Yeah, no, it's just the story goes on and on and on and on and on. It's just it's horrible what the Soviets did, what they represented, what they stood for. And it's what happens when a state becomes all powerful. The state governs at the consent of the governed. That's how it's supposed to work. We create a polity. There were no governments when cavemen were walking around, bonking each other in the head, snatching a mate. You're coming with me, and reproducing and creating communities and traveling in bands together as hunter gatherers. There were no governments. No one made laws. But then at some point, particularly after agriculture came into the scheme, we had agriculture, cultivation. But even before that, at some point, we decided that there's enough of us that someone needs to represent us. So we became a polity, a body politic, and we created governments of one sort or another, whether it was a monarchy, an empire, a republic, whatever it was. We created some sort of polity. And those polities were created by human beings. Now, the people who live in a polity today may not have created it, they were born into it, but they represent it and it represents them. But the people who run the world don't see things that way. So there you have it. It gets a little frustrating and confusing for a lot of folks. But anyway, that's kind of my take on it. I hope that that doesn't leave people too bored or confused. Yeah, the law abiding are disarmed. Yep. Yep. Apparently, that was contested today. They've allowed all charities to deliver food to the hungry again. Are you serious, Lucy? That's fantastic. I'll have to do some research on that, and maybe tonight I'll make a video premiere early in the morning and comment on that if that in fact is the case. I'll make a note of that. That's why I have my whiteboards here, so I can make a note. And this charities, okay, NSA, okay, that's good. Now the question is now, will they drop the charges of court case against all the South Africans that they've turned into criminals and fingerprinted and photographed and told to come to a court date because they were doing charitable donations? Don't count on it, and that's sad. Fight or flight response, exactly right. That's what I was talking about earlier. Bush says, do you think that the Bianca debacle could have been a possible distraction from the anniversary of the 20 May 1830? I don't know, Bush. I mean, I think a lot of people have been aware of that happened. There's so many anniversaries of dates and events that have taken place that, except for the really major ones, I don't know. I think that this is just part of a standard orchestrated campaign to undermine the legitimacy of white South Africans to be South African. I think that's honestly part of it. Whether it's orchestrated and controlled by politicians or just done by their fellow travelers who do things they think is in the benefit of a particular party or parties, I don't know, and I can't state categorically. But someone going through someone's Twitter messages from 7 years ago when they were a minor, and that person apparently produced 1,000 Twitter messages a year. So for 7 years, so you looked at 7,000 messages trying to find things to prove a point. Seems really odd, and it's questionable. Um, I can tell you this now, Colonel. My uncle Charles Carly was one decision maker to change the Hungarian currency after paying off the war to the Soviets from paying it to foreign. Oh, the foreign, I know. Cool. It says more here, but I can't read it all. Yeah, they better drop the charges, Lucy. They also better drop the charges against a couple they harassed on the beach in the Western Cape when the toddler was screaming and the mother started breastfeeding it, and they arrested them for not maintaining social distance. And then the charge was sitting on the beach. This needs to go away. As the gentleman who was interviewed in that little Northern Cape or Western Cape seaside village, who was arrested for being on the beach by the police and drug off to a police station where he spent 7 hours and now turned into a criminal. He's an architect or something like that. And, you know, with a criminal record, you may not be able to travel abroad. So they're defrauding of your rights when you're a law-abiding citizen. Here's the problem. The government of the day, which is the ANC for much of South Africa, except in the Western Province and in a couple of metropolitan areas still, Tshwane and Cape Town. Aside from that, it's the ANC. The government of the day is abusing citizens of all stripes, all races, all colors, all creeds, all ages. And they will pamperize the ballot box if you turn my brother, sister, mother, aunt, uncle, nephew, son, neighbor, who I know follows the law, into a criminal simply for doing normal human behavior. You're not going to get my vote. And this isn't 1985 Soweto when only white South Africans, well, 85 is about 76 Soweto when only white South Africans could vote. And you only had to worry about convincing white South Africans to vote for you. You have to convince all South Africans to vote for you today. And if you abuse people, you're going to suffer at the ballot box. Right. Okay. Let's see. Soviets round up most hung Prime Minister Nagy in the street. Yeah, on a light pole. Yep. Yeah, absolutely right. Maybe a question for tomorrow's show, but what will the actions be from other countries in or the UN if things go south in the NSA? Well, it's a good question, Christoph. We could probably talk about that later. Yeah, let's do that later. It depends on the nature of it, I think. What's really going to happen if such a thing were to happen? Look at the world and how little it did in Zimbabwe. And again, I was actually asked by Roman and Jonathan. I think it was Jonathan asked me the question on the stream yesterday on their program, Renegade Report. They asked me about or no, I think it was someone in the chat asked a question whether I thought it was a good idea for the world to intervene militarily in Zimbabwe, and I disagreed. And so I guess people were wondering, well, what was the solution? Well, I told people the solution in Zimbabwe was you simply had to fly a plane in from America with a pallet load of cash with $3 billion or so, and that'd be the end of it. The problem with the farm invasions is that ZANU-PF officials ran out of things to steal and ran out of ways to spread money around to keep people satisfied so they would vote for them. And that's why the farm invasions, that's a simplified explanation. It's much deeper, and we can have a long discussion about farm invasions in Zimbabwe if you'd like. I'd be happy to do that. But the bottom line is if we had brought $3 billion in, dropped the pallet loads off, here you go, Robert Gabriel Mugabe. This is for you and the other thieves in ZANU-PF. Extend the size of your blue mansion up here, $160 million home while people starve in the streets. Just don't steal people's property and respect the rule of law. Then they would have. Now it's going to take a lot more than $3 billion to do the same thing in South Africa. So that's not a solution. But that was one of my solutions. And I'm serious about that. I'm serious. We could have paid off the corrupt politicians in ZANU-PF and still be doing it every year, and it would be far less expensive. And the tragedy that unfolded in Zimbabwe wouldn't have unfolded. Wouldn't have been a long-term solution, but it certainly would have worked, and we wouldn't have seen the farm invasions in 2000 like we did. Right. Glock. Looting coup down in South Africa for a long time before things calmed down. Well, that's probably true, folks. Hey, listen, I'm really glad that people tuned in today. I didn't have any intent to go this long on the stream. It's been a lot of fun. I hope you guys have been enjoying it, and it's kept you occupied, and you've had something interesting to do. But anyway, it's been a lot of fun for me. I really enjoy it. A reminder for tomorrow, of course, I mentioned several times now, Willem Petzer will be on my program at 8 p.m. South Africa time. That'll be 1400 East Coast of the U.S. And so 1900 in Abuja in London for those paying attention from that part of the world. And then on Saturday, again, we have Herman Roos on my program at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 1700 in Southern Africa, and 1600 in Abuja and London. Yeah, so those are my upcoming streams. Next Saturday, the following Saturday, I probably have Comey Clue on, a Ghanaian American economist. We'll talk about debt in Africa. Should be a good topic. And that's what we got coming up in the program. I'll do a video on the charities thing if I can find that information. I think it was Lucy that pointed it out. Thanks. Cape Succession, Gershon Cooks, thanks for popping in there. I'm not going to talk about that now, but pop on another stream and we will talk about it. I'm really deep into this one, guys. For those who just come on or haven't been here, I've been on for nearly 4 hours. That's a lot of energy. And I'd like to think that people have been informed and entertained the whole way. So we've actually grown in the audience back up to a larger size in the last 40 minutes or so. So thank you all for coming in. Yeah, I'll probably do a video on the charities if I can find the data on that. Check out my Taiwan video. It's not Africa, but does affect Africa because the World Health Organization and the World Health Assembly are ignoring lessons learned and experience gained by the Taiwanese government and excluding them from the conversation. So please check in on that. Thanks everybody for tuning in. It's been a lot of fun. As we approach 4 hours, I'm not going to try to go to 4 hours even. I've managed to have the stream go the whole time, which is impressive for me. I didn't get cut off. I'm very happy about that. So thank you all for tuning in. Tony, great to know you're up in Alberta. If I get up that way, I was supposed to go to Vancouver for the Sevens tournament. Had to cancel at the last minute. Lost my ticket money and my Canucks money because I was going to 2 Canucks games. I was going to the Sevens tournament. So I'm disappointed. But anyway, I love Canada. Great place. You guys, should add intermissions in these long shows. We take a popcorn break, Christoph. Yeah. Or what I can do is just play a video, put my microphone on mute and play a video for 10 minutes or so and take a potty break. Anyway, well, folks, thanks for tuning in. It's been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. We'll catch you tomorrow on the stream and pay attention in case I have any videos coming out. And thank you all for your input. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. If you want to leave a comment on the video, please do so, positive or negative. I'll answer it if I can. If it's abusive, we'll just laugh about it because you've shown your backside. And give me a like. Smash the like button, guys. I really appreciate it. Thanks. Anyway, appreciate all the Canucks. Flames. Now, I am a Vegas Golden Knights fan, and then also a Columbus Blue Jackets fan, and then the Colorado Avalanche, who used to be the Quebec Nordiques. So that's my 3 teams in that order. Right. Mully says because most of the ANC voter base are rural, they're deliberately poor, educated, kept poor, middle class are starting to wake up. Yeah, well, it might be sooner than a decade, Molly. We'll see. 2021, I think they're going to lose some metros. We'll see what happens, but it's up to South African voters and getting the millions of voters who haven't voted and the 4.5 million who are 18 years old, that cohort each year for that 5 year period, getting them to vote for your party. Anyway, with that, folks, I'm going to close it off. Thanks for tuning in, and we will catch you next time. This has been an Indaba Africa production. This is Chris coming to you from Central Pennsylvania, talking about a lot about South Africa today, but about the world in general. Thanks for tuning in, folks, and we'll catch you next time on my stream. Have a pleasant evening in Southern Africa and Europe, a pleasant tomorrow already in New Zealand, and folks here in America, enjoy your evening. Thanks a lot, folks. Denver Broncos, only when Peyton Manning was there.